Alright, hello and welcome back to the Divine Deception. Loading the game real quick. Alright, yeah, it looks like we've made progress on just about everyone here. Now, the gun I'm going to be saving because it seems he's tied to the detective's role here. We're going to follow a gambler since we're going to learn a bit about the person. We're now going to be learning a bit more about the person who's running against the current governor, the one who's been practically unopposed for so long. Expected value. There he was, sitting by himself in a bar with an underground casino. Bach Underwood was nursing a drink by himself. It was an odd look, most certainly. Most wouldn't picture a political candidate spending their night in a place like this. If a picture of him in this area got out, it'd probably be a very minor scandal. Thankfully, Kane already left, I guess. Most would wonder why Bach was slumming it up in places like this. But I understood the impulse. I understood a lot about Bach Underwood. I always made sure to do my research. He was a Pantheon local, a man of the people. Up until this election, he had a managerial job at Olimpo. No significant other, no close family, no real aspirations, no particular talents. His years were passing him by without him even noticing. Had things continue in that direction, he was likely to live a completely unremarkable life and eventually die by himself. Until one day, for no apparent reason, he seemed to have enough. He decided, what the hell, I should run for governor. It was a surprising move to be sure. Even more surprising was the fact it partially worked. I mean, somehow he won the primaries. As it turned out, the man had a decent enough head on him after all, and more of a talent for public speaking than even he had known himself. He had been angling this election as an anti-Ija election, probably the smartest move to take, and had carried him this far. Yeah, as I just mentioned, since Governor Ija has been leading the town for quite, well, more of a city really, but since she's been leaving Panthea for quite some time, it seems she's just an accepted part of the area, so the fact someone rises up against her, the fact no one either never tried or never had a shot means, yeah, going on the offensive is pretty much what he has to do, because he has to exploit any sort of weaknesses she has. Any of his merits will just get lost, because she already has such a huge pedigree behind her, not just in her experience, years of service, but also in her various connections she's built over the years, so... Well, going for the populists themselves seemed like a smart enough idea. However, the election was turning from a far-off hypothetical to looming reality, and despite his best efforts, it didn't look like things were going to be working out for him. What I could tell, the man was starting to fall into a minor depression. He really did put his everything in this election. Lost a job because of it. Lost his job because of it. Now it looked like it was all for naught, too. His one real shot at something, and he'd be unable to grasp it with his own hands. Probably sent him spiraling. Probably sent him to a familiar place. A place like this where he used to frequent after long, stressful days. Probably made him vulnerable, which worked for me. Yeah, our protagonist here is a bit of a gambler and a swindler, so... I began walking up to the bar where he sat. I took a seat next to him, however I didn't immediately jump into conversation. This had to be practiced. I nonchalantly placed my order with the bartender. Then I caught a look of him in the corner of my eye. I looked pensive for a second. Now I could turn over to him. Hey, you wouldn't happen to be Bach, would you? Bach Underwood. Seems you're familiar. Oh, cool. I'm actually a fan. I mean, maybe fan's the wrong word. Supporter, I guess? Oh, is that so? Well, that means a lot to hear. After all, I'd be nothing without people like you. I don't know about that. I feigned sheepishness. What is your name, young man? Me? I'm Locke. Locke. Just Locke is fine. Locke it is, then. Locke held out his hand and I grabbed it and gave a nice handshake. The man had a surprisingly firm grip. Did he practice shaking people's hands? I'm surprised I didn't recognize you sooner. But with the lighting and all, it can be a little hard to make people out. Although in your case, you should see that as something of a blessing. It means you won't have to look at this old mug too closely while drinking. I gave the man's poor attempt at a joke a healthy laugh. Establishing rapport early on was critical. You know, I have to say, I'm surprised to see you in a place like this. I mean, no offense or anything, I just thought you'd be bigger than hanging out in a pit like this. Oh, none taken. Oh, I'll say you, baby. This place is literally a pit. What do you mean by slumming it? That's, you know, you weren't the one to ask a question, you know. Bach gave a little chuckle at the exchange. I actually used to spend quite a bit of time down here before I became a politician. No kidding. Yeah, Bach here was a pretty regular customer. I like his type. Tipped well. didn't stir trouble. That's why it's such a shame when I saw Bach enter the race, because that means he'd be spending less time down here. Because I didn't want to watch him crushed. To this, Bach gave out a sad little chuckle. His eyes betrayed his attempt at mirth. How rude, also. Have a little faith. Also just grunted and returned to his job of cleaning glasses. Still, even if you used to go to a place like this a lot, I'm surprised you're still down here now. Don't you figure it could be some bad press for your account caught entering a place like this? Is it? The way Bach said it almost sounded like he hadn't thought about that angle. Ah, well, I am to be man of the people, Locke. Now, if Governor Ijo was seen down here, that'd be one thing. It'd go against the people's perception of her, but there's nothing inconsistent with a guy like me spending time here. It's consistent with my brand. I guess didn't think about it that way. Pretty smart, pretty smart. Guess you'd have to be. Just run a campaign and all. Bach didn't say much of this, just took a sip of his drink. I followed his lead and drank some more from my glass. It's still too soon to make any moves. We had just gotten past the very first basic introductions. Quite a bit more ice needed to be broke before I pushed ahead. Well, that's fine. I could do small talk for as long as it took. Man, it's a crazy world out there today. Did you hear about this murder in the woods? Scary stuff. I did hear about that. I did hear about that story. Can't say I'm too sympathetic, though. Really? Bach looked surprised this. Well, from what I heard, the victims were super elite, wealthy assholes. When I hear news of people like that, my first instinct is pop open a beer instead of mourning. I don't know if I can agree with that. Sure, I can understand the resentment you have towards those sorts. In fact, I'd say that's completely natural, but still, when somebody dies, when anyone is, I think you owe some respect. Ultimately, it is still a person at the end of the day. No, don't get me wrong, I'm perfectly aware it's the morally correct response would be to respectfully wish the dead well. I never said I just have to say... I never see what I just said to say, the victim's grieving relative or something, but hey, can't help what I feel, you know? Bach nodded sagely at this. Now that is very true. As long as you're aware not to express such sentiments to the grieving, then I think that is perfectly fine. Maybe this is slightly blasphemous, but I don't think it makes much of a difference to the dead whether you mourn or celebrate their passing. Exactly, you get it. Whereas I did hear about those murders in a completely different context. Oh. I mean, the murders happened at the night of the gala for Governor Ija, a gala meant to help her fundraising for a political campaign that I was her rival for. You saw there. Hold on, you think some people seriously think you had anything to do with those deaths? Well, not me personally. Thankfully, I was publicly accounted for during the time of the murders, but you know how gossipers get. The idea that somehow I was connected to the incident is just too enticing. That's crazy. It's understandable. Everybody loves a good political thriller, huh? That's why you're playing this game, after all. It's just much more a fun explanation than the likely dull answer. At any rate, I'm pretty sure very few people legitimately believe that conspiracy nonsense. Though those few have been awfully vocal towards me. Oh sheesh, that's gotta be really tough. Part of the hassle that comes with running a political campaign. Yeah, I guess. At any rate, if I did that to try and help my political campaign, it certainly would have backfired. Frankly, I think the publicity of that event has garnered outweighs the potential donations you might have received from those two. Bach sighed and went back to drinking. Alright, now we'd talked for a while. Time to start steering the conversation in the right direction. Let's talk about something a little lighter. This place, for instance. Noise Nest. What about it? Ever try gambling here? Huh. I mean, if you're looking for a bar, there's plenty more convenient spots. You go to Noise Nest to gamble. Oh, not always. You saying you never gambled here? Oh, I never said that. Back in the day when I was working for Olimpo, I do a bit of gambling every now and then, time to time. I was actually pretty good at it, if you could believe that. You don't say. Gambling can be enjoyable as long as you know how to limit yourself, but you do have to be very careful. Not everyone has that ability. I mean, the people who spend far too much on gacha games are definitely proof of that. So yeah, you need to be very responsible for that sort of thing. And I'm not just saying that because my understanding is I have to for the sake of the algorithm whenever gambling is heavily involved. No, seriously, I played with my bonuses and usually got a decent cut for my troubles. Hope that I can handle my alcohol better than most of the drunks here as well. I'm not like a genius or anything, but I like to think of myself as at least decent with numbers. I used to do statistical risk analysis for Olimpo. Okay, yeah, that would make him good at gambling. That's basically a form of gambling in and of itself. I wouldn't have expected that from you. Should I take that as a slight? No, not at all. Man, Bach Underwood gambling? That's a sight. Oh, trust me, it was very average. Why not prove it for me, huh? I mean, right a place for gambling, why not indulge a little in the old sins? Oh, that's... I shouldn't. No, I really shouldn't. I came here to relive the old days, not my old vices. I think there's a distinction between a politician drinking in an underground casino and actually gambling in one. Oh, I thought you were a real man of the people. A man of the people has its limits. I suppose. I feel like I'm losing interest in the topic. Can take another sip of beer. I don't know, I just thought it'd be fun to gamble against a guy like you. Ah, well... Bach floundered for words. Of course he did. I threw out a comment without an elegant response. Sure, not willing to change your mind? I mean, I'm just not in the mood for it. Not in the mood to make a bit of cash. Fox eyes lit up. I'd be willing to put down some serious coin for a private gamble. You might be a hotshot politician, but couldn't hurt to get some extra moolah. But there's the rub. I also have a chance of losing some serious coin, as you put it. True enough. Okay, then we can even the playing field. I will pay twice whatever I lose. Oh, seriously? I mean, it only seems fair. I mean, I want to play straight with you. I'm something of a gambler myself. If you take me up on the offer, ideally like to play a custom gamble I played 2 or 3 times, and I suspect you've never played. That gives me an edge, and that edge should be balanced out. Of course, considering how luck-based the game is, paying twice as much seems excessive, but it's a clean number, and I'm the one asking, so let's just call it that. Bit of a risky play. Being this generous with my offer should have been a sure tip-off to anyone savvy enough not to accept my deal. But the read I was getting on this guy told me that unless I sweetened the pot, he wouldn't bite. And my research on Bach was that he wasn't as savvy as he liked to make himself out to be. Despite this, he still hesitated, taking another long sip of his drink. Still feeling sheepish, huh? Alright, how about this? I put an arm on the shoulders and leaned tightly. I spoke at a slightly quieter volume, but in a noticeable extent. If by some chance you end up owing more than you have on yourself right now, we'll just call it that. More than what you have on you right now as a result of the bet, we'll just call it that. Begin to hesitate. I pretend to recoil back. You're kidding me. Are you saying that Bach Underwood can't afford to spend what's in his wallet? My friend, how strapped for cash are you? Now, hold on. Don't put words in my mouth. I held back a smirk. There, I had him from all sides. Psychologically, he was incentivized to accept the gamble for a number of reasons. I'd led with pushing nostalgia, which made him genuinely want to relive the gamble experience. Then I threw out I thought it'd be fun, so he had the pressure of not wanting to let a fan down. Paying double appealed to his inherent greed, and the only what you have on you appealed to Bach's nervous, loss-avoidance-prone sensibilities. To top it all off with my last statement, refusing the gamble to make it look like he was admitting he couldn't afford to spend what was in his wallet. That challenge was a challenge to his pride. All these factors combined should push Bach to accept this deal his smarter side knew that he shouldn't take. That's why building up the rapport and the character of this Bach fan was so important before I began. It was only because of that, and the second and last factor actually mattered, and it was because of that I was able to believably present the first factor, and the fourth seemed credible. So yeah, by making himself out to fan, it's not just a matter of Bach being pride in himself. He also felt that he'd be letting someone down if he didn't at least offer what he had on him at the time. You know what? What the hell? The night's young. Let's have some good old fun. That's the spirit. Trust me, this is gonna be a blast. 2 of us finished our drinks and got up from the bar. So you mentioned you had gamble in mind. Right, I did say that. Let's go over a private table and we can get things started. I walked right over the table where I just gambled with Kane. Standing on the other side, I noticed Bach already beginning to sweat a little bit. Feeling nervous? A little bit, I must admit. It's been a while since I had some earnest gambling. Thought you said you were a pro. I said I made a bit of cash. Big difference between the two. Look, just relax. This is gonna be a friendly game for the sake of competition. If you want, we can take out the gambling element entirely. No, keep the gambling in. Yeah, he should have absolutely taken that out. A game with no stakes. Don't even have to keep score, just fun for the sake of fun. That would prove that, from Bach's point of view, that would have been good for proving that it was just to relive his fun and not a matter of anything other than a fun nostalgic trip. With a fun nostalgic trip with a fan and not necessarily trying to earn something. The game only counts if there's something on the line. There, that's the gambling spirit I love to see. Yosa, I called over the casino owner. Come over here to officiate. I'm tending bar. Get one of the casino dealers to officiate. That's what they're paid for. Oh, come on, nobody's there now. Fine. I suspect also gave in only because he knew I'd pester him more if he didn't. Do we really need an officiator for a friendly game? Not really, I just like an audience, and also needs a break. This is the only way he's gonna give himself one. Oh, how thoughtful of you. How bullshit, more like. This guy was seriously taking all this bait. What a rube. Oh my. Harsh, but yeah, I guess it's impossible to tell what's going on in his mind. I guess it could be that Bach just likes to think best of people, which it's not inherently a bad thing, but if you're not paying close attention, people could very much take advantage of that. Although I guess to be fair, our protagonist, Locke here, is very experienced at swindling people, and that's not something that most people are skilled with in the general sense, mostly, but it also means very few people are going to be experienced enough to be able to handle what he throws out. Generally, the only people who could easily catch on to that are people who have either been swindled enough that they know what to look for, or swindlers themselves, or just do a lot of research on the subject as a third party. Although, obviously, while research by itself is good, that only goes so far compared to hands-on experience, as many will point out. Alright, let it be known the rules are being laid. Love it. Love that ominous shit. Keep it up, Asa. So, the name of the game we're gonna be duking out is called Battle Blackjack. Blackjack. You mean competitive blackjack? Got in one, Bach. That's weird. Blackjack always struck me as more of a single-player game. Well, that's why this is a custom creation. Now it's a two-player. I picked one of the sealed decks one of the private tables had. Then I opened up, slid a number of cards out of it. Afterward, I passed the cards to Bach and let him examine them. We're going to be using a total normal deck, minus the jokers and the clubs suit. Jokers I get, but why remove the clubs? Because the clubs are my least favorite. I actually like clubs, but I mean, why cut a suit at all in the general sense? Trust me, the game takes far too long with all 4 suits. Well, fair enough. Start of the game, we both have to draw out 13 cards from the collective deck. They'll be shuffled first, of course, then we start the first round. Every round, there will be 3 battlefields. I slapped 3 spaces in the center of the table to demonstrate my point. Starting with the person who lost more battles last round, we take turns placing cards face down. Lost more? Bach, buddy, I'm getting there. Don't be one of those people who keeps snipping in halfway through my rule explanation. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep a handle on all these rules. I'll just hear me out, then you can take questions. So yeah, we take turns every round. You either place a card or pass. When you place a card, you can choose any card in your hand, place it face down on any battlefields. When you pass, you're saying you have no more desire to fight on any of the battlefields. Once both players pass back to back, the round enters a war phase. This is when the battlefields are evaluated. The player who placed the last card on the battlefield last card on the battlefield is the one who, quote-unquote, owns it. During the war phase, the cards in each battlefield are turned face up and the points are tallied up using blackjack rules. Number cards worth their value, face cards worth 10, aces worth 1 or 11, whichever helps. If the collective total of the stack is 21 or less, the player who owns the battlefield wins the stack. On the other hand, if the collective total is more, the player who owns the battlefield loses the stack. Alright, I think I'm beginning to see the picture here. It's like a psychological battle. You want to be the last person to play a card on a stack, but you also need to make sure the stack is 21 or below. And now you're getting it. Winner of a stack pushes it to their side of the table. The stacks are kept separate from each other. Each stack counts as a point. Actually, you know what? Let's just define this point. A stack is a vertical pile of cards won in the battle phase that can't be split up or altered in any way. Then both players draw cards up to 13, with the first person who lost more last round drawing first. The deck is not reshuffled at any point. The cards in it are a finite resource. After all, in a battle, careful ammo management's key. As it is in war, so it is in politics. Too true, I guess. Point is, if you're below 13 cards, there's no more cards to draw. Tough luck, you're in the endgame now. The game continues until a round starts and neither player has any more cards to play or draw. At that point, someone should declare the war is over. The moment that happens, game ends and we're in the scoring phase. The person who won the most stacks over the course of the game is, of course, the winner of the gamble. And I let a slight mischievous smile. For every card on the loser's side, once the scoring phase, the loser has to play the winner a white chip. I noticed Bach recoil a little bit. The white chip was the most expensive chip in the noise nest. It's an unorthodox price, not a multiple of 10. But that's just another remnants of Osa's odd whims. The thin black line drawn across the table indicates the specifics of what I mean by the sides comment. White chips. Oh, come on, it's just a little heat. Remember, it's just for every card on your side of the table. Which means the loser, the less stacks you win, the less stacks you have to pay out. And the smaller stacks you win, the less you have to pay out. I suppose a rule like that does make things interesting. Gets the heart of gambling, adding an element of risk reduction for those who wish to play safer. Right, you're certainly catching my drift. Still, are white chips really necessary? And man, just remember, conversations to your benefit. True enough, I suppose. Bach seemed to be having second thoughts at this point. Come on, don't back off. I mean, this time we came this far, just accept it. I guess that all sounds good. Although I have to say, you most certainly are something of an advantage here. You know the rules quite well, why I just barely understand them. Yeah, lucky for you, the game does go on a couple rounds. You'll be able to get in the swing of things for too long. Once you do, it becomes a game of who can read the other person better, and that's not something you can really buy with experience. A lie. Quite right. So that's pretty much all the rules of Battle Blackjack. Do you have any further questions, clarifications, objections of any of that kind? He actually took a second to seriously consider the question. Then he shook his head. No, I think it all tracks. Excellent. So let it be known the rules have been laid out and accepted. I gave a side look to Alsa. Sort of, you got all that? Alsa's unamused expression gave me the response I was looking for. I got all that, alright. The look of it also was wise that I was trying to pull here, but also looked like he wasn't quite close enough to Bach to break precedent and interfere. He'd do his job as an impartial referee, impartial enforcer. Alright, enough pussyfooting around, let's get this party started, huh? Bach, be a pal for me and shuffle the deck of cards in front of you, please. Oh, certainly. Bach did as I asked, giving a fairly basic Hindu shuffle a few times. cut or two. He was at the level of somebody who interacted with cards somewhat frequently, but not nearly enough to be called an expert. Finally, once he mixed up the cards with satisfaction, he put the deck on the middle of the table. You want to draw first, shall I? Oh, you can choose. I don't want you to think I did anything funny with the deck or anything. I didn't until you said something incredibly suspicious like that. I think I'll be drawing first if you don't mind. Sure, go ahead. I reached out and slid 13 cards over the side of my table and began grouping them on a little pile. After I was done, Bach reached over and did the same thing. I picked up my cards and quickly looked through. Ace, 3 face cards, a few low value, is okay enough hand if I was playing legitimately. Indeed, with 2 slight tweaks, the game was one that could be played legitimately, but it wouldn't be tonight. Usually the first person who places the cards lost more of the battlefield the previous round. However, since there hasn't yet been a round, we're kind of in unprecedented territory. Since a newbie like this, I'll let you choose. You want to go for a second? Second. Oh. Why is that? Since the person behind usually gets to make the first move, you'd be inclined to think it was better to move first. However, I think I'd like to be the one reacting to you. That's a unique thought process, but no take-backs. I looked through my cards, selected one, and placed it face down on the far left side of the table. Let's make this the first battlefield of your move. I expected Bach to respond in a reasonable amount of time. However, on the very first move, he went deep into thought chamber. The cautious types are the least fun. What you think about, pal? I'm working through the possibilities. I've never played this game before, so forgive me if I'm a little slow. Considering both players have hands of 13, you have to assume every opponent has more or less every value. You can only rule that out if you had 3 of the same type of card. Cards worth a 10-point value are by far the most common. Place 1 down and I respond in kind. The only way you could win is if I placed an ace. But aces are super useful, and putting it down as the third seems like a risky prospect. After all, if I placed a relatively low-value card instead and you placed an ace, I could place another relatively low-value card and more or less secure it. Therefore, the alternative play, placing an ace down first, is actually a pretty attractive often, if it's not. If I played a 10-value card on top of it, and you placed 10 value on top of that, the battlefield's yours. Worse, even if I didn't place a 10-value card, it's impossible placing your 10 value would ever bust the battlefield to a value above 21. Even if I placed a relatively low-value card, it's difficult for me to put forth a 4th card on the stack, not knowing the first or third. Gambling, winning early rounds nets you momentum. This ace maneuver seems pretty solid, so I think that's what you tried. Hesitantly, Bach placed a card in front of mine. I had to say I was decently surprised. Bach had better analytical skills in him than I gave him credit for. Not good enough, but decent ones. You know, I could hear all that, right? Oh, I know. Oh, some reverse psychology going on? I can dig that, yeah. Personally, I love me some chatty opponents. The chattier, the better. Anyways, I grabbed another card from my hand and placed it in the middle of the table. New battlefield. Bach eyed me with some suspicion of this move. He weighed his options carefully for a full minute. Then nervously, he placed a card on the leftmost battlefield. Yeah, this guy had no idea what I was up to. Now, it'd actually be better to give this one some thought, just in case. With my options considered, I placed a card to the right of the table, and there, all 3 battlefields defined. I don't quite get your strategy. Oh, no need to get it. Your turn. Bach continued to eye him with skepticism. Still, he proceeded to place a card on the center pile. Without much hesitation, I placed a card of mine on the rightmost. Bach responded this by placing a card on the rightmost pile. While I wasn't backing down, I placed another on top of it. Here, Bach hesitated. He was clearly considering passing. However, he just placed one more on the middlemost. This, I placed a card on the leftmost. He looked up at me and then with a single grin spoke. I shall pass. I smiled back at him without even looking at my card, placed one on the middle pile. Pass. There's a bit of hesitation in this statement. Again, effortlessly, I tossed a card of mine on the top of the leftmost pile. Pass. He'd devolved into full-on confusion. That wasn't stopping me. Placed a card on the middlemost. This pattern continued with me placing cards alternating the left and middle, Bach continuously passing until I was out of cards. Then, only then, did I let up. And pass. What was that? I was playing the game, Bach. I thought I explained the rules well enough. I mean, you did, I think. I just don't... He stalled out. He was generally confused. He wouldn't be for long. Well, time for the war phase. As you could guess, I own all 3 of the battlefields. Now it's time to see who wins. I turned over the leftmost pile first. Didn't take a mathematician to calculate that one. Ooh, just a bit north of 21 it seems. This one's your win. I slid him over the stack. Reluctantly placed the stack to the right of his edge of the table. Now for the middle. Once again, I flipped over the cards. Once again, the result was clear. Another bust. This one goes to you. I slid the stack over, and once again, Bach centered the stack and placed it on the edge of the table. Now for the main event, I turned over the cards. The bottom 2 cards, the ones I led with, were a 2 and a 3. Bach threw a jack on top of that, and then the top was a 5. That's 20. That's victory for me. Well played, I guess. Why, thank you. I slid the pile over to my side. Well, 2-2-1. Looks like you won this round. Since I lost more battles, I'll draw a card first. Then, suppressing a smile, I leaned over the deck and picked up the whole thing. Whoa, what's this? A flush of irritation crossed Bach's face. What on earth are you doing? I'm reloading. You're taking the whole deck. Yeah, exactly. Bach was smart enough when he realized what happened by himself. Still, spelling it out was fun. I mean, deck cards without one suit is 39 in total. We started out taking 13. 13 times 2 is 26. 39 minus 26 is 13. Now I'm drawing back up because to my full hand size, 13. Fortunately, that moon won't be able to draw any cards I had laid out for you at the start. What are you getting surprised for? Hawk remains silent, a sour expression. You're confused about anything? No, you were playing this from the start, weren't you? I thought this was meant to be a friendly sort of fun. It is. I'm having fun. I don't have fun playing a game rigged with phony rules to screw over someone's playing for the first time. You don't? Guess people have their own definitions. Hawk, buddy, I gave you all the rules. I'm not contesting that. I guess I'm just disappointed. I don't quite see what you're getting out of this. I just said I'm having fun. Well, let's keep playing. I haven't lost yet. At this point, Bach was absolutely right. This little trick gave me a pretty decent advantage. However, its utility was more muted than you might think. Bach only played a total of 5 cards, which means he has 8 to work with still. I had 13, a 5-card advantage, and was only down 1 point. At first, you'd think that'd mean by playing conservatively, I could just force 5 more points. But if we both pass, the round would end starting anew, and if he placed his cards atop mine, he could still win. This is why actually winning the rightmost pile was a priority for mine. So I lost the last round, so I'll place a card first. Gingerly, I chose a card and placed it on the right of the table. Bach took a minute to think. Then he placed a card in the middle. Pass. Instantly, Bach recognized his mistake. Then, with some consideration, he placed a card on the rightmost pile. Bach understood the longer the game progressed, we were at an equal amount of points and we lost cards at an equal rate, the worse his position would be. Therefore, he was extremely unwilling to let a round pass where we played an equal amount of cards and gained an unequal amount of points. With that in mind, I selected my cards carefully and placed it atop the rightmost. Bach's turn. With some hesitation, he placed a card on top of the rightmost pile. Pass. Pass. Okay, War Phase. I flipped over the middle and revealed a 7-card hand. You own this pile, it's under 21, so there's a point to you. I slid over to him and flipped the rightmost. He played a 9, he played an ace, he played a king, he played a 4. You also own this pile, but I'm afraid this is 24. That's a bust, so it goes to me. I slid the pile back over. There's 3 points to 2, Bach's advantage. He was down to 5 while I still had 11. One like a Bach, and he knew he understood how bad this looked for him. Well, no cards to draw, so on to the next round. Oh, and it appears I never laid out the rules for what would happen if we won an equal amount the previous round. I think it's fair to say whoever played the first card in the previous round continues the trend. Is that alright with you? Fine. Bach was just done with this. The only reason he was still playing was out of spite, a motive I could respect. Okay, I'll go first. I grab a card and place it in the middle of the table. Bach, with an uncharacteristic amount of speed, placed a card on top of mine. I'll play a card on top of that one. Pass. Pass. Wartime. I own the Soul Battlefield, so here's hoping it's below 21. I flipped the cards. Played an ace, he played a 10. I played another king. Magic 21, point to me. I slid the stack over to my side of the table. We are now tied 3-3. Bach had 4 and I had 9. I won, so you place first. Without much thought, block. Place a certain card in the middle of the table. I placed one on the left side of the table. He placed one on the right. Pass. Pass. Bach had given up. At this point, his loss was inevitable. He scored 2 more points, and I scored 1. He had 2 cards left, and I had 8. Starting the next round, placed a single card down. He passed, and I passed. 5 to 5, 2 cards to 7. He had to place a card next round. I just passed, and he followed suit. 6-5, 1 to 7. I passed. I placed another card down. 6 to 8, at 1 card to 4. He had to place down his last card. I placed mine on top of his. Pass, pass. Cards 3. Well, honestly, it's sad at this point, but I might as well finish up the final round. I go first. I place a card in the middle. We'll pass. Bach was 100% checked out, which is great for me, which would make his last step much easier. I placed a card on the right. Pass. Placed a card on the left. Pass. Alright, I own all 3 battlefields. Time to check. Do we agree enough to do this? It's a matter of policy. I flipped over the 3 cards and dragged each over. At the same time, I stuffed my left hand in the pocket. Okay, new round, but I'm afraid. Suddenly, I pulled out 3 decks out of my pocket and tossed them over to the side of the table. The war is over. What the hell? Let's go over what's happening here. Firstly, the payout. The rules state the loser was the winner of a white chip for every stack on the winner's side of the table. Every chip, which is especially low payout. Have I gotten some switch on my head? Oh shit. Must have made some mistake. Every card. Lots of cards on this table, but we'll get that in a second. After all, to get the payout, we need to decide the winner. The person who won the most stacks has the most stacks on their side of the table. That'd be me, which is great. Now let's look at the delicate matter of scoring. The score is based off when the final cards have all been placed. The score is when the final war phase is ended. When the phase the war is over is shouted. Based on everything, Bach goes 12, which is not enough. $52, which is not enough. Of course, let's not forget one key thing. Based on the rules, it was only what he has in his pocket. Or at least Bach might believe that, but that's not right. Sun Corn was laid out, only has... owns a white chip, obviously. What else would Bach owe? That's what's said to Osa, and that's what it is. Alright, so counting the stacks. My 12 stacks, your 7. Now it's a matter of calculating the payout. On your side, that's 3 decks, each with 54, that's 162. Among your stacks, what the hell? What is this? 174. You owe me 174 white chips. Hold on, what the... That's nonsense. What are you unclear about? Those decks of cards you pulled out of your ass. Out of my pocket, actually. When you said you have to pay it for every card, but I didn't think you just pull or whatever you wanted. You're clearly talking about the cards that were sliding across the table. Or were you confused about that? That's a shame. You should have asked for clarification. Clarification. A reasonable person would interpret the rules I did, and are you sure about that? A white chip for every card on your side of the table is straightforward. This can't be legitimate. Afraid it is, my friend. Right, Osa? I'm afraid Locke is correct. The bet is valid. Locke recalled as Osa spoke up solemnly. He clearly forgot about Osa's presence, and his presence reminded him how thoroughly he was doomed. Of course this is bullshit. The whole thing was bullshit. So artless a move that I could barely qualify it as a trick. This would normally fly. Never, but he forgot where he was. Bach left the realm of common sense and entered a realm where the outcome is king. Rules of gambling were unbreakable. Rules were agreed upon by both parties. They were followed no matter what. This is the precedent to every single gambler who entered this quite well. Even if the rules were misleading or cheap, they are enforced. Also would make sure of that. Locke, you said that I've lost more. You wouldn't fleece me anything more than that. Needless to say, I don't exactly have 174 chips of cash on me, huh? What are you talking about? What do you mean, what am I talking about? You said that you promised it. I don't remember anything like that. Locke's face was flustered with anguish. He saw his doom spiraling. Also, did you hear anything like that? No such stipulation was stated when the rules were being settled. Even if Locke did something like that, which you can't prove, if it wasn't part of the rules, it wouldn't hold up. Yeah, they discussed it at the table. Well, that's why it's important. Yeah. Technically, they only discussed that at the bar, not here at the table. Sheesh, Bach, what's the hell up with that desperate lie? I mean, I won't take you for more than you have in your pocket. What sort of provision is that? There's no way to make such an unreasonable concession. Bach wasn't in the state where he could respond. He didn't even have it in him to conjure up anger. He was working pure despair at this point. I could see his legs wobbling. Look close to kneeling over then there, this fool. He didn't have it in him to pay at dens like this. He didn't have the brutality they required from you. No wonder this guy was doomed to never become governor. Alright, time to pay the piper. As I say, you owe 174 chips worth of cash. I don't have that on you. That's understandable. I'm a reasonable guy who could put together a bank, or I don't have that kind of money. Who do you think I am? Do you seriously expect me to have that kind of money? Whoa, whoa, easy there. Good thing the table between us, huh? Means a healthy sum, but that's not unreasonable. You sure couldn't scrounge up, even putting together all your assets? No, okay? I can't. I don't have that sort of cash. That's almost flat broke. Flat broke? Fuck, if that's the case, why'd you agree to a gamble like this? Don't tell me you entered the bet with no intention of paying back what you owe. The biggest taboo a gambler can make. I thought the maximum I have to pay was 14 or 15 white chips. Hell, I thought the maximum was what's in my pocket. Bach, you're saying you can't pay your debts? Al's hands were already in fists, casually hanging aside. Bach looked with looming horror on his face. No, he's made the most out of being an underground gambling casino. There's nothing else I hated more than to wretch on what they owed. This is a major no-no. It wasn't something that could be swept away. You lost a bet, you had to pay up one way or another. Best case scenario, Bach was in for a beatdown, like unbelievably best case. He was shaking, looking from also to me in disbelief, light flashing for his eyes. Perfect, perfect. Knew from the start, Bach had no ability to pay off anything north of 162 white chips. Researching his poor financial situation was one of the first moves I made when beginning to plot my scheme. I took a few steps forward between myself and Hassan Bach. Whoa, whoa, Asa, no need to jump any hazy conclusions. This is probably some sort of misunderstanding. Bach and I will sort this out in one of the private rooms. By the time we come back, I'm sure we'll have worked it all out. Fine, great. Come on, Bach, let's settle this somewhere a bit more privately, shall we? Like that, I began to walk over the side of the room where there are more than a few private rooms for special gambles. There were the small rooms with the entrance and one exit. The expression on Bach's face, he had absolutely no desire to follow me, but he also knew this was his only option to avoid Asa and maybe save his own skin. So I walked right beside me, so the two of us exited the scene in the closest room. Now I had him. Two of us were separated from the main hall, no witnesses. If he left, he'd get the shit beat out of him. If I wasn't entirely in control of the situation, now squeeze the sucker for all he's worth. That's much better. I prefer this situation, don't you think? Bach was understandably even more nervous now than he was before. Look, you don't have to do this. I mean, with your skills, cunning, shouldn't you have enough money? You don't you? What's the use of extorting a poor old man like me already down on his luck? Do you want this on your conscience? When you go to the pearly gates, you won't be denied something like me? The worthwhile sacrifice? You go and your soul be cleansed. Repent, I say. Light under your heart to be saved, my son. Down with the outburst? Yes. Good. In that case, why don't we get down to business? First things first, I'm gonna need to unbuckle those pants and drop excuse me. Sir, I know you require payment, but are you really going to get any enjoyment out of this setting? I mean, there's not even anything in this room like a couch or... That's not what you're thinking, you perv. Hate to break it to you, but you're not my type. Oh, good. Or is it bad? Should I be insulted was that disappointment I heard in your voice right now? I don't know, I didn't think my looks were that bad. Oh yeah, old men are such in style nowadays. I'm sorry, but if you're looking to prostitute yourself, were you looking to prostitute yourself in an underground casino these days? Because that can be arranged. Of course not, no way. And in that case, let's bitching more exposed genitals. What a reluctant look on his face, he acquiesced. Honestly, I'm surprised it was that simple. The man truly had no dignity left. Alright, next I'm gonna need from you is to get the most compromising position you can manage. Something like this. Whoa. Is that wrong? No, that's definitely the sort of thing I was looking for. I'm just surprised you jumped to it so quickly. This'll work. I fished around my pockets, took out my phone, and I took a few photos. Got a variety of angles just to be sure. Even if I delete these, I felt my phone was now somewhat tainted. But well. Alright, get up and stop making an ass of yourself. I mean, you're a politician. Bach did as he was told. That was insurance, huh? Now, if you attempt in any way to wriggle out of your debt, I could make those photos the top of Kamapa in a matter of minutes. Bach very visibly gulped. What was I expecting he was going to do with those photos? The guy seemed too dull to be running for office. What was he expecting I was going to do with those photos? He seemed too dull to be running for office. With that in mind, I think he'd be very incentivized to try and repay me. Let's hear it. How are you going to make it up to me? Look, I'm truly sorry, bottom of my heart. The last thing I want to be known as someone who can't make good on the word. I truly am a man of honor. These photos will suggest otherwise. Sir, do you really have to kick me when I'm already down? I don't have to, but it's fun. You think I'd go through all this if I actually had the funds to pay you back? If you could just give me a bit of time, I'm sure I could accrue enough capital with a bit of work. And how much time is a bit? Well, it would be after the election. Probably yes. I'm afraid that's too long. Hey, I don't want to curse the internet with these photos either. We're on the same side here, so think long and hard. Do you really have no way to repay me? No assets, connections, nothing you can think of that might be worth the amount of the bet? Right now, I'm throwing everything I have in this election. I mean, maybe if I won the election, if you won, there are plenty of other things that being governor can do for you. Powers, information, resources, all things I can accept for payment, and I'd be happy to do it for you, really. It's just the fact I don't know if I can realistically promise you any of that. I had him. I mean, you're Pantheon, right? What do you think the odds of my victory are? Not great, I have to say. Exactly. With every passing day, my chances of actually defeating Governor Ija dwindle and dwindle. I had a bit of a boost at the beginning, promising change and end of Ija's reign. There are plenty of radicals looking to shake things up. Those sorts of promises only get you so far. People like to complain, but the honest truth is things have gotten better with Ija in charge. Not so fast people would like, but sometimes change is slow. If you separate the current problems facing Panthea from its leadership, you'll see Ija actually has an impressive record with the legislation she's introduced. Hell, I don't even think she's a bad politician if you want my honest truth. More importantly, she has a bunch of experience governing. Then you look at me. I've got no applicable skills that help me in something like this. No real selling points other than not being Ija. Look at me. I end up pantsless in an underground casino in the dead of night. That sort of behavior is that the sort of behavior a governor should be engaging in? A fun governor, maybe. Despite more words, he threw up his hands to his face. I'm pathetic, utterly pathetic. The difference in our capabilities extends to the election. I just won every single election she's ever run in. This is my first campaign. She has brand recognition. She has a track record. She has plentiful resources. I have nothing. Locke, I have nothing more than to promise you I could repay you once I became governor, but like I said, I'm a man of my word, and I can't promise I'll win the election, because winning the election is basically impossible at this point. And with that, Bach's head rang low. Perfect. I walked closer and put my arms around his shoulder. He looked confused. Sounds to me, mon ami, you're thinking about this all wrong. Sure, things are bad right now, but think of a more skilled campaign manager, you've got a real chance to turn this around. Lucky for you, and I know just a god. You're not saying, afraid buddy, oh mine. You're gonna appoint me as the chief strategist for the upcoming election. With my help, the two of us are gonna take on Panthea by storm. We're gonna have you win that election, and then once you're properly in power, you're gonna pay me back with double interest. For his part, Bach looked stunned. Couldn't quite get a read on his thoughts. I don't know what to say. Can never go wrong with a thank you. Thank you, I guess, but this isn't how exactly do you intend to turn the election around. Well, that, we can get into petty details like that when we get to them. Petty details? Locke, do you have any experience running a political campaign? Define experience. Oh, and political campaign, and run while you're at it. Bach resumed, throwing his hands up in despair. I can't believe it. That's the final nail in the coffin. Whoa, it's that sort of negativity that's dragging you down. Campaign manager order number 1, no more being Debbie Downer. What people want is leader smiles. Oh yeah, I feel like jumping for joy right now. So I don't have the most traditional experience in political management. Work around that. That's literally your job. Alright, Hotshot, if you're the political expert, what would you say is your biggest impediment towards winning the election? The biggest? Suddenly, I notched Bach to straighten his back and tighten his collar. Seemed to start to take this a bit more seriously. Right now, I'd say that's a massive disparity in funding between Governor Ija and me. In the political world, cash is power. If you want to make any moves, offensive, defensive, whatever, money's the means to do it. Governor Ija is able to host galas filled with the richest people in the city to gather funds, and I can't even pay back your measly debt. Yeah, what's up with that anyways? How'd you get this far when you're this poor? Look, I poured most of my resources into the primaries. I look a lot of work to get this far. Can't last long, I feel you there, man. The primaries were seriously a competitive point to win the election. They were determining who would go up against Ija. Naturally, there's a lot of takers. They're saying our first step is acquiring a large amount of cash in a short period to give us leverage. That would be ideal, yes. While your luck keeps getting better and better, scoring a boatload of cash is one of my specialties. I shudder to think how you intend to go about that. I let out a hearty laugh and put my arm around his shoulder. You and me, my friend, we have a lot of work to do. I have 3 bronze keys, so might as well. Rouge or Noir. Red or black. Man, that was a high building. Highest in Panthea, probably. Whenever I saw massive skyscrapers like that, one question entered my mind. Do they really need all that space? It always feels to me like there's no way that a business actually needs to use up all that space. Well, I was no business manager, and I was bad at conceptualizing big things. It was probably justified. And if it was justified for any company, it'd definitely be Olimpo. With how many pies they had their fingers in, it's no wonder they'd need a lot of space to house their workers. What didn't feel necessary, however, was how much space they took up of this urban area in Panthea. How much that space was empty space, reserved for aesthetics. It made the area stand out at any rate. Anyways, time to enter the building. I've been in this lobby before, but I still took a moment to read in the area. A place with a wide receptionist area, restrooms, multiple waiting areas, and even breakfast cafeteria in the house. Anything you could reasonably want. Only the best for Olimpo, I suppose. I could respect that on some level. I approached the receptionist. Greetings, I'm Laverna, the detective. It is my understanding that your businesses need my services. Were it not, I'll be happy to dispense my aid ever necessary. A chance to pursue the truth is the only payment I require. Of course, a healthy check certainly would not dull my spirits. Regardless, be sure to inform of your masters of my arrival. In the meantime, I shall be lounging with one of your plentiful waiting areas. No need to direct me with one, I'm familiar with this floor's layout. Just like that, I turned away and made my way to the waiting area. There's no need to actually have her respond. I'd leave a more striking impression on her this way. So I circled the receptionist's desk and walked over the waiting area. I expected the wait to be dull. No, perhaps dull was the wrong word. Uneventful, more like. One that would let me collect my thoughts, perhaps waste time on my phone, but instead the waiting room was occupied by 2 familiar faces. Love! You're kidding. I held similar sentiments to Seth. What were the odds? Still, Baldera rushed over to me and gave me a hug, and I felt compelled to reciprocate. Honestly, maybe it wasn't that big of a coincidence to run into each other. There's a lot of overlap between private investigators and police, after all. Last time we met was investigating the murders at Governor Ija's private gala. Unfortunately, that ended up a dead end. Despite our best efforts, we were never able to find any evidence leading back to the killer. Ultimately, while there's still an investigation, the unknown third party had come and gone without leaving a trace we could find. The unexpected second body didn't end up giving any hints either. Later forensic evidence did reveal a few interesting details about the case, however. Apparently, when we found the body he'd been dead for several hours. He'd originally been killed a blow to the back of the head at the time the gala was starting, and people were still making their way in. Forensic scientists were able to tell that, as expected, the bell wasn't the murder weapon. However, the real murder weapon was unable to be located. Most curiously was the fact Maximilian Collins wasn't actually on the invite lists for the gala, despite the decent amount of clout he had. That raised a lot of questions as to what he was even doing there. Well, as the nephew of the late Veronica Collins, had some great connections, so perhaps he meant to meet or confront the guest of the gala. Veronica Collins, while alive, was one of the few non-family members known to be close to Odin Deisma, the Miracle Man. It felt likely that somehow this connection was what got Maximilian killed. But while correlation seemed apparent, the exact cause eluded us. Ultimately, as there were no forensic piece of evidence that Maximilian's case led to, the whole double murders were still under investigation. Under investigation without much hope of being solved without a new breakthrough. This was a little disappointing, but life and crimes waited for nobody. Looks like I was correct, the kid was indeed murdered first. So when I was contacted to help investigate the case of corporate theft at Olimpo, naturally I jumped at the chance to help out. What are you doing here? For the same reason you're here, I presume. Diamonds hit you up too? I must have left an impression on them during our last encounter. I don't, doubt that much. Seth, eccentricity appeals to eccentrics. Eccentric, is that how you see yourself? People are multifaceted, trying to condense an existence to a singular cough, cough, cough. I broke into a coughing fit. Sheesh, my throat is hoarse. Luckily, there's a water cooler nearby. I walked over and poured myself a cup. Good idea, Laverne. I'm gonna get some hydration right now myself. Alright, there we are. You okay there, live, darling, honey? Oh, I'm fine. My throat must be a touch strained from karaoke last night. You went karaoke? Jealous. Why didn't you give me a call? Oh, don't take it as a slight, Baldera. I was performing a karaoke solo. Wait, so you went to a karaoke bar by yourself? Indeed, spectacular listening comprehension set. See, if you go by yourself, you don't have to waste any time listening to others. Instead, can spend the whole night singing yourself. Pretty brilliant, no? If you say so. Seth had been holding his tongue more often as of late. Anyways, I'm surprised it's just the two of you joining me this fine day. I would expect at the very least Ariane to be your steed. Nah, it's just us today. Oh, thank God for that. Seth! Well, I'm just saying how it is. I do my work better when I don't have that cyborg breathing down my neck. Ariane's perfectly nice. She just seems off-putting because she's not, you know, the best with social cues and all. I'm sure that's true, totally. I just don't know her well enough. So then you can get to know her better through investigations. Yeah, no, see, that's a problem. I kinda doubt I'm gonna get anywhere with her during investigations. Aldera turned to me, clearly wanting to move on. Unfortunately, Ariane couldn't swing by here. We're pulled a little thin at the moment. Just shooting straight with you, a possible robbery of personal property is not that big a deal. I mean, it is a case for Olimpo, a pretty powerful group, and we're supposed to be but we're not supposed to factor in things like that. And when you consider the other side of town, there's a recent case of Pandora was on the first of the scene too. Ariane thought it'd be smart to head over here instead of there. Probably the right choice for Ariane there. I assume you are here for the theft case thing? Of course, why else would I be in a building like this? Not for business, just making sure. I walked over and took a seat next to the windows. Oh, cool, looks like we're gonna be working together again. Fun. Yeah, fun. But why did Olimpo contact a private investigator when we haven't even been able to look around? Did they think that would love us? Or a formality, I'm sure, Seth. This is Olimpo we're thinking of. They like to be talking about. They like to be thorough. I guess. Of course, the fact that Seth was the one who gave Laverna's sister a warning before is something we need to be wary of. I think I may focus on the sisters here, or see how their stories play out before moving on to the others, though I admit I'm still curious about Lara and the Mercury Man. My vision wandered. I ended up looking out the window aimlessly. Around the side of the building was a fairly extensive water feature. It connected right to the wall with several little fountain things. I previously derided the space this took as excessive, and that was likely an accurate assessment of the facts. It was a little hard to stay angry when looking at a nice installation like that. Maybe dismissing it as useless or small-minded. Perhaps the effect it had on morale was worthwhile in and of itself. What do you think, Lav? I turned back those two. My apologies. Were you laboring under the misunderstanding I was paying attention to for your last minute? To be honest, I tuned out a decent bit ago. Seth had a rant chuckle while Baldera put on a pouty face. Really, Lav? Gonna do me like that? Look, it's a matter of efficiency. There's but so much idle chatter I can take in before my mind swaps from investigated mode to a more casual one. A casual, mind you, which has no place in investigation. My tuning out was a deliberate attempt to prevent that occurrence. Well, that's a new one. This exchange is likely to continue quite a bit. However, at this moment we had a visitor who clearly didn't spend much time in waiting lounges. Art had entered the room. He was quite well dressed. His outfit was nearly indistinguishable from what he wore in the gala. I didn't know if this spoke to how fancy he dressed at work, or how casually dressed at the gala. Either way, it was impressive. Regardless, it was an undeniable fact the outfit suited him. If I didn't know better, I'd consider him quite handsome. My apologies to keep you waiting. Running a company like Olimpo is a taxing endeavor, I'm sure you can imagine. When I heard you'd arrive, I made sure to come down and personally greet you as soon as I finished the matter that was at hand. I'd like to thank you for Artigando's explanation before he stopped to look at me. Probably aware that I was in the room, but he must have wrote me off as some other visitor, one of the likely dozens that went in and out every day. To me, this said that I hadn't left a strong enough impression during our meeting at the gala. I couldn't tell if that was good or bad. Regardless, he did recognize me now, and with that recognition came a flare of annoyance. You? What exact business do you have here? Well, let me turn the question on you to test your aptitude for this profession. I'm a world-class detective, and a busy one at that. Is there anything to your knowledge that may have summoned me to this room? Art sighed heavily. I assume you're referencing the theft. Aha! Perhaps we should switch jobs. Perhaps not. To rephrase the question, why are you here for the theft investigation? Doubt my bona fides? Ah, this is surprising. I find that oddly insulting. I'll have a website I can direct you to if you wish. It lists my past achievements quite plainly. Peruse that, and I'm sure you'll see more than appropriate here. I'll see more than appropriate here. No, I'd prefer not to. But then again, it's not the qualifications which give me pause, it's the fact you were not hired for this job. Wait, Lab, you weren't? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Naturally, I was hired. I can assure you that you weren't. I can assure you that she was. Odin! Art jumped up startled. Fair enough, I'd barely noticed Odin slink his way in the room with a mischievous smile on his face. For such an imposing figure, he sure know how to step silently. Oh, you're getting sloppy, Art. Odin smacked him in the back of the head. He had a friendly face, but somehow the impact made it sound like it hurt. There was a time I wasn't able to get the jump on you like this. What are you doing here, Odin? I was getting hungry. Decided it was time for a meal, so I was leaving for a nearby restaurant. And I know you didn't want anybody on the restricted floor to leave with that whole incident and whatnot, but I assume I'm exempt from suspicion in this whole affair? Of course you are. What exactly makes that the case? I decided to interject. The axiom of investigation to examine a crime scene. To exit a crime scene are those eager to exit the crime scene are often the cause of said crime in the first place. Art shot me an incredibly dirty look. However, Odin began to laugh. Oh, how true. There's no good reason that I should be exempt from a suspicion. It's pleasing at least one of you has the stones to speak their mind. You see, this is why I hired you. Wait, Od, you hired her? Of course I did. I couldn't exactly trust the police with a job like this, and the fact you did proves you're still too naive to be without my supervision. After the job she did in the gala, I thought it'd be fun to invite Miss Laverna here. I thought she'd prove useful. Or failing that, entertaining. I shall aim to do both. Prioritize useful, please. Seriously? Her? Some unknown private investigator? We're going to just let her waltz around the vaults of this company? Oh, don't be such a dullard, Art. Honestly, it's such a nuisance you ended up being the least charismatic child. I expected that statement to flare Art up. Instead, he seemed to deflate. Then he gritted his teeth and turned to me. Oh, fine. My father's already purchased your services. Be foolish not to make the most of you while you're here. I'll do my best to perform above your expectations. Oh, that won't be difficult. Excellent, then. Glad to see this has sorted itself out. Well, my hunger hasn't gone away. I expect this matter to be settled by the time I return, Art. Of course, Odin. Fantastic. And with no other remarks, Odin turned and exited the scene. He had conveniently dodged the question I raised about him being a suspect. Now wasn't the time to push my luck. Yeah, I was about to say, he never did exactly answer why he was exempt. So, either that's intentional for us to point out his missing later, or it'll be obvious right away that it couldn't be him. Besides, he wasn't the thief. Yeah, there's also that. It's his company. He could, if he ever needed anything, he could just say, I need to take this, and no one could stop him. Even Art here would be completely incapable of stopping him if he wanted to. Well, then, it appears you three will have to suffice. Don't worry, I can attest the quality of Bladera and Seth. They make for excellent grunt workers, both looking suited for 85 investigations. Well, good to hear. And their expressions change at that. Well, I suppose we could just get a move on. And like that, Art also turned and began to leave the room. With a single wave of his arm, he gestured for us to follow him. The four of us made our way back to the receptionist's desk, this time walking the other side. Further beyond was a hallway which led to sleek marble elevators. Art pressed a button. Without a moment's hesitation, the left door opened up. Ladies first. Art gestured the elevator. Baldera and I entered, followed by Seth, with Art taking up the rear. The elevator had a whole tower of buttons. Art took out the white and gold key card and placed it on the sensor in the elevator. He pressed a button with the star indicator. The restricted floor, it seems. A few seconds later, the doors opened and we found ourselves in a new, pristine floor. Instantly, the fancy flooring gave off the indication this was a place for the elite. Well, I could already guess that much. Before we could go anywhere, however, we had to deal with security. This necessary? Wow. It's like that time we went to the airport. Indeed, this scene was akin to airport security. Large metal detector up in the center. To the right of it was a metal desk that slid across either side of it. And the left, tough-looking security guard stood motionless. This, Art waved his arms at the obvious display before us, is the restricted floor security. This thing is meant to try and stop incidents like this from happening in the first place. And this here is Zeth. Say hi, Zeth. Hi. Hi, Zeth. How are you doing this fine day? Not particularly well. Aw, and why is that? A theft happened on my watch. Oh yeah, it's gotta put a damper in your step. Hey, cheer up, things get better. This is Zeth just gave a small nod. Whenever somebody enters or leaves the floor, they have to go through the metal detector. Any metal objects on them and personal belongings are put on the desk and inspected by Zeth. Well, I'll give you this, it's certainly very thorough. Thoroughness is a motto of Olimpo. A motto? How many mottos do you have at Olimpo? And thoroughness isn't really a motto, it's a one-word value. If Art has heard a single word I said, he didn't let it on. But is this really necessary? Seems like a lot just to work. I assure you, it is more than necessary. Given what's on this floor, we need to take precautions. Some of the decorations on this floor, especially in the office and meeting rooms, are worth just enough for someone to consider stealing. More importantly, of course, all the information data up here is central to our business. At Olimpo's level, corporate espionage is a major concern, which is why we're taking the current situation seriously. So company property must be protected, not to mention company personnel. Now, who even has access to the floor is already strictly monitored. Still, you can never tell what will be too much for somebody. I fear the day some vengeful employee will try and take a stab at me or someone else on the floor. Vengeful employees, Would you happen to know of anything you've done which would engender such strong feelings? Any specific employees that might come to mind? Of course, simply ask because I feel maybe a potential motive for the current caper we find ourselves in the midst of. Given the nature of this case, I very much doubt revenge is a catalyst. Can we keep moving, please? On Seth's behest, we made our way forwards. Luckily, we didn't have to be subjected to the usual scrutiny of the security measures. Instead, we could walk right ahead down the hallway and through the restricted floor. Alright, could you be a doll and give us a bit of a rundown on what's on this floor? Might be useful for our investigation. Certainly. As you can see, there are a number of important rooms around here. Those doors we're passing, ones on the left are important paper records, business deals, contracts, that sort of thing. Ones on the right are Olympus servers. Important doors indeed. Not to this case. They're so important, the doors of this room have an added layer of security. You need to scan a keycard to get to them. Key cards require the highest level of clearance, and also log all entries into a highly encrypted third-party server. They haven't been accessed all today. Good to get that out of the way then. To the right are a number of offices of our high-level members. However, our destination is the left here. We followed him down a winding hallway. Here to the left and right are some high-end meeting rooms. Farther down the hallway were two doors with rather large offices and glass doors. The offices on the left had shut blinders all the way down. The office on the right had their blinders at the top. It's quite messy with the documents all strewn about. At present, a certain pink-haired employee was typing something on the laptop. The room to the left is my office, the one to the right is my brother's. Oh, and further down the hallway is the restrooms, if that becomes an issue. I'm surprised the CEO of the company has the same office as the chief director. Not my idea. Odin made it that way so Polly wouldn't throw a fit, and Polly liked that we'd have be right across from each other. As soon as he was soon soured on the idea when he realized it let me see just how often he wasn't working. If Polly really cared about that, wouldn't he have the blinds down like you? I kept that thought to myself. Art opened the office and ushered us in. Even though it had similar architecture as the other office, there was clearly a world of difference. Everything was nice and orderly, clean in its proper place. Contrast, its meaning couldn't be more on the nose. Art walked over the other side of the desk and sat down on his chair. Baldera, Seth, and I just stayed standing. I'm wondering if maybe there's going to be a meaning to everyone's names here. I mean, Odin I did joke about, but basically everyone so far has had some sort of mythological name. I mean, even Baldera is based off Balder, or the Norse god of light. The one who's mostly, poor guy, is mostly known for getting accidentally killed, only because Loki made a spear out of the one thing he could be harmed by, and had everyone throw it at him. And of course, Seth is an Egyptian deity. Nice place you got here. Although I guess Seth is also a pretty mainstream name. Indeed, I appreciate the minimalism present. I too indulge in philosophy. My apartment contains no such clutter whatsoever. This is only my office. I can assure you, my penthouse apartment is quite lavishly decorated. However, such aesthetics will only serve to distract me during work time. We already wasted far too much time on pleasantries. Let's cut to the chase. Yes, let's. Ooh, Art did not like me. I swear I wasn't doing this on purpose. Okay then, cutting to it. It is on paper a fairly simple case of company property being stolen, a laptop to be specific. It is used for several important business transactions and has a lot of valuable information on it. I know it was on this floor this morning, and that's because I used it this morning. Then I left it in a cabinet attached to the table in one of our meeting offices. I'll take you to said location momentarily. The important part is that many hours later, when I tried to use the laptop again, it was completely missing. I have this entire floor searched, top to bottom, every nook and cranny, and the laptop has not shown up. These searches will continue, but at this point, I can only assume the laptop and the information on it has been stolen. If that information ends up in the hands of one of my business rivals, it will damage our prospects quite severely. Between the time I last used and the time I discovered the meeting, a total of 3 employees exited this floor. However, each went through security procedure I've already explained, and all passed without alerts. I have called the employees back, and they are waiting in the nearby room. Your job is to ascertain which, if any, of these employees is responsible for the theft. If it is one of them, I'd appreciate if you could make it clear exactly how they got the laptop past our security detail. If it's not one of them, I'd like to know then I would like the true culprit to be made clear and the location of the laptop to be revealed. Alright, seems simple enough. Really. Because, seems kind of a bit... Seth hesitated, reeling he was standing in front of. Possible? In a sense it is. However, that adds the intrigue. Impossible crimes are the most interesting. At their heart is a contradiction, a false assumption, illusion to the eye. These are the greatest truths to uncover. Does she always act like this? Yep. My sympathies. I'm familiar with how draining it can be to work with these types. There's a reason she's not actually a cop. And that reason is I shan't be shackled. Well, should we get started then? The scene from which the laptop was stolen in the meeting room, from the other side of the hall. Actually, since Art is usually short for Arthur, it's possible Art could be named after King Arthur, but again, Arthur is a very common name, so like with Seth, I may simply be overthinking it. You three can look around there as I prepare things for you. Prepare things for us? I raised a slight eyebrow at that, but I've been poking the bear a bit too frequently. Instead, I followed Seth and Baldera out the door and over the meeting room. It was quite nice. On the end of the room opposite the door, there were some big wall-sized windows. On the wall of the next room, a big TV mount on the wall, and below was a big fancy cabinet with a number of drawers. It looked like all this slightly jutted out, which was a thing with... Was that a thing with fancy cabinets? It seemed more annoying than anything else. On the other walls were a number of still life photographs on predatory animals hung up. I'm guessing to be a symbolic thing for the company, feasting on prey, whatever that is. The center of the room was a long oval-shaped table with a dozen chairs sat by it. This looks more square than oval. Although I'm willing to guess, the backgrounds we're seeing here are really just stock photos that are blurred for the purposes of the VN. That way we know it's not what's going on in the background is not as important as the dialogue and the actual characters in front. So, I didn't mind when they did the Zodiac trial did the same thing. It was stock photos with a filter in front, and I think I mentioned back then, but I don't mind that. It's a pretty good idea. It's good to help give you an idea of what the room looks like while also telling you not to worry about any of the major details, because the major details are right here in front. Lovely little place, lovely little place. It's nice, I guess. Wouldn't you want to be the head of a big corporation like this, lab? Why would a god covet a crown of man? Well, that's a new one. Over in the corner of the room, there was a little trash bin. I decided to walk over and give it a look. At the bottom of the bin was a discarded coffee cup. So, what are we looking for? Well, beats me. I don't think we're gonna find much of use. Ah, how limited your reach is. You got any bright ideas? Several. Oh, you mean in regards to the case? Seth sighed. Meanwhile, I took a seat at the opposite end of the table. Oh, we have to do something. Then a familiar face walked in. Oh, Zith, was it? Oh, that's right. Nice to see you again. What are you doing here? I was instructed to enter and aid in the investigation. I was the one who conducted the security checks of the suspects who left. Art thought it might be useful to have on hand when conducting interviews. Oh, but don't worry about me not being at my post. Art thought of that. He got another guard to take up my shift. That makes some sense, I guess. Interviewing the suspects. On that note, I have an important question for you. Very leisurely, I kicked back and placed my feet on the table. What rules out you as a possible suspect? It appears the simplest answer could be the thief's skill. As to how the thief scaled the wall was that... If the wall was, in fact, the simplest answer to how the thief scaled the wall is if the wall was, in fact, the thief. Oh, yeah, why can't we trust you, Z? There's a camera by the security station. It shows I was at my station the whole time. It's just a decent repuddle, I must admit. However, you may not have been active conspirator, but maybe an accomplice. What if we were working with a thief? Oh, that's, not likely. Art walked in the roof, but not dissimilar to how his father had earlier. Our security guards, above all employees, are screened and trained to the highest security. I'm certain that Zeth doesn't have a disloyal bone in his body. You see, we have all of our security guards have their disloyalty surgically removed. Thank you, sir. You can trust his account. I'm only willing to consider suspecting him when all other avenues are exhausted, and seeing as how you haven't yet interviewed any, I suspect that's not yet the case. Well, then, let's bring us the suspects. Art smiled. I'll do just that. Percy, get in here. Sure thing. Into the room rushed a fairly young-looking office worker. Judging by his apparent pit stains, the whole being a suspect thing was weighing on him. He nervously drummed his fingers across a leather briefcase he held in his hands. Hello, I'm Percy. I guess I'm a suspect? Apologies for his hapless behavior. No need. Percy, just calm down. Nothing bad's gonna happen. We're just gonna be asking some standard questions. I slammed my fist down the table. Tell us why you did it, Percy. Why'd you throw away your freedom? Do you want to see your mother anymore? Was it worth it? Was it worth it, Percy? What? Laverna, what the hell? Go easy on the kid. He's clearly having a rough time of it. I sighed heavily. Well, way to ruin my blitz confession strategy, you two. Now I'll have to do things the old-fashioned way. Out of curiosity, does that tactic actually ever work? To prove it didn't would require testing it on every person on Earth. Percy, could you just tell us what you did that... I don't know what to say. I need some files a colleague who's sick had left on their desk. Percy doesn't usually work on the restricted floor. His office is one of the lower levels. Right, I got permission to come up and went to my colleague's office. It took me a bit of time, but once I did, I just left and went back to work. When the laptop was discovered stolen, I was looking at the suspects. Percy here was still working at his desk. Numerous other coworkers can attest he never went anywhere after leaving. Anything suspicious about what he brought up or down? Both entering and exits, he brought a suitcase, but I put through the metal detector and it checked up both. It didn't set off anything, and I didn't see anything suspicious inside. And it's the same suitcase holding right now, Percy. Sure, here you go. He held the suitcase out and Seth began rummaging through it. Is that all the pertinent information? Indeed. To be honest, Percy's the one I suspected the least. However, I'm nothing if not thorough. What are your mottos? Indeed. Well, I got nothing on the suitcase. As far as I can see, Percy, you're free to go. For now. I put two of my fingers on my face and moved them is. Alright, go and tell Herc to enter. Right, Percy? Okay. Percy might be a reference to Percy Jackson. Since that... I've actually never read Percy Jackson books, unfortunately. Alright, next we have of Hercules. It was only a couple moments later when an older man dressed similarly first entered. Despite being at least in his 60s, I could tell he had a good bit of muscle on him. Hey all, nice to be here. Gentlemen, ladies. Herc gave a brief bow. Herc's testimony is going to be quite important. Treat it with as much scrutiny as you wish. Are you sure it's a good idea to say that in front of the suspect? Oh, I don't mind it none. I welcome a challenge. Bring it on. Got no secrets to hide. My life's an open book. Alright, that Herc. Then Herc, if that is your real name. Seriously, who in this day and age names themselves that? Mind telling us exactly what you did during the time frame when the laptop was stolen? Wow, I was in this very room. Really? Go course, not the whole time. I think I entered a bit after Art left, but I spent a good time of the day cooped up in here, left once to use the restroom, then left again shortly after to get a nice refill on my morning cup of joe. I can tell you, I could have sworn I'd only drunk a sip of it, and the next thing you know, it's empty. Really gotta cut back on the stuff. Think I might have a wee problem with it. I blame this one for that. Herc thumbled out Art. Shouldn't have put that cafe on the first floor. I strive to improve my employees' morale. So Herc was here when he went to check the laptop? He was, yes. So that narrows down the time frame his laptop could have stolen a fair bit, don't you think? So when exactly did Percy come to look for the documents? Unfortunately for him, midway through the search, Herc decided to use the restroom, robbing him of an alibi. What can I say when nature calls? Zeth, was there anything unordinary with Herc when he tried to go through the security detail? There was. You see, Herc can't go through the metal detector without setting it off. Is that right? Yeah, dental work, I'm afraid. Real pain in the ass. Bothers me every time I come in for work. Luckily, me and Zeth here have a workaround. And that is? Herc puts his body through the metal detector while keeping his head stuck out. Then he walks around it. Seriously? It's effective. So you're saying here Herc's head isn't checked the metal detector. Hey, if you want to accuse me of smuggling the laptop in my mouth, by all means, be my guest. I didn't have a clever comeback to that. Any other questions? Yeah, I have one. What were you doing in this room in the first place? I thought this was a meeting room. What can I say? I like my space. Room's airy, the office is stuffy. Figured nobody's using it today, might as well do my work in there. Which I may add is against company policy. Hey, well, you got me, Chief. This will be the last day we do it. See to it that that is the case. While you're at it, go grab Darda for us. On it. Hold on a second. You don't get to dismiss our suspects, we dismiss them when we're good and ready. You're dismissed. With a half-cocked smile, Herc turned around and left the room. Alright, a bit of information about our next suspect. This is the only person who actually left the building during the time frame of the theft, which does give her ample opportunity. I'm catching your drift, so this is our prime suspect. Judge for yourself. As if it was timed out just when the blonde woman wearing black clothes and sunglasses entered. Nice style. The woman walked further into the room and pulled out a chair, sat down and crossed her legs. Well, you have me. I was called back from a pressing prior engagement, so this better be worth it. And that engagement was? Is that pertinent to your investigation? It might be. Well, if it is, I'll tell you. Up until that point, I'll keep it to myself. So I just waltzed out of the building in the middle of the day. I had clearance for it. Everything was totally standard. Darda, would you mind walking us through that day? Not much to walk through. I came in on time, did my job in my actual office on this floor, left in the middle of the day, later received a call that I had to return because some idiot thought it'd be a good idea to steal a laptop in broad daylight. I assume she left after Herc's trips from the restroom? Of course. Zeth, my man, you know what I'm after. Hit me up with those security deets. She passed the metal detector test easily. Entering and exiting, she slid a book down the metal desk. Tangled Trist's hardback edition. Like to keep up to date on the new releases in the literature world. Ooh, romance? Mystery, actually. Although I'm beginning to fear it might not be a particularly good one. I did my due diligence, flipped through the pages, made sure there wasn't anything else in the book. There wasn't. Well, there you have it. I couldn't have taken the laptop. If you ask me, the laptop hasn't left the floor. It's just hidden somewhere we haven't found. I didn't bring you for the running commentary, Darda. Can I leave? I can't imagine there's anything else I could be of use for. Yes, retreat to your cave. Instead of responding, she simply stood up, turned around, and walked out. Well, what do you make of it? No, it certainly is a head-scratcher. Not really a clear answer present. If there was a clear answer, I'd have not involved the police. I usually prefer using our in-house security team when possible. Truly an impressive caper. If I didn't know better, I'd say the theft of this beauty was the work of an auto-larcenist. Well, let's get thinking. Is there any way those three could have smuggled this laptop past security? I don't think so. Let's try putting our heads together on this one. I got off my seat and began to pace. Time to put my brain to action. Obviously, I knew a part of it happened, but I was completely in the dark on a bunch of details. Until I had explanations, I didn't feel confident speaking up. I'll dare aside and look to the floor. Man, it's a real bummer. Times like this, I miss Issa. She would know what to do. She was great with things like this. Hey, what do we say about this? We shouldn't even talk about him. It's not healthy. Seth looked even more uncomfortable than usual. I looked over the large window to the side. Below it was a rather large water feature. You know, from this heightened perspective, it didn't quite look as impressive. I tried to open the window. However, as soon as I pushed it up, a loud noise began to blare. Mulder and Seth put their hands to their ears. Art then looked irritated and pulled out his phone. With a few taps, the noise died down. What in blaze is that? Fast up our security system. Although usually it just logs the event. It only sets up alarm because I set it to red alert mode ever since the theft. Whenever a window's open, it passes by a sensor. See, it's right there. Art pointed, and sure enough, there's a discrete sensor at the side of the windowsill. That's probably how you know the windows weren't using this, right? Naturally. I looked closer at the sensor. At first glance, it indeed looked like opening the window would set it off. However, that wasn't technically true. It was placed about half an inch above the window. It would begin to slide open. Too thin for a laptop, but still, now I understood. Meanwhile, I was looking at this. Mulder and Seth had been theorizing without me. What about Percy? I didn't like the look of that boy. What do you mean didn't like the look of him? Squirrely fellow, too nervous for his own good? Are we sure the suitcase didn't have some hidey hole for things? Maybe one laced with something to evade metal detector? I looked over the suitcase myself and I didn't find anything like that. Looked over this suitcase, but remember, he went back down to his office to the lower floors a while ago. He could have switched cases. Didn't his coworkers say he stayed at his office the whole time? Where'd the swapped case go? More importantly, you're not thinking about the important parts. Remember the time frame. Herc went to the restroom after Percy entered the floor. He couldn't have counted on Herc leaving like that. The frame's too tight. Can't use that as evidence. Also, if Percy couldn't have counted on Herc showing up in that room in the first place, sounded to me like that was on a whim. So if you're factoring in bad luck for the thief, you can also factor in good luck, and it just bounces out. I don't think it works like that. At any rate, I think we can safely rule Herc out. What culprit would reduce the suspect pool like that? Seems like a really dumb idea to me. So, the culprit was darted by default? Well, she did leave the building. She could have easily dumped the thing while she was gone. How did she get past security detail? I don't know, that's the whole problem with this thing. This mess is too confusing for me. We should have the laptop even left. Fancy place like this, I wouldn't be surprised if there were like super secret hidey holes for stashing secrets. Somebody could have just hidden the laptop there. To what end? I don't know, to cause a stir? I don't see how that helps anyone. Some people just want to watch the world burn. There's nothing ordinary folks like you and me can do about it. Wait, say that again. I don't see how that helps anyone. You need to see it, just do it. Cause a stir? Before that. You've lost me, Laverna. I'll be honest, I don't remember that far back. Super secrets hidey hole. Yes, thank you, human stenographer. Stenographers are already human. Hence human stenographer. Anyways, Eureka! I rushed over the other side of the room. Then I grabbed a hold of the cabinet. I began to yank off the drawers. Hey, well, what on earth are you doing? That's mahogany. The cabinet's priceless. The only thing that's priceless is the truth. Besides, this cabinet's the type where you can slide drawers off. Well, that is correct. How do you know that? Because the culprit had to place them back after storing this. Triumphantly, I watched forwards and grabbed the computer from the back of the dresser. I displayed it with a grand smile. Lab? Hey, what's that doing there? How'd you find this? The drawers were jutting out like that. Struck me as odd from the moment I walked in the room. However, when we spoke of hidey holes, I realized this was no design choice. It was a metaphorical telltale heart a culprit had left on the floorboards, or in this case, the drawers. Still, to hide a computer in a place like this, I didn't think that was possible. It's actually a semi-common hiding spot. Plenty of closets are built like that, with a bit of wiggle room behind the drawers. Oh, I see, sort of like a false bottom. Yeah, except in this case, the false bottom is often unintentional. I'm surprised, Art. I wouldn't have taken you for a man who knew terms like that. Ah, well, you know, if your brother wants to be a magician for a few years, you end up picking up a few things along the way. Really? Polly never struck me as the magical type. Art looked confused. Polly, your younger brother, you just said he wanted to be a magician? Oh, right, yes, he, never had the stage presence for it. Another time. Oh, he's not referring to Polly. There's been other members of the Olympo. So there's other members of the Olympo family. It's just those are the only recognized ones. I sat at the laptop and opened it. When I opened it, the insides were stained with coffee. It stayed firmly turned off as I pressed buttons. Aha, just as I suspected. You did? I think the case of events here is plainly simple. The culprit made their move and Herc went to the restroom. He said he didn't remember drinking his coffee. I think he was correct. The culprit opened the computer, did their deed, and poured the coffee laptop, rendering it useless. Then they decided to dispose of the corpse in this room. They must have thought of the old drawer trick. Perhaps they even scoped that out in advance. Then they left, simple as that. Amazing. Not amazing, not simple as that. What's the point? I mean, if they're trying to steal data, it feels like the thief failed. With my tongue. Oh, poor naive Seth. This is the modern era. There's more than one way to transport data. The thief likely opened the laptop and transferred all relevant data to an easy-to-conceal flash drive. With that, no need for an actual computer. Maybe so, but in that case, why bother hiding the computer? The culprit made it look like the actual computer was gone, and that would limit how it could have been smuggled out of the building and narrow suspects. It would throw off the investigation, leading us to make bad assumptions like the ones we've been making up to this point. But why make it a case at all? Couldn't they have just left the laptop in the drawer, and nobody would have been any the wiser of the robbery? Well, once Art came and found the laptop covered in coffee, the fact it had been tampered with would become obvious. Why throw coffee on it at all, then? That I couldn't answer. It's a critical question. Why this whole thing became an incident, but despite that, I didn't have a clue. To my surprise, it was Art that spoke up. I may have an idea. The thief must have triggered the Melusine software security, then realizing we had no clue what that meant, took a second to explain. Basically, it's something on the laptop that keeps a log of actions, a sort of secondary security system. At this point, it's tertiary. Perhaps. Regardless, if they became wise to that, they'd realize whenever the laptop was next checked, I would be able to tell it's been altered. At that point, I'd already suspect the theft, so why not make it look like a physical job? As Laverna wisely pointed out, it would thoroughly mislead us. Nice, so that means we're not looking for someone who took a laptop, we're looking for someone who stole a flash drive. That changes things. Oh, wait, what about the Darter lady? She had the book, right? You can hide a flash drive in a book. No, Zeeth said he flipped through the pages of that. In my opinion, the one that suddenly got a lot more suspicious is Herc. He said try and prove they fill a laptop in his mouth. Well, he might not be able to fill a laptop, but a flash drive he could muster. Really, think he can carry a conversation with a flash drive in his mouth? Do you have a conversation? And whatever, even if he did, I say you can talk and hide a flash drive. Honestly, with this, I'm not sure we can even limit the suspects to those three anymore. I mean, Laverna here just proved there's still possible hiding spots to be discovered. I think it's a lot easier to hide a flash drive than a laptop, so the possibility someone stored away for laser has written a lot. Culprit knows the security system because download the data to a USB. Or the culprit wanted to frame someone. Culprit knows the security. Oh no. Downloaded. How's that not? Should be able to figure this one out. There we are. I woke up the window and chuckled. Oh, you guys, you never truly can see the larger picture. Why wait when there's a perfectly good escape hatch right here? I knocked on the glass gently. Silver and I did speak with you about the security system, did I not? You did. However, my security system isn't quite as secure as you may believe, Mr. Diesma. See, I believe I can raise this window about a half inch where the sensors go off. That might not be much, but with the many ways you can store technology nowadays, I'm sure you could find something that would fit through that crack. While I was talking, Baldera walked over beside me. Hold on a second, Lab, isn't there a problem here? Look down below, there's this big water feature on the side of the building. If you drop something down there, wouldn't it get soaked? I don't think you get enough momentum that strong windows send flash drive past the water feature, and I think the fall might be a bit of an issue as well. So then, simply don't have it fall into the water. Keep saying things without explaining yourself. Balder, remember the waiting room on the first floor? How lovely it was. Balder's face sparkled with recognition. How it was right next to the water feature. By Jove, I think she's got it. I propose it was a two-person job. One was somebody to access the restricted floor, though I can't say who. As far as I can see, anyone who was present when Herc went to the restroom, as well as Herc himself, are all possible suspects. If I were to guess, the gambit that the thief pulled, I imagine they tried to cover the image by not leaving the floor. Whoever it was, they conspired with the partner who played the part of visitor and waiting in the lobby. The two communicated via text, and when the time came, the visitor opened lobbying's window and caught the falling flash drive. And just like that, the limbo heist is complete. With that, I gave a large bow. To my surprise, it was Art who first began with some golf claps. My, I must admit this, Vernon. It appears I judge you too harshly. I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm misguided. It appears you are, in fact, quite competent. Eccentricities aside, I try my best. So hold on, should we go to the front desk right now? Like maybe we can figure out the culprit from the people on this floor, but now we got a whole second avenue to pursue. Don't waste the front desk's time, I've got a better idea. Come, follow me. Art left the room and we followed him. He made his way to his office. There he pulled up his laptop and began furiously typing. Finally, he pushed the laptop in the direction of Balder. There you go, look away. I don't mind if I do. With a smirk, Baldera took a seat and began getting to work. I could see from this angle there was sort of security footage. Mr. Diesma, I think we're going to get a lead with that? To be honest, I somewhat doubt it. I mean, so many people come in every day. The waiting lobby has dozens upon dozens of visitors on a daily basis. Unfortunately, we don't have an angle that actually showcases that window. We could see someone try to catch this flash drive. We know I had the technology, so I figure I should give this a chance to try. I felt this was a chance to get use out of it. Alav. Baldera's tone was extremely hesitant. Yes? What's this about? She pointed at the screen with a worried look on her face. Then I leaned closer and recoiled. How the hell was I seeing this? Meanwhile, I'll continue rambling. You see, the Meluzine security system is really thorough. For instance, there's a decoy security cameras, and there's a bunch of hidden real ones. This one, for instance, is a picture hanging on the wall in the waiting lobby. On the screen, there was a figure wearing a dark green hoodie and sunglasses, but their face was unmistakable. That was mine. While I was looking at this, Seth also came to see what was going on. After seeing the screen, he looked at me and spoke in deadly serious. Laverna, what is this? I sighed. I really didn't want to go here. I suppose my twin sisters do a call. Twins, really? Boo, what a hack. Although I do appreciate the irony of having the detective character break Knox's 10th. Still, you hate to see a twin in a work of mystery. At this point, I'm tempted to write off every modern tale involving a twin as trash, context be damned, because at this point it's just a sign of laziness, a crutch if anything. Well, not much we can do. After all, these are real events, not just a script. Believe me, I'd admit all this had it not actually happened, and even now I'm still tempted. At the very least, I'm grateful it wasn't used for a twist. Now that would be bullshit. Blowing about it now, it's like, okay, there's a twin, we know that, that's logged. Hey, there was more of this scene in the last few moments, wasn't there? Sorry, that twin reveal completely knocked off my train of thought. Well, in my defense, it's not like the other stuff was all that interesting. Corporate espionage, whoop-de-doo, we're discussing mystery rules. Van Dyne's 7th applies pretty keenly right now, I think. If it's not a murder, I don't give a shit. Kinda doubt the stolen USB is gonna have any real effect on things. Why couldn't we do more with the cock robin killings? Oh, speaking of, did you catch the start of the scene? We got our answer to our bet. Autopsies revealed Max died roughly when the party was getting started, or in other words, way before Athen died. I guess this isn't like airtight. Maybe it's faked, or maybe Athen died earlier and the person in the party was a body double. Maybe some third weird shit, but for now I'm gonna call it, and if anything else comes up, we'll reverse the bet. For now, though, I suppose you won. Good on you, you're a natural detective. Anyways, I could talk more about the scene, I guess, but I'm not particularly inclined to, and I never want our chats to feel like a drag, so I guess I'll be out of your hair. Rabbit hunt. There may not be rest for the wicked, but there isn't a lot for a detective either. Once again, I was contacting the police with help with one of their cases. It's a bit late. I make my way directly to seeing the supposed crime, Nahoy's Nest. Arriving there, the place was a buzz. I let myself into the central restaurant, saw a number of unscrupulous-looking characters interviewed by familiar face. Hi, Laverna. Pandora. Lovely meeting you. I assume you're taking some witness statements? Yeah, I'm just sort of getting to know these guys. Getting to know them in regards to the crime, correct? I'm getting there. I have a process. I understand. I'd never judge another person's process. We must each rock our own load. Yeah, you got it. Anyways, I assume you heard up with the murder case? Why, naturally. Gotcha. And you're probably gonna want to go downstairs. See over there? Pandora pointed to the closet that held the staircase down the underground casino. Yeah, there's a staircase there. Most of the others are down there as well. Why aren't you with them? Did they keep you out? Because if so, that's not acceptable. Oh no, I was the one who wants to stay up here. I mean, an underground illegal casino run by a gang? How scary. And, you're a police officer. Well, obviously. Right, just checking again. Right, I'll go there and get mowed on. Good luck. With Pandora's well wishes, I walked over the closet and made my way down the true Nohoi's nest. This is where the real action was. This place was unusually fully lit up. All throughout the central room were sparse tables in an open area. You could really feel the blank space. I didn't get far, however, before running into a familiar face. Lav! Valdera rushed over and gave me a hug. Then she recoiled a little bit. Whoa, Lav. Valdera, nice to see you. Oliver and I shouldn't be surprised. Lav, what's the smell? What smell? Your smell. It's all floral and junk. Oh, you used to be referring to my perfume. My sister told me I should be a bit more feminine, so this is what I ended up doing. Stirk. Seth leaned in, took a sniff before making a face. A little, strong, don't you think? Perfume's meant to be a pleasant smell, yes? Ergo, more perfume is more pleasant. Standard logic. You and I really need to hang out sometime, Lav. Anyway, speaking of your sister, we ended up speaking with her. Oh, apologies. She wasn't that bad, Lav. Although I have to say, when I looked around the room she was staying at, I noticed a few things that made me think it wasn't really her apartment. She just temporarily rented a room. She's still in that paranoid conspiracy crap. She's so embarrassing. Anyway, she's not an active suspect, if that gives you some comfort. I suppose, yeah. Let's move on to the case at hand, should we not? Figure Baldera decided to bring you in for this too? Incorrect, Mr. Johnson. Unbeknownst to Seth, Ariane walked here to the group. As a matter of fact, I decided to hire Laverne's services. Is that right? Something of a change of pace, huh? She's proven useful so far. I wish to see her in action some more. I'm sure she'll impress. I do nothing but. However, to get that first, I must first learn the actual crime. Details, if you would. Not exactly a polite way of requesting. Yeah, I get used to that. Anyways, I guess I'll just get to it. Don't want to waste time. To start, we received a call to 911. The voice seemed deliberately muffled, but at the very least, we could tell the witness was male. No need to beat around the bush. I'll just read out the transcript for you. He ruffled his pocket and pulled out a few folded pieces of paper. Then he cleared his throat and began to read. Hello? Right now, I'm calling from Nohoi's nest. I'm sitting above the grounds, one of the wooden tables, and I just witnessed a murder. The operator asked for him to explain, so he keeps going. First thing you need to know is that Nohoi's nest has an underground gambling operation. I was down there gambling. I know that's illegal, but I just want to relive stress. I'm not a criminal. If someone see someone die, I have to report it. I met this guy. He claimed to be a big shot at Limpo. Got talking. Before long, we decided to start a one-on-one poker gamble in a private room. That's the thing you can do. So we go over there, play a few rounds. The gambling's doing well. It's an even match. Eventually, I get thirsty. I ask if I can get a drink at the bar. My opponent agrees. I exit the room. I must have come across as shitty because my opponent made sure to hide their cards. I walk directly to the open area. It's run by this guy named Elsa. I order a drink, sit down, relax. I notice a decorative knife Elsa's hung on the bar. It's nice looking. I talk with Elsa. He gives me some poker advice. Feeling more confident, I decide to get back to the game. Interesting. This implies that this takes place before the events of the Zodiac trial. I stand up, walk across the room, and open the door of the private room. I won't spoil that game for anyone who hasn't watched my playthrough or wants to play for themselves, but there are a few connections, but I don't want to point out too many. Then again, maybe doing so is important to getting people intrigued. I'll have to think about that, I guess. Standing right in the doorway, I feel my legs freeze up. My heart's plummeting. My opponent, the Olympo Big Shot, is still in his chair. The only problem is he's been stabbed several times in the gut. I don't even need to get closer to know he's dead. And I begin to panic, turn around, walk to catch my breath. I'm freaking out, like I'm not a criminal or anything. I've never seen a dead body before. I'm walking toward the exit. I see this one guy. He's got slick black hair, leather jacket, kind of short. He was slouching, didn't get a great look, but I saw him gripping something by his side. It was that decorative knife and had flecks of blood on it. I ran after him up the stairs, but once I got back to the actual restaurant of Noise Nest, I couldn't see him anywhere. I asked the receptionist if she saw anyone last minute, but they claimed they didn't. So now I'm sitting here reporting everything to you. I didn't know the guy who got stabbed very well, but you know, it's my civic duty to report major crime, so here I am, bye. And then they hung up. Huh. A lot of details there for a simple murder report. Couldn't he have done the job just by saying Noise Nest was a front and a murder happened? Well, it made my job easier. Getting that report, we made our way over to Noise Nest immediately. We had long suspected an underground casino was there. What's more, we have evidence to suggest it was a do-out operation. Fortunately, there was no hard evidence of this, and illegal gambling's a pretty light offense, so getting a warrant to search the place was more effort than it was worth. Of course, the first-hand account of murder taking place changes things an awful lot. We got down there and raided the building ASAP. Fortunately, it looks like somehow the do-outs got wise to the fact the police were coming. I mean, once a dead body was found, they probably had to assume someone caused somebody to come snooping. The result of that is when we got here, most of the evidence in the casino was disposed of, and everyone but the staff was gone. That includes a witness. And the dead body, of course. Huh. Yeah, we got no leads on the witness right now. Barely even a description. Hopefully he'll show up directly to the station soon enough, but if not, the fear is he will somehow be concerned by the fact he was at an underground casino and subsequently refused to testify, afraid that we'd focus on the illegal gambling. The dead body's definitely a bigger problem, though. We looked all over and we can't find hide nor hair of them. No bloodstains or anything, though we got forensics searching the place. If things stay the way they are, it's going to be really difficult to solve this much of anything. Well, I'll give you this. It's certainly an interesting case. How bizarre. Bizarre enough to be worth my time, that is. I expected as much. This is another reason I decided to call you the scene. The situation seems somewhat right up your alley. Damn right, this is up my alley. Okay, now I'm fired up. There's a bunch we need to do. First up, crime scene. Alleged or not, I wish to inspect it. Sure thing. Judging by the testimony of the call, we can more or less trace it back to a specific private room. That one. Valdera pointed out to me as I was off. I walked right over and entered the scene. It was being inspected quite thoroughly by a number of officers wearing masks and gloves. Forensics team, got it. I stayed mindful of their work and looked from a distance. Wasn't much to observe. Directly facing the door was a chair on the furthest table, and the closer one was facing opposite that. There wasn't any blood around. I stepped out of the room. Well, that was pointless. Made a judgment call fast, huh? So far, I am unimpressed. We're not incompetent, Lav. If there's any clues, you'd have found them by now. Is that right? Yeah. At any rate, viewing the scene with my own eyes gave me a perspective. That was the true point. So then it wasn't pointless. Next up, we need to interview the witnesses. I heard one specific name in the story given to us. Am I right to presume this also fellow is currently under our care? Under our care might be overselling it, but yeah, we got him if you want to try interviewing it. Might be a bit tricky, though. All the more enticing, my dear Belterra. Well, I guess the game could just be referencing the Zodiac trial rather than supposedly taking place in the same universe, though it's hard to say. Alright, let's go give the big man an old tongue lashing, and just like that, we walked over the bar. Standing behind it was an incredibly bored-looking gangster, Osa, so how to tackle this? I thought for a second before settling on an approach. Confidently, I walked right up to the bar and began to lean on it. Ah, Osa. Now, this isn't quite a coincidence meeting each other in a place like this. The world is just so crazy. Osa looked me over with discerning eyes. Do I know you? No, but you will. Laverna Smith, pleasure to be at your service. I held out my hand for a handshake. After a few seconds of not being reciprocated, I retracted and continued stride. So you're the owner of this little establishment? I'm impressed. I really dig the ambience down here. Could do for more subdued lighting pattern and all, but that'll not give this place hawk marks. Also turned to Chief Arranger standing behind me. Do I have to talk to her? Yes. Why are you so hostile to me, Osa? It's not you. It's a whole lot of you. I got nothing to say with any of you regarding this. Aldera stepped up to get involved. Let me guess, because you didn't want to get your little underground casino scheme busted, right? Underground casino? Whatever do you mean? This whole underground area. This place isn't in use. You have a little literal bar table set up in here. Not currently in use. I was having it renovated, being expansion of the restaurant. It's a little process to be sure. And this underground place is hidden behind a secret compartment in one of your storage closets. Hey, when I purchased the property, it already had that compartment. And it's not my... I'm clearly not Batman. I just bought the place and it already had the Bat Cave and Batmobile in it. Where will we find evidence of that? I don't know. Maybe. Since it was a secret compartment, maybe they hid it in the original blueprints. Found tons of gambling equipment paraphernalia hastily shoved into one of your private rooms. All that, I'm a gambling hobbyist. It's my collection. I like collecting defunct items from casinos all over the country. My own place was getting a bit too cramped, so I moved all over here. I apologize for that. Someone called the police and gave testimony. The place was an underground casino. We looked where they told us and found all this. Some random person must have decided to have a laugh. The witness was able to identify this underground area. Oh, good point. Must have been a prank by one of the renovators. Maybe they don't like the pay. A prank that just so happens to coincide with all casino equipment and found stuff in there. They probably saw it as I was storing my casino equipment here and thought to incorporate that into the lie. Yeah, you can definitely tell he's practiced to know exactly how to avoid this. Perhaps he's even dealt with busts before and has since learned how to deal with them. Frustration, Baldera threw her hands up and walked away. She was having trouble handling Osa. I hate to say it, you guys, but it's going to be near impossible to get any sort of indictment to stick with just the... I mean, unless we get a bunch of witness testimonies, which I doubt we'll be able to. Well, there you go. I slammed my fist on the bar. Who cares, huh? Also, I don't give two shits about whatever unscrupulous activities you perform beneath the ceiling. For my part, I believe I'm leaving my fate in the hands of the gods recreationally, and moderation is a wonderful experience. I do not begrudge the casino rack in the slightest. What I begrudge, however, is the murder at the ending of life. That and that alone is my purpose here tonight. Discover the truth of such a heinous act, and if you truly wish to obscure a crime most foul when occurred in your watch, well, you're no greater than scum. If there was a thing like an underground casino operating under here, I guess I could give a hypothetical account. A smile crossed my face. A brilliant concession, I must say. I'm glad we can come to an agreement. So then let me begin my questioning. On this hypothetical night that may or may not have occurred, do you remember the last person to approach your bar? No, can't say I could have. The faces all blur together, then I take it? No, I remember faces, but if there really was, then earlier tonight I was occupied for most of the night. An important VIP match would hypothetically have been taking place in one of the private rooms. I would have been officiating. One of my workers would be tending the bar instead. Oh, so this is what happened in Locke's story, which means this murder is likely tied to that. I imagine it's no coincidence the very first deck, Laverna here, is tied into all the others, with most notably being the last one, which could very well lead to... We still don't know how the story ends, so it's entirely possible this could end with her death, for better or for worse. Likely for worse, since, you know, we're playing as Laverna, and so by definition, we're invested in seeing her win, or at least survive, hypothetically. Objection, you claim you weren't at the bar during the night, hypothetically. However, this contradicts the testimony in the 911, they clearly named you as a hypothetical. What do you have to say about that, hypothetically? You just stood there for a couple seconds, they shrugged their hands. I don't know what to say, maybe they just mistook me for someone else. Hard to believe that anyone would mistake another bartender for you. And your witness must be lying. I was hypothetically officiating the private gamble, that's all I know. Is that a do-out line? Excuse me? Chief Arain took a step forward. That is that what the Duats told you to say? No one has told me what to say. What exactly are you getting at? Bodies do not just disappear. Just like evidence of this being a casino was disposed of, I think so too was our dead body. I do not know how much you know also, but I do know, having known, this whole operation was due up front for quite some time. I allowed it to exist because it was the least of my problems, but a murder, that's now my problem. I have no doubt you're responsible for dumping that body we're looking for. The only question that remains in my mind is whether you dumped the body to keep your casino operation afloat, or related. This whole murder was also a Duat operation. Tell me now and I'll go easy on you. Whoa. Coming a little hard there, eh, Orion? I looked over to Asa and how he'd respond. His face just hardened. Any progress I might have made was just wiped away. Don't get this through your thick skulls. Your whole presence here is a complete goose chase. Nobody died down here. Whoever called you lied. You're just wasting your time. I'll be the judge of that. Oh, judge away. Tear this place up all you want, but you won't find a lick of evidence that anyone died here. You're gonna end this investigation with nothing to show for it. I have nothing else to say to any of you. Keep pestering me if you want, but you won't get any worthwhile response. That ended the conversation pretty thoroughly and clearly. Somewhat defeated, the four of us walked from the bar. Well, that could have gone better. Indeed. You cannot hope to get any useful information out of criminal scum. This outcome was inevitable. You say so, Chief. At this point, a plainclothes officer ran up and whispered something to Seth. Seth nodded and dismissed her. Alright, I gotta dip for a bit, huh? Really gonna bail on us like that? No, I'm gonna try and help out. Apparently we got a report of some muted gunshots in the area. Right now? No, apparently this took place around the time when the initial 911 call from a mystery witness. Don't ask me why you didn't get around here until now, but might be related. Then again, this isn't exactly a good part of town, so maybe they're unrelated. It's a single witness account of hearing something like bullet shots. Still, I'm gonna double check on that. Seth nodded and excused him from the area. Valdera sighed. Oh, this case is gonna be a real headache, huh? I don't even know how we're gonna put a dent in it. We're just missing so much information. Indeed, conspiracy cases are difficult. Conspiracy cases? Murders carried out and covered up by large groups of people. It's logical to assume the Olympo big shot was the target of the Duats for whatever reason. Then all the employees worked together to hide the body and remove traces of the crime. In fact, the reason we cannot locate the witness to anyone anymore could be because he's already been handled. No, how horrible. Actually, cracking conspiracy case is near impossible. We may be at a dead end. Why are all of you so sure about that? I think jumping to the idea that this is a conspiracy murder might be a little hasty. Oh, you have an alternative explanation? Nothing fully formed right now, Chief. I see. Valdera sighed once again. Gosh, times like this I really wish Issa was still with us. He was great with cases like this. Indeed. Issa, huh? This is the second time you mentioned him. Mind filling me in? Oh, right. You never met him, huh, Lav? Well, simply put, he was a previous officer on the force with us. He was like an incredible detective, super respected. I liked him quite a bit, and him and Seth were close as brothers. So that's why Seth was trying to warn Eva about her sister getting into trouble, because he was close to Issa, and Issa ended up getting killed because he was close to something big. He certainly was an effective officer, one of my best. He was pretty much family to us. You would have gotten along with him super well, Lav. He was really into the tricky mysteries that are your specialty. Like there's this one murder case where one guy looked so guilty, he destroyed his computer right after the murder and threw away his shoes to hide the fact that he had ones that matched the footprints. He bought a one-way ticket out of the country. We arrested him, interrogated him, but no matter how we investigated, it was impossible to find any evidence that directly proved he was the culprit. But then Easter came in. He figured out the guy we thought was the murderer. He was actually innocent. Instead, it was a close friend that did the murder. Our suspect figured that out and decided to start acting incredibly suspicious. That would direct our attention towards him, trying to prove he did it. And the suspect could just sit back safely, knowing we'd never actually be able to put him in jail. Huh, clever little trick. Right. Issa was great at seeing through things like that. Ooh, oh, and I haven't told you about his biggest accomplishment. He foiled an assassination plot on Governor Aija. Really? By himself? I mean, not all by himself, but he was the main force behind it. Wow, that truly is impressive. Right? Issa was special. His intuition was great. He could figure out anything. Truly is a shame what happened to him. Yeah. Valdera looked down. For a moment, it looked like she was going to end things there. Then she kept talking. It's my fault. I should have been there. Do not say that, Miss Vasquez. I was the one who assigned those two to that case. Those two? Seth and Issa working a pretty standard case. It was super late at night, a store had been broken into and stolen from. Those two thought they had a lead on the culprit, so they went searching an area of the city. According to Mr. Johnson, the two split up to try and search for the culprit more efficiently. All of a sudden, he heard a gunshot. He ran over the source and saw the body of Mr. Dolus bleeding out. Further down the street, a hooded figure fled the scene. Evidently, the two's hunch the burglar was in the area was correct. Mr. Johnson opted to stay and treat Mr. Dolus' injuries, but it was a little too late. Horrible. I'm sorry to hear that. I still remember that night. I heard Issa right until the incident. Wait, you heard him? Seth and Issa were using standard police radios to communicate their movements to each other as they swept the area. On a whim with nothing better to do, I turned in their channel to hear how the investigation was going. I heard Issa clear another random alley, then silence for a couple of minutes. Turns out Seth's already called the hospital for Issa. Wow. It's a sore subject for Seth. I'm pretty sure he blames himself more than me for how it all went down. I extend my deepest condolences for the incident. He sounds like an absolutely fascinating character. I've no doubts he's a treasure that'll be rightfully missed. Yeah, well, that's a risk being a cop poses. Even still, I never imagined Mr. Dolus, of all people, dying. I always pictured him as an invincible force, though maybe that was just a projection. Projection? Well, he was the nephew of the great Apis, probably where he got all the inherent skill from. Again, Apis, I'm not familiar. Apis was my predecessor, the previous chief of police. Yeah, Apis is a legend around here, kind of responsible for whipping a pantheon into shape when things were getting particularly bad. He did a lot of really remarkable stuff. I think most people associate him for the whole governor bust thing. Governor bust? The governor at the time was apparently super dirty. They had connections to Duats, taken a bunch of bribes. Luckily, he appointed Apis. Apis turned around and exposed all this corruption. It was really huge news at the time. Reducing Apis' influence to a single crime is to undersell him. He led the force with an iron fist. Our department was never as strong as it was under his rule. There's a good reason such a large portrait of him resides at Police HQ. At least that much is required to honor him. Nowadays, the force is really struggling. No offense, Chief. I mean, we've just got a lot less power. It's indeed difficult. We have limited funding. Additionally, I've had to lay off many officers who don't have proper disposition to wield such power. Training new recruits is a timely proposition. All in all, it's just a very difficult situation. You should really bug Aija for more funding, Chief. I mean, you two are pretty close, right? Oh, not at all, actually. What would give you that impression? Oh, no need to try and hide it, Chief. I've seen you two talking together enough times to know you got a pretty good relationship with her. Which I think is a great thing. I'm a big Aija fan. But why don't you just ask her for more money? That'd help a lot. Ariane sighed. You do not understand, Ms. Vasquez. Difficult as it may be, it's better to have limited funding, huh? How's that work? Let me extend this question to Laverna. Would you be in favor of a police state? Well, that doesn't sound ideal for me. Whoa, who's saying about police states? I'm just saying we should expand a bit. And I'm saying it's preferable to have a smaller force of higher quality than a larger force of less. You might not understand that, Mr. Vasquez, but being a police officer is a great power. In many ways, you could be seen as above the law. A lot of people could not properly wield that power. As much as I hate the Duats, if you ask me who is more dangerous, an evil police officer or evil Duat member, I'd actually say the evil police officer every time. After all, you can always throw a Duat member in prison. Maybe we're not the glorious force that Apis led. But Apis' force had a dark side. If keeping our police force properly balanced means crime gets a bit worse, it's a sacrifice we must occur. Huh. Never thought of things like that. Well, this is not a philosophy many in my position share. Interesting insight into Ariane's psychology. File that away for later, but for now we're wasting too much time. Alright, enough casual conversation. I was brought here for one reason alone. Right here, right now, we're going to solve this murder case. Whoa, solve it? With all the evidence we're missing? We don't even have a body. How do you intend to solve it? It certainly does seem unlikely. Well, perhaps solving is a bit of an understatement. However, I can come close enough. Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Ms. Vasquez is correct, Laverna. I don't know how you do your jobs, but as police officers, we have no use for half-baked theories. I bit my tongue at that. Look, give me a chance to do my magic. If you leave thoroughly unimpressed, then no harm's been done. However, I can solve the murder that never happened. You may be able to praise my name in full force. Well, when you put it like that, now I gotta hear what you're thinking. Give me your best shot. That is not your call to make. Oh, right. You do well to remember that. Now, Laverna, attempt your explanation. Seriously? It's a matter of principle. You can really stand to loosen up, Chief. Perhaps. Can I go now? Please. Excellent. I closed my eyes and put one finger to my forehead. Slowly, I rubbed my temple. I tapped it twice. She's using the Jimmy Neutron Brain Blast. I thought you already had an explanation. I do. Then why are you still stalling? You're reminding me of Ms. Vasquez. Not a compliment. I'm right here, Chief. Correct. The pause is for dramatic effect, but seeing as how I'm dealing with a couple of heartless cretins, it's sort of ruined out. Cretins? I appreciate the pause, Lab. The way I see it, crime is difficult to prosecute. A vague description of the victim, a vague description of the killer, no idea who the witness is, no physical evidence to be found. We're aware. That's the issue with the investigation. Really, there's only two characters involved in the story we can subject to scrutiny. We've completed the step with one of the suspects, so why not the other? I don't follow the witness. I wish to call into question his authenticity. Huh? Why would the witness be lying? He's the one who brought this murder to our attention. Classic blunder, Baldera. Never skip to motive. It breaks the rules of mysteries. Who done it, how done it, why done it. This is the order must be tackled in. I question how you intend to question a witness when we have no way of contacting him at present. There's no need for additional questions. We have his testimony, the account itself. Within it, I spotted 3 critical contradictions, and these shall unravel the whole event. Firstly, the case of the impossible stab wound. I walked over the supposed crime scene. Here's at this very spot the crime scene was spotted by our witness, if that is his real occupation. I would assume not. Our would-be Olimpo victim met a grisly end in this room. Baldera remind us what was supposed to be the cause of death. Stabbed repeatedly in the chest. Stabbed repeatedly in the chest. I heard. Where exactly was the so-called witness when we saw this crime? In this doorway, if I recall correctly. And where the victim? There's no need to draw things out, this Laverna. I understand what you're hinting at. If the victim was indeed lying dead in his chair, you would not be able to see the stab wounds from the doorway. However, that only holds up if you assume he was playing at the closest chair. If he died at the further chair, the reasoning holds water. Oh goodness, I simply didn't think of that. If only there was a possible way to figure out which the seats our victim was sitting at. Laverna, I do not find humor in sarcasm. Right, sorry. The witness mentioned the victim had his cards, hid his cards as the witness was passing by. If they did, they had to have been the closer chair. Ergo, the witness claimed to see something they couldn't have. Well, okay, just because you couldn't see the stab wounds doesn't mean the witness couldn't have seen them all. You're just taking a step or two inside and get a decent angle. But the witness himself said his legs froze up and at the sight he fled right away. We cannot take the witness's impromptu statement word for word. Having just witnessed a murder, it's probable to assume it was too shaken up to be 100% accurate. Fair enough. This was my point. Oops. If this was my only point, I'd be inclined to agree with you. A minor inconsistency is enough to draw hard conclusions. Think at your next points? Certainly. So then we have the case of the impossibly traveling knife. Ooh, hope I had to sneeze there, so hope I muted the mic in time. So then, we have the case of traveling knife. This one's a bit more straightforward. According to the witness, his killer suspect lived with a decorative knife that hung at Os's bar. Oh, I guess you're getting at how this random person could hold that knife. I mean, it's likely hung up at the dang bar. It's probably impossible to steal something like that. Well, that assumes it was in fact stolen. Our current understanding includes the heavy possibility Osa helped dispose of the body. If that's the case, the knife could have been given directly, and Osa could have been an active accomplice. Whoa, I just thought Osa was trying to hide and keep us from prosecuting him on the whole casino angle. Whatever the truth, I actually care not for the specifics of how the knife was obtained. I'm instead talking about the specifics of when the knife was obtained. Again, let me recount the sequence of events. The witness goes to the bar where Osa is. He sees the decorative knife. He then directly heads to a private room to gamble. He finds the victim stabbed to death. Dazed, he walks away and happens to spot this individual holding a decorative knife with blood on it. The way the story is told to us, it seems easy to miss a crucial detail, but looking at it objectively, by the witness account, the murder must have taken place when he was at the bar, when he still saw the decorative knife there. So the suspect took the decorative knife when the witness was discovering the victim, and the true killer was someone else entirely with a completely different murder weapon. I thought the witness they saw blood flecks on the knife. They're dark and they're shaken up, they could easily be mistaken. Or they could have mistaken the knife the suspect was holding for the decorative, when in reality they're 2 separate knives. I shall grant this is suspicious, but no points yet brought up conclusively to contradict the witness. Chief, you present the arguments that the witness undoubtedly would use himself to try and weasel this way out of the situation, and for that I thank you. But let's move on to my last point, the case of the impossible call. I fail to see how making a police call would be impossible. It's a sensational title. For the final time, think back to the testimony. After following the suspect up to the front of the restaurant, the receptionist said they didn't see anybody leave, and then sat down nearby table to call the police. Put yourself in the place of this witness. In your eyes, you definitely saw this murder suspect walk up the stairs before he came up. However, the suspect is saying they hadn't left the store. What would you be thinking? 2 possibilities. Either the murder suspect didn't, in fact, leave, but instead circled around and hid in the front. With such little space, they'd probably be hiding the restrooms next to the tables. Or alternatively, the receptionist just lied about not seeing the suspect leave and is in on the situation. In either, what sense does it make us sit down at one of the tables and quite audibly call the police to explain the situation? You just saw someone murdered, and you might be the only direct witness towards the murder. Why would you casually sit next to either the real murderer's hiding place or within earshot of the murderer's accomplice? Not even throwing away the murder aspect, would you report the underground casino in earshot of the receptionist? Would the receptionist really let this snitch leave? This all seems implausible. Once again, Lavert, I defer this to witness panic state of mind. By all accounts, calling the police in a restaurant seems like a poor decision. However, people do react to stress in different ways. It's plausible they did not properly consider the situation. Again, if it was just this, I'd say sure. Any of the points I've made on their own don't prove anything, but I found not 1, not 2, but 3 extremely odd points just to witness his brief testimony. Doesn't seem a little too convenient. It does. So then you said you'd move to the motive after explaining yourself. What do you propose the real reason for these contradictions? By how I've been talking, you seem to think the witness is lying about their account. Why? Hey, hi, how are you doing? Looking great. Just popping in to give you a sort of supplementary tutorial about the early one about deduction. See, sometimes you want to say the opposite of a statement to make your deduction work. Well, never fear, the inversor is here. You might see a purple screen when the statements are around. That's the inversor. You can click it to toggle it on and off. Submit a statement with the inversor on and make your deduction. The statement will play opposite of what it once said. Mean you're right. Not really. It makes solving these harder, but hey, keep your chin up. I believe in you. Caller saw the supposed murder when the kill should have happened. Ah, so if I say this, it goes reverse. Not see the supposed when the kill happened, and alright. It's simple. Ah, I got it on the first try. This is called the murder that never happened for a reason. It's always tempting to jump to conspiracy. Any evidence against your preconceived conclusion is just a product of that conspiracy. When we didn't find a body, any weapon, any evidence, we chalked it up to Dual conspiracy. When Olsen said he wasn't at the bar, we deemed him a liar. When the witness stripped over the story, we gave him the benefit of the doubt because he's all we had. But with none of the evidence of a murder's adding up, why are we assuming a murder even happened? So wait, then you're saying this whole thing is just a crank call? Seriously? Explains why the witness did not wish to be identified. Still, it could all be a prank. I didn't say it was a prank. After all, this call got us to raid the casino, did it not? Were it a lesser crime, we wouldn't have arrived with such urgency to disregard the restaurant owner's rights. If this casino owner is really run by the Duats, I think there'd be plenty of people who would have motive to shut down this operation. So in the end, you equated us all to a waste of time. Well, you got to see my deductions in action. That may have been the biggest waste of time of all. Had you not intervened and no evidence was found, we would have just ended up in the same place we are now. Okay, sure, but now you can end the investigation sooner with a more certain note, right? I suppose. Good job, then. Ariane did not look particularly impressed. However, I had done my job, solved the case. She began to disperse the police with the investigation team. Looked like everyone would be leaving Nohoy's nest soon, but while Ariane might have been done with me, I wasn't quite done with her. I approached her. Hey, can we talk for a little bit? Private, I mean. Sure. You know, to finish up things here, we can have a personal conversation. Thanks. I walked over to the corner of the casino. I stood around and waited for the time Ariane finished things up. Once she was free, she walked over. Laverna. Perhaps I did not come off as authentic as I should earlier. Let me extend my earnest thanks for your help today. After all, I was the one who called you over this late at night, and did some impressive deduction as well. Thank you, Chief. Really, I was just trying to be helpful. Oh, you were. I must ask, is there any reason you have no desire to join the police force? Admittedly, I was hesitant about working with you for a time, but despite your eccentricities, I think you'd be a valuable asset for my team. You need to go through proper procedures, of course, but if you wish to become an officer, I've no doubt you'd be able to. I'm humbled, ma'am. Really, it means a lot for you to say that to me, but if it's okay with you, I'd rather be a private investigator for now. Why? I appreciate the freedom being an independent contractor offers me. Being your own boss comes with risks, sure, but also has its own sort of security. More importantly, even though we can agree my skills are useful, I think we'd also Agree that I somewhat doubt I'd mesh well with being an official officer. As such, I think concurrent arrangement suits me fine. A sensible answer. There was a hint of suspicion in those words. She didn't fully trust my response. I have looked into you, Laverna Smith. Oh, how flattering. Considering how much time we've worked together, I would think it's only customary. At any rate, you seem to have an impressive resume. My website certainly boasts as much. Indeed, your rating is certainly impressive, almost 5 stars across the board. Glowing reviews. What can I say? When I promise satisfaction, I'm tasked with delivering. You could say a lot about me, but I am, to put it lightly, determined. I can see. You have been in Panthea for longer than I expected. You have reviews dating back all the way to almost 2 years ago. I'm surprised I haven't heard of you until quite recently. That right. Well, to be fair, I handled pretty low-rate cases for a long time. Gotta build up trust, you know? Not that surprising Caper of the Lost Cat didn't come to your attention. Sure enough, still, I try to familiarize myself with the private investigators of the city, so learning I'm unaware of you for so long is a minor hit to my pride. Well, there's no need for that. I also noticed you hadn't been taking on many requests as of late. Well, that's because I've been a lot busier lately. After all, I'm not being now called in to do work with you guys. I see. Well, that makes sense. Oh, and I also had stuff I wanted to speak with you about. Oh, right. Please proceed. Sure. So I've been conducting an investigation of Maximilian Collins. Oh, you're still looking at that? But of course. It's an unsolved mystery, and there's nothing I hate more than that. True. I guess I simply question why you're so laser-focused on that murder, as opposed to the other cock-robin murders. I just feel there's more weird parts about that one in particular. For one, forensics weren't even able to confirm if the body was killed at the crime scene or moved post-mortem. How is a report like that inconclusive? The cause of death was most likely blunt force trauma. Bleeding was minimal, so determining if there was an appropriate amount of blood at the scene was a less reliable method. Sure. Anyways, decided to try and check up on the victim's movements and behavior before the murder. Felt like could be a good place to start. So you're operating on the assumption there was a motive to this kill? There usually is. At present, the Cock Robin murders are designated as a serial killing case. Serial killers don't require motives. Maybe, but just hear me out for a bit. Maximilian Collins was in a pretty poor financial state. He'd been estranged from his parents and sister for some time, and had numerous debts which were starting to compile interest. Apparently, a few days before his death, he visited a storage locker site that housed a number of Veronica Collins' personal belongings that had yet to be distributed. Are you suggesting he broke into that storage locker? Saying it seems like it could have been possible. Veronica Collins was a prominent businesswoman in her own right, and close friends with Odin Deisma. Who knows what sort of secrets she might have left behind? Who knows what someone down on his luck like Maximilian might do to raise cash if he was in debt? He was found dead outside of a gala of influential people. You see the dots? The ones you're attempting to connect? Sure. But this is pure supposition. Well, here's the kicker. It's something I noticed way back when we found the first crime scene. Maximilian Collins' car was not at the scene of the crime. You can trust me when I say it's a long walk from the start of the forest to the gala's location. So either he decided to do a long trek to the gala, which is very possible, walk all the way to the gala he wasn't even invited to, or got to the location in a car that wasn't his. I see your point. However, the fact remains the false murder weapon was a bell. It's in line with the Cock Robin killings. Are you saying someone at the gala was knowledgeable about it and decided to use it to their advantage? Or that someone there was responsible? I'm not sure. I'm just raising possibilities for now. Speaking of which, I have a request for you, Chief. Oh, go ahead. Would it be possible to get a list of the Cock Robin killings? It would be fully kept confidential, of course. I could sign something to that effect if you wanted. That could probably be arranged, certainly. Awesome. Specifically, would you mind including the officers first present at the scene of each murder? Oh, I see. See? You now become the chief of police, Laverna, by being an idiot. The Cock Robin killings are identified by the items placed on the victim's post-mortem. You suspect it could be doing a police officer planting evidence when they arrive. I mean, no disrespect, Chief. Just, it would square the fact you've caught the killer of one of the victims and they didn't seem to know anything about the Cock Robin killings. The alleged killer. We were unable to convict them. At any rate, you're not the first to suggest this line of inquiry. Seth proposed a similar theory. Unfortunately, it is correct. There's no common denominator, no single officer first present in all scenes. Ah, that's a shame. All the same, I would like a copy of the list if possible. Very well, is that all? Actually, not quite. I have one last question specifically at you, Chief Ariane. I took a breath and steeled myself. I might need to play this one a bit more tactfully than usual. Just as you looked into me, I have looked into you some. Want to know who I was working with, of course, and I'm sorry for bringing up a tough topic, but I came across the news of your brother, Taka. I'm so sorry for your loss. I appreciate the sentiment, but it's been years. I am fine. Still, it can be rough. I actually saw the speech you gave where you referenced your brother's death. You talked about how it was a powerful motivator for your job, to make sure the deaths like his never happen again. Right. I have to assume, given this context, that means he was killed in the result of some criminal activity? Tread lightly. Yeah, no kidding. I didn't want to poke the bear on this, but I was just too curious a person, too curious for my own good. I was just wondering if you could tell me a bit more about that incident. Oh, there's nothing to tell. He was an unintended casualty caused by some standard street gang activity. That case was standard and has long since been closed. Got it. When I was looking into some, I found the fun little fact that I was super surprised I hadn't heard about it till now. Your brother used to be Governor Ija's husband. Isn't that a bit of a weird situation? Then Ariane, perhaps the one thing I completely unexpected, she let out a little laugh. She recomposed herself. Wow, I actually admire this. You don't get in my mind would be this bold, Laverna. I didn't know how to respond. You're direct, I'll give you that, but no more, not more than you are misguided. Misguided? Whatever you're imagining, I can assure you, you're completely off the mark. I'm not going to dwell on this. It's bad standard to punish curiosity and speculation, but please leave it there, Laverna. My brother and his relationship with Laverna, neither of those things are remotely relevant. Bring it up again, and I'm afraid I'll not be able to brush things aside with a good-hearted laugh. Forcibly bringing the conversation to an end there, the chief of police turned around and walked away. I was still missing a lot of pieces in the grand picture that was Panthea. I couldn't even tell who truly had ill intent. Based on everything I knew, there was one thing I was confident on. Taka, his death, and the connection he represents between Aija and Arain was not, in fact, irrelevant. One way or another, I'd get to the truth of this. I'd get to the truth of it all. Question the philosophical kind. Van Dyne's seventh. That's right, Pucker, I'm bringing it back up. Does it apply in this case? To restate, a rule doesn't step to the plate if you're working with something less than a murder. This was a reported murder, but if we take Laverna's word for it, it never really happened. So, does it break the rule or not? On the face of it, it seems obvious, right? No murder breaks the rules, but I don't know if I could write everything off that quickly. I mean, view it metaphysically, does not the assumption that there is a murder count as a form of murder in itself? I swear I'm not high. Let's put it in a less pretentious way. That rule is created not because there literally needs to be murder in text, as we as humans need a supposed death to get invested. I don't think it's specifically required. Just think the point is it needs to be a very major crime. Like, there are some mysteries that revolve less around murder and more around large-scale theft, like the James Bond movie with Goldfinger. There was people who died within that movie, but the large issue was more that the main villain was seeking the biggest heists on Earth to become one of the wealthiest people to ever exist, and that's... Uh, although I guess that's not really much of a mystery. But then again, spy movies do have a lot of mystery to them, since, that's the whole reason they're spies, to get information and catch the culprits. Yeah, I think the reason murder is a standard is because it's a pretty unambiguously major crime. Trouble getting invested in crimes, but think about solving fictional crimes. We'll table this discussion of fictional crimes for later. So if the supposed murder actually successfully protects the illusion, is the difference from any other killing? Again, the actual damage of the crime can't be the metric we're measuring here. After all, it's an incorrect assumption to believe that a murder crime has the biggest ripple effect. A high-profile robbery of some antique painting would have far greater repercussions than double homicide of plain old Dick and Jane. Believe otherwise, and you're just naive. Yeah, this is just what I was going for. I just used Goldfinger as an example because he was stealing gold from some of the most well-known stuff on Earth. And yeah, if someone stole the Mona Lisa from the Louvre, that would definitely be a much bigger, or a, that would definitely be a pretty international incident. Not to mention espionage. No, save for certain people, murders don't really matter that much. Van Dyne's seventh rule only matters because of the illusion it creates in the mind of the reader. At least that's my assertion. What say you? Does this break said rule? Oh, these are interesting options. Shattered. I can see the person we're playing as here is a bit more cheeky. But I do save your point, save the stuff about murder. Exactly. Per usual, I speak the complete and total truth. Van Dyne's seventh is intact. And murder isn't really that big a deal. Again, not down with the whole murder part of that. I feel like we're getting in the weeds with this. Let's just say you agree with me. Hmm. Fine, fine. Excellent. I suppose it doesn't really matter too much. I mean, if we're talking about expectations, you're just supposed to scale up the stakes, not decrease them. Insider tip, that's why third-rate mysteries will have a killer that kills like 3 people and plan to murder one more person before they get caught. See, the detective catches them before they kill the last one. They saved a life, and that justifies their presence. I suppose bringing a culprit to justice is worthwhile enough justification some occasionally, but that's a little more flimsy, especially when the killer's kind of justified. In my opinion, for a detective to actually be worthwhile, the system must be notably made better by them finding the truth. That's why detectives kill serial killers before their plans are worthwhile if hackneyed. That's why detectives that catch serial killers before they can finish their plans are worthwhile if hackneyed. As for Laverna, well, I suppose that remains to be seen. Yeah, this was also something that Danganronpa V3 did bring up. Some cases have the truth maybe a bit more painful than the seemingly simple case showed up like that. And I do like when they get philosophical like that. Now, I do And while we're here, I will admit I'm a bit curious about our little host here, because she does seem to, at first, she just seemed to be a person who was discussing things from, that have already happened, but I can't help but wonder if there's more to it than that. A silver lock. This one jumps straight to a silver lock. Question, whose story do you wish to follow next? I want to say this murder because I don't want to... I imagine this one is first because they expect you to go for this one since it's the closest here. And this definitely does bring up a lot of interesting things that go on. It does seem to tie into her sister's storyline, however, with the corporate espionage. And this next one I'm willing to get to bet is going to be showing up here. The false murder is in this story, and it possibly might even be clarified that it was done, why it was done on top of that. Since this one has not hit a lock yet, let's go with this one first. Visible force. For such a dense city, it wasn't often you saw many people gathered together outside Panthea, especially not in a back alley such as this. So many people were occupying the space that frankly it looked like it was some sort of health hazard. Perhaps a narrow alleyway in the middle of nowhere wasn't the best location for a group meeting. Then again, considering the nature of this meeting, perhaps it was a perfect spot for it. Either way, something told me Yi wasn't exactly thinking about spatial accommodations when choosing the spot. That or he hadn't realized how many people would be showing up. Maybe he just thought it'd be a much smaller group. But, I mean, Lord knows I did. Pretty amazing, huh? Krish approached me from behind, wearing their typical shit-eating grin, an expression that made only more annoying now they were justified in it. Surprising. What's there to be surprised about? You should know just as well as I do how much the Duats were a complete shit stain, or they're akin to a plague of locusts swarming our whole city. They're bad for business, they're bad for branding, and they're bad for walking down the street. So of course people will be sick of it. Of course they'll be willing to stick it up their asses. That's what they want. The people, of course, not the Duats. The Duats wanted it to sort of defeat the whole point, you know? You get me, right? So yeah, it's completely expected people hate the Duats. That's not what I mean. Oh? Oh, I see. You're thinking, sure, people might not like them, but that's true about a lot of things. You have to be living a pretty sweet life if you didn't have stuff you hated. Plenty of things I don't like. I don't like what's going on with our government, but you don't see me storming Capitol Hill. Actually, if you did that, the government might, like, fight back on junk, so maybe a bad example. That's actually what kind of makes it an incredibly apt example. Well, yeah, poor guy doesn't seem to... Well, okay, you don't like the rapper's newest album, you don't go out and find and harass them. Some people do, but that's beside the point. The thing is, this ain't like that at all. It's a matter of, liberties. Civil liberties. It's a matter of not letting your rights get trampled on taking a stance. If you don't like how a cookie tastes, you can spit it out. I don't like a TV show, stop watching, but if you don't like being harassed by a gang, you can't just opt out. Unless you moved, but then the whole thing that's a whole thing people can't easily do, and everything, so it can't count. Point of order, some things are bad enough to move people to action. Why it stands? Things are like 1984 up here. It's like Handmaiden's Tale. You know, I've never actually read that book. I have read 1984, but that's because it's pretty common reading material in middle school. Which I guess explains why it's an easy one for people to be sure people will recognize. Like, The Giver. Like Fahrenheit 451. I am actually familiar with The Giver, but for some reason every time I see that I can't help but think of The Giving Tree, which is actually a pretty depressing story every time I go back to it. I was mildly impressed that Krish hadn't named a single contemporary young adult novel and floundering for dystopia-themed titles. So again, nothing surprising to me about people being willing to mobilize on this. Again, not what I meant. For real? I'm surprised you were able to mobilize all these people. Krish looked genuinely surprised. Seriously? Thought you knew me better than that. Clearly not. Well, shit like this makes it crystal clear you ain't local. Everyone in Panthea knows me. I'm a beloved figure around here. Beloved? Okay, maybe not universally, but you know what you get me. I mean, my Pop's Cafe was one of the highest attractions of the whole place, back when it was, you know, functioning and all that. I suppose these people all know you from your father's cafe? Well, clearly there are a few other ways in which people might know him. Pushing on that subject seemed unnecessary. Regardless, you did good work. Really? You mean it? A great work or good work? I called it good work. Again, I'm surprised you were the results. Wouldn't great be more, apt? Am I using that right? You are, and it isn't. What surprised me most about the crowd was the sheer variety of people present. It wasn't just a singular group of like-minded peers. It was a coalescence of people from all walks of life. Certainly, the group skewed towards the younger side. Plenty of people in high school, a bit older than that, some a bit younger, but there was full-fledged adults here as well. Some in their 20s, 30s, 40s, even in their 50s, 60s, 70s, out and about, gathered by some kid in a random back alley. As if you read my mind, Chris spoke up. Kinda impressive, right? So many different people showed up. See, that's what I'm telling you, this shit affects all of us. Old, young, don't make no difference. Whether your father or your son being run out of business or being fleeced by loan sharks, it affects you the same. Still drives you to fight. That's why a little crusade has gathered all types. Chris said this, but I've actually noticed a unifying theme among those gathered. There was one thing in common with every person I saw. Not one of them looked particularly well-to-do. Alright then, decent groups have been gathered. Decent. Small alley helps perception. We're talking about dealing with a city-wide threat. Well, it's not about the size of the dog in the fight, it's the fight in the dog. Sure. So the groups have been gathered. What exactly do you hope to get out of this exactly? Huh? What's the purpose of this meeting? That's a good question, Vels. That's a question you should already have the answer to, Krish. Aw, balls. This is like the opening to the first Men in Black movie where Jay goes to ask the military people why they're there. And the dude just goes, oh, because we're the best, the best, the best. We're here because we're the best, best. And then he just laughs. He's all, yeah, and apparently you guys don't know why we're here either. Well, it's kind of like a marketing session, you know? Marketing session? Well, that's not right, is it? Networking? Yeah, networking. It's business stuff where you gotta meet people who are on the same wavelength, the same field. It opens doors to having the right connections. And you know this because? A friend told me about it. Does this friend happen to have the last name of Carnegie? So this is sort of what this is. We're creating a network of these against duots. Gives us a leg up, you see? Now, when we're in trouble, we'll all know who we can turn to. United we stand. And that's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Saying it more incredulously isn't gonna change anything. I'm surprised at how much of a buzzkill you're being about this whole thing. You don't see the value of bringing network people together? Not for this. Not really, no. You know, I think this might be something of a you problem. Maybe. There was an awkward lull in the conversation. You know, but many of the group's eyes were being pulled in our direction. It made sense. I was standing next to the organizer of the whole thing. So it's just a network not to plan? Oh, of course we can plan. We will plan. Of course we're gonna plan. That's like Plan Central over here. Planet plan, population us. You're overselling it. Okay, so what is a plan? Well, you know, that's so you don't even plan? I got a plan, or I will. Look, that's what the meeting is for. A planned meeting, you know? A meeting to plan shit. What, did you think I was gonna plan the whole revolution? Sort of what made it sound like, what you made it sound like, buddy. You know me, that ain't my strong suit. So why would I be the one to come up with a master plan? We got a whole alley full of people, most of them probably more qualified to plan more shit than me. A surprisingly valid point. That's right, I accept my weaknesses. A little thing called humble ability. Maybe look up next time in the dictionary. Okay. Hey, actually, we already do have something in plan. Why didn't you lead with that? Then why didn't you lead with that? It's all here. He held up a binder they've been clutching in the right hand. We're gonna discuss how to use this little thing. What's that? This, my contemporary, is a nuclear missile. Weapon silo, a loaded gun. Krish really needed to work on cutting to the point. See, the Dwats don't like leaving a lot of evidence of their crime shit because they're criminals and all. I follow the concept. Right, so not a lot of traces. And actually sending their men to prison is an issue for the whole lot of reasons. Corruption, witness intimidation, pawns willing to take the fall, blah blah. So mounting a front is a whole evidentiary side of things. It seems like kind of a tricky task, you know? But I think that line of thinking is bullshit. Just because it's hard to get evidence on their men, just because they ain't clear use for that evidence doesn't mean jack. Hard doesn't mean impossible, and no clear use doesn't mean no use. On a technical level, Krish is not wrong. See, when I was gathering everybody up, I asked them to try and find whatever evidence they had against the Dwats and bring it. I wasn't expecting much. Not like anybody here has been digging into this shit. When you're terrorized day in, day out, you're sure to take some souvenirs. Picture here, screenshot there, a discarded bullet shell or two. Hey, hold up, that last thing seemed a bit more extreme than the first examples. And guess what? As usual, the group pulls through. We got a lot of pretty good shit collected here. I don't know, do something. You didn't think the next step through? Like I said, this shit's all about planning. Maybe we'll try to, I don't know, an online campaign? Maybe present it to a private eye? Heard from a buddy there's this new chick in town, maybe she'll help some in town. Maybe we do try the police, hope and pray. Point is, we can do something like this, maybe. Good to see you got this all figured out. Hey, you're giving me a lot of shit for someone's not doing much of anything yourself. That I merely shrugged. They do raise a decent point here, yeah. And I know there's one more thing in our favor. What's that? What do you think? Remember this whole thing started? We got Mr. Yi on our side. That's definitely got to give us an edge. I mean, like you said, he's actually a Duat. He's on the inside. He's like an inside man. So there's anyone who'd know how to take down the Duats, it'd be him. Now we got somebody who, like, knows our weak spots, stuff we could be super tactical. Insider knowledge. You never know what hit him. Actually, fuck that. I don't even want to know what hit him. Maybe we'll figure out the details later, but you get my point, right? I do. On paper, it was a solid idea. If we really did have a member of the Dwats in decent standing on our side, taking them down would certainly become a lot easier. Having just a single point of contact inside a gang like this would make a world of difference, which is why I had concerns. Krish, are you sure about Mr. Yi? Oh, he's definitely a member of the Dwats. I've seen him work with their regulars. He's been with them for a while. That's not... I took a deep sigh. Sounds like he's decently high standing with the Dwats. To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense why he'd flip on them then. Yeah, I totally agree. It's pretty weird, huh? Well, lucky us. Krish, I'm asking if we can trust him. Oh, ish. Can we trust him? Come on, you gotta know the answer to that. I suspected I did. I've known Yi for like a long time. He's completely different from most of those Duat assholes. He's been good to me since I was a kid. He's lent me cash a few times, too. He's solid. And then why is he Duat? His expression went blank for a moment. It's as though they could do nothing but blink. Ah, don't worry about it. Why is he a Duat? I'm pretty sure it was out of necessity or something. He was in pretty bad legal trouble a while ago, I think. Duat's helped him now, and now he owes them. Forget details, but I'm pretty sure it's not his choice. Well, if you say so, guess I'll trust you. What do you mean you guess? Still, it's worth taking precautions. Like what? Out of my pocket, I pulled out a dark purple switchblade knife. His eyes instantly flashed recognition. Just a glance, I knew what this was, saw the blade having to be protracted. Only precaution worth a shit. I did let out the blade and began spinning around my hand. The movement felt natural, like riding a bicycle. It had been many years since I first learned how to use the switchblade. Back then, I was clumsy and hesitant. I nicked myself quite a few times. Now flipping around my hand was akin to using a stress ball. Which was why I found the whole incredibly rude when Krish grabbed it from my hand. The hell? That's why I should be asking you. To my surprise, he looked legitimately miffed. It had been a while since I saw this expression on their face. This is a gathering of allies, united front. There's no place to be bringing weapons. By bringing something like this, you're undermining the trust this whole thing's based off of. If you bring a knife confronting enemies, a knife among allies is useless. With a cry, he turned around and dramatically flung the switchblade up. It swung high in the and landed on a nearby balcony, facing the alleyway. The whole scene drew a number of eyes. The second thought that might have been a bit of an overreaction. You think? For the record, I bring that knife everywhere I go, dumb shit. Whoops. I'll go get it. Without another word, I moved to the direction of the flung knife. For most people, hit landing that high would be an issue, but not for me. There's a convenient storm drain in just the right spot. I gripped around and began to scale the wall. Really wasn't hard in the slightest, and just like that, I made my way to the balcony. There you are, my old friend. Just as I made that touching reunion, I heard the sound of footsteps. Well, considering how many people were gathered in this area, it might not have been too big of a surprise. No, what was disconcerting about the footsteps was the direction from which they were approaching. Someone was coming from the outside of the alley. Not just one, a few. Nothing more than a whim. I decided to stay perched for a few moments, and as those figures turned the corner, I instantly felt validated in my decision. In came Yi. Expected, sure, but the expression on his face immediately set off alarm bells in my head. This wasn't anything you should feel happy about attending. It certainly wasn't one you should flash a grin as soon as you see the scene. Nervousness would imply the most appropriate expression, or the very least caution. That alone, however, wasn't enough to warrant suspicion. What really tipped me over the edge was the company Yi had brought along. There was left a man lumbered behind him. What, 7 feet? It certainly felt that way. He had both grimace and a scar plastered across his face, and it was hard to tell which was more threatening. And he wore a dark gray trench coat with a number of questionable stains. Geez, right, a heavy-set man followed his lead with a much more pep in his step. His outfit was simply garish. He wore a bright yellow overcoat with a fedora which was 2 sizes way too small for his bald head. In contrast to the giant, his expression matched Yi's. The group seemed to collectively recoil as the three approached. Krish, as usual, didn't share the group's sentiments. Hey Yi, glad you could make it. I'm glad I came here, buddy. Yeah, I'm happy you came with. I'm happy to come. Great. Awesome. Gotta say, a little late though. Oh, a little late or a little early. Get what I'm saying? Oh, haha, not really, but again, when do I? You got that right. If surrounding context wasn't screaming otherwise, you would almost mistake this from amicable meeting between friends. Well, glad you're here. With this, we can really get the meeting starting, right? That's what I'm here about. Krish, you moron. Are you really not going to question the 2 guys brought with him? I wanted to shout at him. Given the situation, I felt compromising my position would not be ideal. Luckily, there's at least one sensible person among the crowd. White hair will go around and Krish whispers something to them. A look of understanding crossed over Krish's face and they nodded the girl. Right. So Yi, can't believe my manners. Who are the 2 guests you've decided to bring here? Oh, these 2 do not mind them. Ah, well, kinda have to a little bit. Fair enough. These 2 are some buddies I thought could be useful to the cause. So they're friends of yours. Exactly. Cool, cool. Except, forgive me if I'm wrong, aren't they Dua members? Acting surprised, he looked at his reverend right, as though examining the men beside him. Oh, I do believe you might be right there, Krish. Friends from work, you could say. Are they also fed up? Well, why don't we ask them? Say, Zauchi, are getting tired of working for the Duats? The shorter man put on a similarly glib tone. You know, I think I am. Great. May I ask what ended up being the tipping point to you? The injustice of all? How unfairly they treat their members? Dental. Dental? Yeah, they don't cover dental work. I mean, what self-respecting organization can't cover such basics? It's frickin' outrage, I'm telling you. Indeed, no, they did actually say frickin'. That wasn't me. He had doing my usual flowery version of things to avoid, avoid algorithm problems. Indeed, it's pretty unbelievable. Although I guess now that we're a couple hours in, it wouldn't matter. But yeah, he does actually say frickin', which is weird because he didn't hesitate to swear in the other storyline. That does sound pretty bad. Krish turned to the giant. What about you? What's your reason for joining? Ah, yes, Fang. What really grinds your gears about the Duats? For a moment, the giant simply stood there. Then with a sigh, he spoke in a loud growl. I dislike these new restrictions coming from the higher-ups. Hey, bureaucracy, who needs it? Particularly low with this new talk of necessary restraint to engaging beatdowns. It really hampers my ability to do my job. Yeah, sounds like a good kind of thing. I'm gonna be honest, I can't say I share your love for reasons turning against the Duats, nor do I love yours. Huh. Oh, we do need all the help we can get, but like morally speaking, it's cool to team up. Is it cool to team up with someone like this? Never discourage anyone who continually makes progress, no matter how slow. Another quote from Plato. Surely his presence is a step in the right direction. There's also the argument that the motives and outcomes of actions shouldn't really be factored in when questioning something's morality. Well, remember, situations where the enemy of my enemy is my friend is not actually true. And of course, this is, of course, judging from the other story, I'm still pretty confident Yi's trying to get everyone to join so that he can forcibly overtake it over for himself. Especially since we now know that all three members are doing their own thing, with Thane being a bit of a wild card because we know the truth that he somehow gets replaced, but we don't know where in the timeline that story takes place, so we don't know if this is before or after, though I'm willing to place this one before. It's too ambiguous and subjective. The wise man lets go of all results, whether good or bad, and is focused on the action alone. That quote comes from Bogavad, who argues on paying attention to what is evident. If Fang helps the good cause, then you should focus on that. No, I guess that all makes sense. Alright, welcome to the group, Fang. Fang stayed in his silence. Smart. Interesting. These two have appeared in other storylines, but this is the only time they've had portraits yet. Smartly, many among the gathered group have begun to have doubts of the current arrangements. Some began looking around for possible means of egress, and that search began making their way to the other side of the alley. While the dialogue with Krish had distracted him somewhat, Yi noticed these deserters, and it looked as though he was none too happy with what he was seeing. Solemnly put his fingers in his mouth. Then, the swallow in volume, he put up a high-pitched whistle. All paused for a moment, curious to see what he was doing. And that answer became painfully obvious as the door further down the alley swung open. From an insidious-looking in a shop, two more figures stepped out of the daylight. Damn, this location was set up from day one. The two figures walked out were equally threatening with intruders. As a man and woman both looked similar. Siblings, if I had to guess. They both wore frankly offensive amount of camo gear and denim. Neither looked happy to be here, but this time it wasn't their expressionless gaze that gave off a threatening vibe. It was their weapons. One had a metal bat draped above her shoulder. The man boasted metal knuckles and each of fists. It had become clear this wasn't going to be a peaceful meeting. Although it appeared as though Yi was somewhat content with keeping the friendly song and dance up for a little longer. Alright, I should probably introduce these two as well. Gia Zia, say hi. The girl spat on the ground. Yeah, you piece of shit. You gotta stop yanking us around for grunt work. You know how long we were waiting in there? Annoyed, the guy turned to Gia and smacked her in the shoulder. She winced in pain. Can it, numbnuts. That's your superior officer talking about. Enraged, Gia turned back around and swung her bat into Zia's stomach. Idiot. That fucking hurt, you know? Gia coughed. The swing clearly took something out of him. Bet you seriously can handle a little hit on the shoulder. You're wearing fucking iron knuckles. That's, they okay? Oh, them. Pay them no mind. They're always like this. Really? Pretty much. If that being the case, I'm surprised one of them hasn't off the other. It's a real wonder, isn't it? Honestly, I wonder why I keep them around. Well, they're amusing enough. That counts for a lot. Not unlike you, Krish. Thanks. You're welcome. That wasn't a compliment, Krish. Get your damn head in the game. Luckily, even Krish wasn't blind enough to see the obvious problem these two posed. Yi, I don't want to sound accusatory or anything. You do, Krish. You really do. It's accusatory, right? It is. Yes, that's proper. Good, good. I don't want to be accusatory or anything, but I have to ask, why do your friends there have weapons? It's a dangerous world, Krish. Lots of dangerous people. Not wrong. So, maybe they just have that stuff to try and make themselves feel safer. You're not going to infringe on the natural right to bear arms, are you? Don't pull a La Follette on me, Krish. All I'm saying is this was supposed to be a peaceful meeting. Bring those sorts of things puts out, bad vibes, lowering people's trust. Your people don't trust us. Why, that is an issue. Trust the foundation of every healthy relationship. Exactly, exactly. But then why wouldn't you people trust us? What reason would you have to distrust us? Well, you guys are a member of Duat's. True, true. So then what would Duat's have against this sort of meeting? Krish, how painfully obvious is this dude gonna have to spell for you? It's a meeting that's against the Duat, so it makes sense if they'd be against it. Yes, yes, that makes sense. Behind him, Zoichi began snickering. So if a Duat member heard about a meeting of people opposed, what might they do? They'd probably come and ambush us. Right, right. Krish had circled around the issue for long enough. After enough time, there's no more benefit to doubt to be given. So then, everybody, let's start. First things first, you can all get on your knees. The moment those words his mouth, the alley dropped several degrees. This brewing tension had been spilled out, transforming to pure panic. The crowd bunch began nervously moving amongst themselves, not sure what to do. Everyone obviously wanted out, but where to go? On the backside of the alley, Gia and Zia stood firm. Their bickering had stopped, and now they firmly held their weapons. On the other side of the alley, Yi stood firm, backed by Fang and Zouchi. I did not know Zouchi had already stuffed one of his greasy palms in his pocket. I could pretty easily speculate why that was the case, so that was that. Front covered, back covered, like fish in the barrel. There seemingly wasn't any other option, but it didn't stop Krish. They stood tall and their expression warped to anger. What the hell, Yi? Fuck's up with this? I thought you were on my side. Why are you doing this? Doesn't make any slap. Sound of Yi's backhand swing across the side of Krish's face echoed throughout the alley. Broadcast of silence. Even Krish stood there, stunned what happened. They didn't know how to react. The stunned silence only lasted for a moment, though. Yi, what the hell are you? Slap. Once more, Yi backhand, this time with his other arm, and considerably increased amount of force. Krish falters, stumbling a few steps back. This time the silence lasted a bit longer. His fluctuated between fear and hatred. Once more, Yi watched out, but this time was a look of sympathy. Gently put his hand on Krish's shoulder. Krish, please, could you be understanding? If you get on your knees now, this whole thing can come and go real simply. I'm begging you, I don't want to have this again, not you. Krish didn't really know how to respond to this. After a few bewildered seconds, they complied, getting on their knees. Seeing Krish acquiesce, much of the group was still undecided and realized what needed to happen. Collectively, the whole group got on their knees. Excellent. See, that wasn't hard, was it? Then, a much quieter and gruffier voice, Yi barked an order. Check him for weapons. Bang nodded and stepped forward. Apparently, Yi hadn't needed to designate a task between him and Zouchi. Bang moved from person to person, doing a rough pat down. Many recoiled at the sight. None of the strength of will to do anything more than simply pull back, however. I'll let the man do his job. At one point, he stopped an older gentleman. He pulled out a pistol from the frightened man's pocket. The stern-faced look of the gun back at the man, then wordlessly flung the pistol down the hallway over the heads. With that, he returned to his job. In less time than be expected, he had checked everyone. Well, almost. He turned to Yi's side. Oh, brilliant. Yi then took a moment to clear his throat. He adjusted his tie, he slightly bounced forward on his heels. Clearly, he felt like he wasn't in any sort of rush, which normally was true. However, he had to count over one person, me. To be honest, I couldn't anticipate exactly what was going to happen, but I figured whatever it wasn't going to be good. What could I do? On my own, not a lot. Luckily, there was one force in the city meant to handle situations like this. Now, one could argue the fact this meeting was happening is exactly a testament that wasn't exactly an ideal The said force wasn't exactly an ideal choice. Well, beggars can't be choosers. There's limits to incompetence. The Duats might be brazen, but they can't just do whatever they please. When the police arrived, they'd scatter. It was just a matter of calling them. In silence I could, I slid the phone, hyper aware that even the slightest noise would draw attention my way, dooming the whole enterprise. So even though my progress was painfully slow was necessary, it's better to be a bit slower here than draw attention my way. Soon enough, I had the phone to the side of my head, put the phone on vibrate, the volume was cranked down, and 911. Faint vibrate, and I clutched the phone tight, putting a speaker to my ear. Then, hello, I reached the Penthora Police Department. Instantly, in a faint whisper as I could manage, I began describing the situation. I gave them the address, emphasized how urgent the situation was. Before things could go wrong, I hung up. Okay. Looking down, Yi had become his dumb shit monologue. No one noticed me. Now it was just a matter of stalling until help arrived. I could definitely do something towards that end, but right now I was the ace up Krish's sleeve. I didn't know how much time I could realistically buy. So to make the most use of me, I need to wait till the last possible moment. For now, I just wait and listen. So it's come to my attention some of you have, well, let's call them concerns, the Duats of late. And you know what? That's fair. That's on us. It's only natural an organization as broad and long-lasting as Duats would have an occasional issue or two. And see, you might see us as an enemy, but that's not how I see it at all. The Duats are as much the proper part of Panthea as anything else. We're made up of Pantheans. We're reliant on Pantheans. The city may be hostile, but I don't think that's the right approach to take. I think the Duats serve a very symbiotic relationship with the city. We need the city running well to survive, and in that turn, we do our jobs and we do them well. So as senior officer, I'm very concerned with maintaining a solid relationship, which is why I gathered everyone here together. You guys wanted to revolutionize the Duats? Well, I'm all ears. Behind Yi, Zoichi was stifling out a chuckle. So let's hear it, people. The Duat suggestion box is open, the form of yours truly. If you have a problem with the way we're running things, speak up. We'll be sure to hear you. We'll be sure to address the problem. Almost as if to emphasize the point of dark irony, Fang began cracking his knuckles. Predictably, no one had the guts to raise their hand in the air and grievances. Besides Krish, most of the people here are good at reading between the lines. This was a hollow, almost mocking gesture. Still, he stood there eagerly for someone to speak up. When it became clear as no one going to, begin to click his tongue. Nobody, really. Not one of you has any complaints. Another pause. Gee, are you hearing this? All these people? Not one of them's got any complaints for us. It's incredible, right? I know for sure I got some complaints. He's asking the people now, Gia. Yeah, I got that. See, even Gia here has her grievances. None of you have anything to say. Last chance, standing right in front of you. More silence. Well, that's that, I suppose. Clapped his hand as though the matter had been settled. As though anything's been settled. Boy, so many of you came here to take down the Duats, and yet not one of you could vocalize your issues. Gotta say, I find that a little peculiar. It's got me scratching my head as why you were so incensed against us in the first place. Well, if none of you caught for reasons, I can only assume you guys don't have any legitimate complaints to file. Instead, you're maliciously teaming us up against us for, I don't know, half-hearted grudge. That doesn't sound very fair. People are gonna squirm. Which brings us to our next order of business. You walked over and approached Krish. They couldn't bear to make eye contact with Yi. He smiled and leaned down and yanked the file of evidence. Let's talk about your plans to take down the Duats. Let me guess, you want to try putting us in jail? Makes sense, right? That's what you do with criminals in a just society. Going against the Duats seems like a pretty sensible method, yeah? Surely this big old file is plenty of stuff that would lock away some. Hell, if someone were to record all this, maybe they couldn't even lock me up. Corruption can only get you so far. Latent crime just can't get far. So then, you think that file's meaningful? Before waiting for a response, Yi haphazardly flung into a nearby trash can. Then he snapped his fingers. Like an automated golem, he moved at Yi's command. He lumbered over, took out a lighter, and tossed it in. Instant flames rose out. The group recoiled. All that work, all that evidence, but given the circumstances, perhaps that was the least of their worries. Afraid to say you couldn't be more wrong. Now I'm just aware as the next person of what was in there has backups. That's fire, it's just symbolic. Saying what we should do with the evidence, because guess what? If you throw me in jail, hell, if you threw all of us here in jail, you wouldn't accomplish jack shit. Because right after that, the next in line would just round you up all like now. Except that person would resolve things with just talking. They'd silence you in a more permanent manner. He's let that silence linger in the air. He wanted everyone to digest it. This was a big point he was trying to make. Throwing individuals in jail, yes, that might have worked with the Duats in the past. That'd work with a lot of smaller gangs, but you're too late for that. The Duats are too big for that. There isn't some key point you could strike down to collapse anything. There isn't a heart you can stab, a head you can slice off. The Duats are a shadow, massively all-consuming blob that does whatever it wants. It is incredibly cruel towards those who get in its way. And the whole whooping from Zuchi. Look, you're looking, I'll look him in scared faces, but you should be thanking your lucky stars I'm the one standing in front of you. I'm a sucker among the Duats, I'm soft. If there's anyone else, who's to say? For instance, there's this new up-and-coming senior officer in the Duats. Name's Lara, a real uppity bitch. She's looking to make a mark on the world, cement her place. And being the sadist, I'm sure Marduk would really appreciate a group slaughter of those plotting against him. Immediately unrest on the captives of the situation. Hey, relax, relax. This is why you should be grateful I'm standing here. I trust all of you. I believe in your ability to think logically. I'm perfectly sure you'll all be able to get the message from this little warning we've gathered, right? The sprint nodding swept across the crowd. Krish, I noticed, refrained from this. Right. He leisurely took a few steps back. You know, I really am sympathetic to your plight. I get frustration at the Duats, but there's some sensitivities in life you have to make peace with and accept. Going against the Duats is something people like you are incapable of. That's it, huh? Anger bringing his eyes fresh. Krish stood up. Duats are just too big and bad and scary to be dealt with just because they're scary or too afraid to stand up to them. That's bullshit, Mr. Yi, and you know it. Yi took a step back with surprise. He looked temporary lost for words. Krish took advantage to continue the crusade. You were asking complaints? Well, I've got some. How about the Duats been running small business in the ground? Somehow, don't target those in power. They target those without it. Where's the justice in that? Where's the hurting people just to make a living? What about my forcing my father to close down, forcing me into poverty? You say the Duats have a symbiotic relationship, and I said it's bullshit. What do you give us? Protection? Yeah. It's not like how you extort people for protection money. You know who that's protection against? It's against fucking you. And that ain't the protection means. Have you all opened a dictionary? And I know you know this, Mr. Yi. I know you better than this. You've always talked about doing the right things. Where the fuck's all that talk now? Now that it's needed. Don't give me some pussy excuse about Duats being unbeatable. That's baby talk and you know it. Give me a straight up answer like, the hell have you become? What the hell have you done? At this point, Krish was standing mere inches from Yi's face. Krish's fists were balled so tight they might hurt themselves. Krish, you idiot. Oh, Krish, I already gave you time to make your complaints. You should have spoken up then. In a motion, he punched Krish in the gut. He fell to one knee, clearly stunned. However, the stun didn't last long. Krish began to step and huff. Once more, it's not like he was winding his punches up, yet you could hear the impact from here. He didn't look that strong, but clearly I was mistaken. Indeed, perhaps I was overly idealistically imagined things could be resolved with speech alone. Alas, the philosopher in me gets the better of me once more. On one knee, Krish glared with an expression of longer anger but profound sadness. Come on then, get up. Sadness replaced the confusion of these words. Still, he complied, not entirely sure what the point of it was. The point was abundantly clear once again. He struck him in the gut. This cried out audible pain. This bastard, keep it cool. It's still mild enough. It could get worse. Don't get overeager. Krish was now nursing the spot where this struck the hands. Okay, get up. Get up. For a moment, Krish was kneeled down, unsure what to do. Eventually, though, they conceded and began staying up. Once more, he punched him in the straight of the stomach. Barely any time passed between Krish falling down and Yi's next predictable command. Get up. And the surprisingly mundane cycle repeated. It was very simple. Someone stood up and then punched in the gut. Repeat. By the look of Krish's face, you couldn't argue with its effectiveness. Get up. I can't. Oh, I know you, Krish. You've always been remarkably strong in spirit. Hey, that's why you were able to call here in the first place. Here, let me help you. He leaned in and helped them to their feet. Took a step back and slammed Krish in the gut once more. And then, right as soon as Krish got off the floor, he began to help them to their feet once more. Oh, don't look at me like that, Krish. I know I said this before, but you should be thanking me right now. Standard protocol for Dwat torture should be a lot rougher than this. Usually it's something scarring, something with a lasting effect, like breaking your arm. Some have really nasty ways of doing it. Ever see one of those devices they clamp to your finger and it drills under your fingernails? Truly revolting. It makes my stomach heave. In comparison, this is good, incredibly light. Just getting punched in the gut a few times. Most people go through something like this at some point in their life. Without another word, he slammed Krish in the gut. His point was thoroughly made. Barely anybody in the crowd could even stand to look at the spectacle. Even though Zauchi was beginning to wince at the display. Though conversely, a slight grin started to go on Fang's face. Anyways, Yi made himself perfectly clear, and yet... somehow I don't think you're getting the message from just this. I am, you are? You sure? I am. Krish couldn't manage to maintain eye contact, probably because they were lying. He was right. Something this light wouldn't change Krish. Only reason Krish wasn't fighting back is all the potential collateral damage sitting around them. Well, if you say so. What the hell, one more for good measure. He sighed and got to their feet once more. Now, let's give her the old rope and dope. Yi began winding up and then released one final brutal swing right into his stomach. They were completely knocked to their feet and crashed. A certain dark green notebook came flying out of Krish's back pocket. Oh no. He looked at this notebook with some interest. Fuck. Oh, what do we have here? Don't touch that. Krish caught up, but it was too late. Eudor picked up and began rifling through with interest. I see. This is your little ideas journal, huh? For stories and things you wish to write. Come on, speak, will you? Yes. I see. He nonchalantly flipped through the pages. Interesting stuff here. Nothing usable, but interesting. You really tend to be a writer, like you want that to be your job. I do. He answered this with much more conviction. Wrong choice. Well, it's no damn good at all, is it? I mean, put the practicalities of the market aside and look at yourself, Krish. Really look at yourself. Stop it. I really do believe you've got greatness. Krish, I really do believe you have goodness inside of you. Problem is, I've never been too much of an Aristotelian. I'm a believer in the theory of forms, you see. Everyone should strive for the excellence in the field they're meant to. And striving for forms you aren't goes against the natural order. Waste of talent, waste of time. I knew it was about to happen. I readied myself, and then I waited. With a sad sigh, he tossed the journal in a nearby trash fire. Panicked Krish jumped out to save it, but Yi was prepared. Kicked the gun, Krish was back on their knees. The journal meant a lot to him, and I could have saved it if I had acted, but Thinking about logically, that journal wasn't worth as much. A collection of written ideas. It wasn't worth compromising my position for something like that. No, in a matter of life and death. I admire the guts, wanting something like that. Trust me, I've been there, done that. Didn't work. Oh, yeah. He is very frustrated because he's reminded at the time he attempted his dream and it got crushed, and that's why he, maybe in his own twisted way, he really does think he's doing Krish a favor by denying him his dream before he's wasted, quote-unquote, wasted most of his life on it. That I'm actually willing to believe is genuine from Yi. But look, from one piece of sewer trash to another, take my advice, stay in your lane. A journal, complete waste, a siren song. And hey, I read through a bunch of that. Nothing of value was lost. Crack. Krish had enough. In a rage, I struck out, landing a straight point to Yi's jaw. Yi was sitting reeling by the blow. Ah! He began rubbing his face. The blow landed. Oh, Krish, you little shit. You really shouldn't have. I'm doing you a favor. I'm being generous to all of you. Yi was now bellowing, looking at the whole group. The first time, Yi was blatantly irritated. For a moment, it looked like he was going to go in a frenzy. Instead, Yi took a breath, and just like that, he recomposed himself. Ah, that's the way it goes, isn't it? Naive Yi. Think of Carlin's rule. Imagine the average person realized half the population is stupider than that. From the start, I need a better example, and with that, Yi reached behind him to reach a flat wooden stick being tucked in his pants behind his jacket. With a spare hand, Yi unsheathed the stick to reveal this was no mere wooden block, but a short iron sword. Or an oversized knife, to be honest. So everyone, you know Krish here. He's a pretty bright young lad, but he's painfully stupid, and he just volunteered to be an example. It's just what Duats can get away with. I stalled for as long as possible. Letting things proceed without my intervention, we were getting into serious repercussion territory. Currently, I posed the element surprise. What to do with it? Thinking carefully, there was a clear target I needed to take out first. Earlier, Zochi had his hand in the pocket. Looking at the bulge, I'm pretty sure I knew what he was carrying. Best on the person with the gun at the start. I'll just skip the action minigame. I had to make sure my attack landed true. A falling attack? I slammed Zochi with a falling strike. The moment of my fall hurt a bit, but hurt that guy a hell of a lot more. Zochi was clearly not a fighter, and with this attack, he crumpled like a bag of bricks, but I couldn't let up, not for a second. Elma's surprise didn't last long. Next bigot, the Goliath. I kept my mind up and charged right Goliath. Like a bullet, I shot at him. Once I got in range, I jumped and struck him with all my force. Did a bit of damage, but not enough. Man flinched only temporarily, then he geared up for a counter. The frightening speed and competence, the Goliath swung at me with his left arm. That moment I ducked under, getting a nearby discarded trash can lid. Right as the arm passed by, I jumped up and slammed the slide into the side of his head. The man flinched and lowered response to attack, giving me the opportunity to lift the lid and slam it like an axe. That one landed, causing him to stumble back, but even with that monster blow, I was experienced enough to know he was far from defeated. This guy would take all my attention. Best to first deal with the two looming figures, regaining their senses every second. I rushed towards them, making my way past the civilians on the floor. As I charged Zia, he raided an attack at me. He tried throwing a right hook at my charging figure. However, he mistimed it. Right before I got into range, I paused, but Zia took the swing anyways. Now off kilter, I rushed forward and slammed him in the gut with the right side. Then I pushed past him, hoping to make an attack on his sister, but of course the sister was ready for me. She swung the metal bat from the upper quadrant, meaning the blow would land on the lower right. I ducked over the left, and the weapon barely missed the side of my head. Instead of considering how close I just came to imminent death, I punched Chia squarely in the side of the chest. With this moment of opportunity, I continued giving a straight punch to the nose. She stumbled backwards, but heard a sound from behind. Zia had recovered, ready to strike back. No sooner had I noticed this, Gia stepped forward, ready to strike at me again. Rock in a hard place. Zia, strangely enough, was going for an uppercut. Gia was going to swing her bat. In a brilliant instant, I realized what I had to do. Nothing! Well, not quite true. I moved out of the way of the incoming attacks. In the center, where I once stood, Gia's bat connected with Zia's fist. Zia held in play and Gia recoiled, realizing what she'd done. That recoil was all I needed. Jump and kick Gia right in the stomach. I pushed off her body, using the momentum to punch Zia's face. I didn't stop moving in the direction after it connected, however. Instead, I charged straight past at Fang. At this point, the man fully recovered, making his way to deal with me. I couldn't have that. With this many opponents, I need to stay on the offensive, making them react to me. Fang saw, perhaps expected, my charge and prepared to retaliate. His arm outstretched wide, prepared to grab me the moment I was within range. Oh, there wasn't a good counterattack. Anything I could do, this man would take in stride and proceed to restrain me. Meanwhile, in the corner of my eye, I noticed Zochi, the one with the gun, fumbling something in his pocket. I didn't have the time to tango with Fang. I leaped low past him, avoiding his attempt to grab me. I almost lost my footing in this maneuver, but persisted in my run. Zoich noticed my charge. I was a single yelp and put up his arms to try and block. He braced for a punch, but I didn't throw a punch. I just slammed in with the full weight of my body. This completely broke his guard, and after I took a step back, the kick I sent at his head connected easily. I could have easily continued to blow this punching bag, but I noticed a bigger problem. So I turned around, sure enough, right in front of me, Fang stood, fist clenched. To my right, Gia and Zia were just as close, both aiming to take a swing at me. Zochi on my left would only stay stunned for so long. Shit, too many enemies, too many possible attacks. What to do? My brain was in overdrive. Too many opponents, too many factors. Need an out, but where? There, between Fang and Zia, there's enough space. I launched my body into a low dive, got through the opening while avoiding the attacks of both parties. I kept running a few more feet before reaching the alley's other wall. I came to a running turn, but at this point I faced the very familiar sight. Fang was on me, Zia right behind him. Gia was flanking my left to the right, Zochi was still fumbling with his gun. She'd have to deal with that. I'm starting to feel a little fatigued, but I was far from out of the fight. What's the next thing I should? That is enough. Suddenly Yi shouted out, catching everybody's attention. Damn, I forgot about him. Had his blade around the neck of the white-haired girl, as sound whispering to Krish earlier. She was understandably frightened. Impressive show, Hoodie, but I think that Free to put that to rest, or else there's going to be more examples than necessary to get the point across. I grimaced. This was bad. Honestly, that was quite a display. Golf claps all around, but I'd wager you're an experienced enough fighter to know you're picking a losing battle. Why don't you spare my men some dignity and just call it quits here? Keep roughing them up and you're going to start giving them self-esteem issues. I wanted to argue back, but the truth of the matter was Yi was correct. I was surrounded by experienced armed thugs. The element of surprise propelled me for a while, but they'd all come back to their senses. Frankly, I doubt I could take down Goliath in a one-on-one setting. Factor in the fat bastard and the Wonder Twins yipping on my heels. I have no chance. As Yi already pointed out, unintended casualties were too risky a factor. Only he, the sheep here would do something. If any of them had been paying attention, they'd remember that a pistol was flung over Ji and Zia's heads earlier. With those two out of the way and Xochi unarmed, getting your hands on that pistol would be instant control of the situation. Or hell, just run away, get out of here. This was a problem that what Krish's plan was facing from the beginning. It relied on bringing a bunch of people together. People lose their efficiency in a group. They don't gain it. Most people are smart. Most persons are smart. People are dumb as hell. Better to handle things yourself or employ others intelligently. That's beside the point. Fact of the matter is, I lost. Game over. Reluctantly, I got on my knees. He smirked. Well, looks like we should have been paying more attention to the new guy in town after all. So then, just then he paused, because he heard what we all heard, the faint sound of approaching siren. In an instant, I could feel the fear they all began to have, the fear in my gut dissipate. Thank God, I'd stretched just enough time to save our asses. This is why you need to be smart when deploying your trump cards. Sometimes we really do need all the utility you can squeeze out of a situation before you can bring them in. While Christian and the others looked relieved, Yi looked incredibly frustrated. For a moment, he paced nervously and threw up his hands in defeat. Fine, you guys have clearly gotten the point. I think this little demonstration made crystal clear this whole endeavor was a dumb idea. Listen, we all know your faces, we know your names. Don't start shit. Keep your head low, and all of us will be doing just fine. Now scram. Yi brushed his hand away, shooing the crowd down the alleyway. As he did this, his members reluctantly made their way to the door Ji and Zia had been waiting in earlier. Many of the gathered crowd didn't need to hear Yi's advice twice. They scurried away, certain to never cross the Duats again. However, very few were unsure what to do and just stood there dazed. Some of them stood there dazed. Hold on, what should we be thinking? We're all the victims in all this. The cops are on our side. There's no need to run. We should stay. This is an opportune chance. At this, Yi scowled. However, before he could speak up, I did. Drop it, Krish. They're saving our asses. We'll call that a win. For real? Krish looked confused, a little hurt by my suggestion. I was just being practical. Yi made a big deal out how this ought to strike back, and we didn't know who or how many were coming to our aid. At the very least, I doubt saying much would do us much good. It had the potential to just get us in more shit. The tactical thing to do was just flee. Well, you heard what your friend said, Krish. Scram. Krish hesitated but began begrudgingly jogging down the alley, and with them, the rest of the group followed. He gave me a curt nod and then began to walk towards the door as he fled me to, which means he wasn't looking at me. I told the others to get out of here, but I didn't say anything about what I'd be doing. As quiet as I could, I scaled the exact same drain pipe and settled on the exact same scaffolding. You might think it was dumb to pull the exact same move twice in a row, but that's probably why they wouldn't expect me to do that. Maybe. Worst comes to worst, from my position, I scanned the surroundings. Sure enough, there was a nearby fire escape I could jump to. I could use that to make my escape and could easily get away risk-free. Yeah, it was worth the risk to start spying. After frankly far too long, I saw a police officer coming down the alley. They likely parked nearby. There's a balding, slightly fidgety man. Seth. He walked down the alleyway at a brisk pace, using his right hand to clearly pace atop his holster. Further down the alley stole Yi. He nonchalantly leaned against the door his comrades exited through it, as a bold move, staying around, but perhaps an understandable one. Was the standard procedure? So, Yi, funny to see you here. A pleasure, Seth. You know, I'm not here just for fun. There was a police call to report. Said there was a major situation, a big incident of gang violence. A big beatdown. Oh, sounds positively dreadful. Yeah, sounds a little far-fetched, but hearing about gang violence is sent to check it out. So then you wouldn't happen to know anything about this report, would you? I figure I would. You would? And why is that? Why, because I was inciting the gang violence. Inciting? Well, that's just not good at all. Did you know that's a crime? Is it? It is. Which means my job to haul you to the station. The two stared at each other for a beat. Then, without looking behind him, he knocked on the door. Coast clear, boys. I knew it. They all made their way back into the alley. Seth didn't look particularly troubled by this until Zoid getting in his face. The fuck, Seth? You totally friggin' ruined everything. We're in the middle of our shit, and then you came here. We totally had to break it up. You're practically interfering with official Dua business. Seth's gaze dropped down. Oh dear. I'm sorry about that, really. I hate to offend. If there's anything I could do. He was saying this, nervously put his hand on Zoichi's shoulder. Then, in the middle of a sentence, Seth pulled down hard on the back of Zoichi's neck and lifted his left knee with a fury. Seth made contact, putting a narrowly blow on Zoichi. Immediately, he covered his nose with his hand, tried to soften the pain. However, just as soon as he did that, Seth also covered Zao's face with his hand, pushing him back. Zoichi stumbled over and landed right in his back. You're seriously pinning this on me, dipshit? How the fuck was I supposed to know what the hell was going on? You should be thanking your lucky stars I was able to get clearance to handle the report. And you know how long does it take for you guys to do your damn jobs? I took so many detours on my way here, it took me twice as long to arrive than it would for any standard officer. He put his hands up diplomatically. Oh, relax. Nobody here's trying to criticize you, you're doing fine. Ignore Zhao over there, he's a dipshit. Zhao didn't look too pleased to be both injured and insulted in such a short time, but is all sure going to bring that up now. Honestly, I feel as though you guys don't appreciate the risks I'm taking. So much of your shit I gotta deal with. You're appreciated. Everyone appreciates you. Hey, Seth, you're doing great. He held out a thumbs up. Oh, bite me. Well, if it hadn't been clear beforehand, that little conversation was the final nail. Seth was as dirty as they come, and a duat agent in the police force. Shifty little shit. Still, this was really a blessing. They clearly didn't realize I was here. So if I get a recording of this conversation, I patted my pocket and instantly a bolt of horror. Where's my phone? I looked around the scaffolding. Saw it. Oh, you have to be kidding with me. Lying face down the alley, I spotted my phone. It must have fallen in my pocket during the brawl. Oh, gum. Well, that's not even a little bit funny. Whatever, even though I couldn't get proof, I could sell for info. At this point, it was really annoying. So I couldn't help but notice you guys were already roughed up before I got here. What's that about? Ah, that. To be honest, it was a complete blindside. There's a newcomer in town. Came for the save. Newcomer? I mean, I have to assume. I never got a great look at him, with a hoodie and fighting whatnot, but those arm tattoos, they're distinctive. They're black and swirly. Ring any bells? Well, someone in a hoodie with arm tattoos. Yeah, funny enough, that's not ringing any bells. Alright, smartass, I get it. He took a cigarette out of his pocket and held out Fang. Fang took his lighter and lit it for Yi. Ah, okay then. Guess I'll have to look into our Mr. Guest myself, and then, depending on what I figure out, I suppose I'll handle it. Please don't tell me what I don't need to know. Hey, I'm not saying anything specific. In all seriousness, can you just, find someone like that? It's a small city. The Duats have eyes more places than you think. Might take a bit, but you can't hide for long. And unfortunately, it's a really sick profession you dabble in. Oh, think you're much better? Not talking about morals or anything, I'm talking about having the stomach for it. I mean, to do what you do. Pretty sure I'd get stomach ulcers. Yeah, well, you're you. No, I think most people without a craving for violence react similarly. No, I do really think it's a you thing. Whatever. Look, think about it like this. To even get here, I had to pretty brutally betray the trust of someone who looked up to me. And you know how much guilt I felt doing that? None. Not an ounce. Easy. Have to keep my composure. So when you put it in that context, breaking a few bones, whatever, child's play. Well, I guess. Was it worth it? Mind if you didn't break things up so quickly. I told you. Easy, I'm just messing with you. You really are wound up like a screw, huh? Tighter. 3 guesses why. Uh-huh. Anyway, I think for the most part the point was made. People by and large take the easy way out. That is, unless they're spurred into action. And that's where I have my concerns. You're talking about Krish? Been a minute or so since anyone since year Seth spoke up, but Tajia Yi nodded. Kid's got real spirit, and I mean that. The type that can cause a problem, and at that moment, Krish certainly has a motive in the fire to cause trouble. I guess it's my duty to get a handle on that before it spirals to anything else. To start with, I need to actually find the brat. And then, I don't know, I'm hoping Krish will listen to reason. Could be a useful addition to the roster, some with that many ties to Panthea's community. Do you think Krish is likely to flip? At this, Yi took a real pause. He took a long puff from his cigarette, and then he dropped it on the ground, put out with his foot. Suppose not. Alright, guess we're gotta kill him. Feel my heart sink. A shame, proper shame, I'm telling you, but that's just how it goes. So you're looking for Krish to be dealt with. Feels like that's what has to happen. Alright, I know of Krish. If it's necessary, I could make a mistake. Loud and clear. Good to know you're on our side, although you'd have to be pretty lucky to stumble on Krish before our guys do. Well, right, that's for the best too. Don't want to deal with little shit if I don't have to. The group of bastards continued to talk, but at this point it was all getting drowned out by the buzzing in my ear. This was going to be difficult to navigate. Once again, the cops have to come in and be a buzzkill, and just when things were getting good. Lame. Fuck you, Seth, you ruined a perfectly good show. Well, it was nice while it lasted. Had all the key elements to create great stories. Tension, drama, tragedy, intimidation, torture, That's fantastic. I love the looking on it. You did too, right? Well, it was kind of nasty. Really? Who are you kidding? And of course, Vels enjoyed the scene, right? I mean, if you didn't enjoy the scene, you had the opportunity to drop down and break it up. I imagine you would, right? Even there was a logical reason, just there watching everything unfold. Well, either you didn't mind or you're seeing, or you're too much a sociopath. Well, I guess I can't clown on Vels too much, though. After all, the method worked out. He's quite the cool criminal, it appears. Speaking of, look, if you take him at his words, maybe you could make the argument that he's in some way doing this for Krish. But come on. I'm fucked up, and even I won't make the argument you can justify putting a hit out on someone for their own good. So I guess I give you the win on this bet. Honestly, maybe it was a little easy. Yi was obviously pretty sketchy. Well, having a few easy ones to start out with was fine. It won't get any easier from here. Regardless, Vels has bigger problems than you. Or rather, I'd say Krish has bigger problems, pursued by the Duats and the cops. Now there's a noose closing in around the neck, whether they like it or not. I wonder if Vels will be able to save them. I wonder if Vels will choose to save them, especially if it comes at a cost. Guess we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, it's, while I thought maybe he really was... Well, I'm willing to give Yi enough slack that he might have been genuinely trying to help Krish by breaking his spirit so that he wouldn't go into the same hellhole that led Yi to become a Duat's member in the first place. Because remember, he told Thane that he did cost him his true dream, even if he has a new one now. His true dream was always the one that crashed and burned. It's obvious he doesn't care enough anymore. It was only a surface level thing, and he doesn't care about it anymore. We've actually been through quite a few plot revelations. Feeling a bit tired, so I'm going to... Okay, one more. But only one more, and then I'll call stream. The kicker. How much longer do we have to stay here? Just saying there's but so long I could look at the same clothes. I gave it an honest try. Don't say that I didn't, but I kind of feel like I want to stick my own fashion. I mean, I picked it for a reason, you know? I like what I wear. Even if I was to pick something different out, sure shit wouldn't be from a common brand store like this. All the shit here is totally white bread, boring. Anyways, my point is I've looked over everything they have here like 10 or 20 times. It's old, it's boring, I'm bored. You don't really point out we're not doing this for fun. We're doing this because there's a gang of violent, very resourceful criminals looking out to find and murder you. We're laying low. Fair, but if our plan is to lay low in a random store, couldn't we lay low in other places too, like a movie theater? No one's gonna look around an active movie. Not if they don't want to be booed. Ah, yes, booing, the ever-effective gang repellent. I'm just saying it's dark, crowded, a good place to hide, and it'd be way more interesting. We'd have to buy tickets, that leaves a trace, and given the current state of things, I think we should consider keeping our money a priority. Fine, movie theater off the table, but it's gotta be other places more interesting than this. And to get to them, that requires us leaving the store we're in right now, which means we could be seen, which means we could get caught. I'm not gonna risk our safety to go out in the open just because you have the attention span of a child. Hey, you don't have to be a dick about this. You're talking about not arousing suspicion. But I'd say just standing around the back of stores not buying anything is going to raise eyebrows. From who? The minimum wage employees? The old manager that looks like they're begging and clinging to life? I'd be surprised if they can even see us from this distance. Hey, don't say shit like that. Respect your elders. I didn't have it in me to argue his point. We're staying here. Fine. Christian sat down with a surprising amount of sass. By that I mean I previously didn't think you could sit down with sass. I stood corrected. For my part, I just held back a sigh. I couldn't exactly blame Krish for acting out. Rather than straight out panic, which would be reasonable enough reaction to everything going on. After Yee's goons scattered, I left my hiding spot, grabbed my phone, and contacted Krish. They needed to know what was going on immediately. Two of us met up close by, and in person I described everything I saw. They had a hard time deciphering it all, particularly the bit about Yee ordering their death, but they also didn't doubt I was telling the truth. If they were on their own, they probably would have just moped around stunned for a bit. They might have even decided to confront Yee, though I'd have to think even they weren't that dumb. It was clear I had to step up. First things first, we need to get out of sight. I don't know how quickly the Duats are going to act on the whole kill order thing, but I had to assume the worst. The Duats have a lot of members, and exponentially more agents willing to give them information. As Krish just demonstrated, they were a reasonably known entity in Panthea. They certainly stood out. It wouldn't be long to locate them. We decided to rush over and hide to a random clothing store. It seemed like a good place to lie low. It was unlikely the Duats would think to look here. It seemed like the type of place our information network would regularly hang out. However, this was far from a permanent solution. I knew that. Krish knew that. Neither of us wanted to state it aloud, but it had to be discussed. There wasn't some nightmare we'd wake out of. We had to make an active move to prevent this. Alright, we need to think long-term. Long-term? Or at least stay long-term. Where are we going to spend the night? Sleeping on the streets is ill-advised. Yeah, Duats will definitely find us there. Oh, my pop's place is absolutely out. Not only would we be expecting that, I have no intention of getting him remotely involved in any of this. Going there would expose him to danger. I agree, that's a bad idea. So about your place? I guess I should have... This also reminds me, I guess this means I should... My first thought that maybe Seth couldn't be trusted was maybe a bit unfair, and that I should have just assumed he was worried about the other... Yeah, I guess my initial hunch was right after all. Well, that's the thing. When you go through a story like this, your thoughts and speculations will change as things go along. We need a better solution. Alright, well how about a hotel? There's a bunch of places for visitors to stay around Panthea. We should reserve a room. I got the cash. Well, again, Krish, still thinking about where we're going to go. After the usual suspects come up empty, but officers will be interviewing just about every hotel owner in the city. It might work, but it's too high risk. Break into some place maybe? There's gotta be some abandoned apartments or out. Is there something? We could take over one of those. Do I need to explain why that won't work? Well, I don't see you suggesting any bright ideas. I'm the one who's doing all the work right now. All my ideas suck. Why don't you speak up? I think you should flee the city. What? That's... Krish, I know you love Panthea, but it's not safe for you anymore. So you're just saying just completely bail? How do you think this is going to play out? You got dozens of people out there right now looking to murder you. You're a target, Krish. There's a hit out for you. You think that's just going to go away? You think life can return to normal after this? Damn it, this is do or die. You can't die, so you have to do. I know, Man... Krish could barely face me. Yeah, I was starting to sink in. Krish was scared. I couldn't blame them. It was a pretty fucked up situation. Sorry. What? I'm sorry. I'm responsible for getting sucked into all this. You're right. You warned me about this activism. You told me not to trust Yi, but I wouldn't listen. I just had to stick my head where it didn't belong. And once again, dumb Krish ruins everything. But this time you're involved, and now things are fucked in a way that can't be walked back. Krish was on the verge of tears. The taxi won't cost much to get to the city borders. Due to tension of rival gangs, I'm pretty sure Duat's influence are pretty squarely stuck in Panthea. Like you said, there's always hotels. We'll find a place out there. After that, we can work things out. It's gonna be alright, Krish. We just need to be smart. Stick with me and we'll survive. Save Els? Yes. You watched the whole thing with Yi, right? And you called the cops early on. Yeah, I told you all this. So you were ready to jump in and save all of us, right? Waiting for the right time to fight back. That's why I jumped to save when your life was in danger. Oh, right. But does that mean you could have jumped in when my journal was about to fire? What's he getting at? I could have. I also could have jumped down and getting the shit kicked out of you by Yi. Oh, right. It's just, you know how much that journal meant to me, Vels. How much I cared about it. And it fucking sucked when Yi tossed in the fire. He's an asshole for that, because your life wasn't at stake. I couldn't risk exposing my position yet. Krish, every second I could delay my attack was a second gain for us. I didn't know how long it would take for the police to get there. My decision was correct if you remember. I could only hold Yi's goons off but for so long. When the police arrived, Yi had just regained control of the situation. Had I jumped in earlier, the situation would have continued. Is that what you wanted to have happen? No, of course not. You're absolutely right, Vels. You did the rational thing. You were correct. I sensed there was something lying beneath those words. I also sensed I probably didn't like whatever's beneath them. I was already in confrontational mood, so I'd have in mind to push the issue. However, at this opportune and perhaps inopportune moment, something caught my eye. Someone had entered the shop, and judging by who walking directly towards this very moment, I guess it wasn't for clothes. Krish also realized the approaching presence assumed like a fighting stance, but the person before us wasn't some duat agent, or would be assailant. It was a younger woman wearing a punk rock outfit, hair dyed bright pink. As she laid her eyes on us, she was very unassuming. Hey, what are you doing here? She just looked over us, bored. She didn't even bother saying anything. Speak up. Krish's shouting began drawing something of a scene. I thought I was about taking over negotiation, but it started to open my mouth and close again. No. Not gonna say anything? Alright, I get it. Put him up. Krish went casually on guard, a straight-up combative one. Krish, I'll have you know I'm a world-class fighter. My friend ain't no slouch either, plus it's 2 versus 1. You're gonna start a fight in the middle of a store like this? That's your play? Good question, Nakara. Given the gathered employees looking at us, that probably wasn't the best of ideas. Unhappy, Krish relaxed some. An awkward pause between the three of us. Well, the two of you are done being proper idiots. Shall we get going? We know Kara dies is at some point in the story. It's entirely possible Krish is the other one that was in the boat. Unfortunately, we know everyone that was on that boat except for Mercury ends up dead, except for Thane. The hell do you mean? There's not a chance in hell we're going anywhere with you. Alright, then fine with me. If you want to stay here and get murdered by the Duats, there's no skin off my back. Just thought I'd give you the option. After saying all that matter-of-factly, she turned to me and began walking away without so much of a glance back. Unorthodox to be sure, an awkward glance between Krish and myself. We both seemed to be weighing our options, trying to understand the situation. But ultimately, there wasn't much of a choice. Given how dire things were, Krish was willing to take any thread of hope tossed their way, no matter how tenuous. Hey, wait. Krish called out and Kara gracefully stopped in her tracks. Well, we'll go with you. For a minute, Kara just looked at us, saying nothing, and then she resumed walking out the store. Brilliant. Awkwardly, the two of us followed her out. I was certain Krish didn't have the faintest idea what was happening. Their mind was probably racing right now. I say that with an air of superiority, but being honest, the situation was pretty much in total mystery to me as well. I guess the only option was to see how things played out. Parked right outside the store was a flashy-looking red sports car. Whoa. When I was skint, I was always envied people with nice cars like this. Now that I've got some cash to my name, I figure why not grab one for myself. Without any more explanation, Kara circled the car and got into the driver's seat. Meanwhile, Krish and I awkwardly made our way to the back seat. We buckled up and Kara pulled out the street. This was really bizarre. There was no good reason why Kara wasn't explaining shit to us. I just had hoped this was some quirk of her personality. We drove in silence. Kara zoomed through the Panthea streets. In an odd stroke of luck, we weren't running into any red lights. The whole experience felt off, but not in a bad way. It just sort of felt unreal, like we were in a trance or dream. Good change of pace from the very real situation we were in not minutes before. Krish fidgeted around the seat. They were very clearly uneasy with the setup. Looked as though the trance thing was more of a me thing. Oh well, for my part, I passively looked out at Panthea streets. For as long as I've lived here, I've so rarely just actually looked around. A couple shops, some elaborate graffiti. Oh, and there's Olimpo's main office building. A little extravagant, but you couldn't deny its charm. There's some more buildings. You know, I always questioned why Krish seemed so infatuated with this place, but for this one drive, I could kind of see their point. There was actually something beautiful about this place, underneath all the crime, conspiracy, and whatnot. I could actually imagine some less informed citizens blissfully unaware of the other side of Panthea who legitimately thought the city was idyllic. I could really only envy them. So it's a bit awkward, huh? Krish, in place of admiring the scenery, had been growing increasingly uncomfortable with the silence. To try and break it, they spoke up. How so? I mean, it's just us sitting in silence. You don't find that awkward? Not particularly. I don't mind a bit of banter with friends, but seeing as how I don't have either of you two forcing us to chat just seems like a bit of a pain, you feel me? Well, if we were talking, might as well breach the topic I want to bring up. You're right, excuse me? You have to speak up, May. I can barely hear you. You're right, you don't know either of us. So that raises some questions. Finally get around this, huh? How'd you find us? Went into the store, you clearly knew we were there, but I thought we covered our traces rather well. Clearly not well enough. Yeah, about that. See, one of my friends was at your guys' little dumbass gathering. After that went to shit, she was kind enough to give me a call with all the deets. Once I finished laughing my ass off, figured this was as good an opportunity as I was going to get. Obviously, you two were toast angering the Duats like that. You're not answering the question. How'd you find us? Alright, kept one on the wheel, and with the other, she thumbed back at Krish. Your friend here has a phone on him. Wait, seriously? I looked over at Krish in anger. You didn't think to tell me this? You didn't ask. Why does it matter? Yeah, I might want to toss that out pretty soon. If I can use it to track in nitwits, the Duats will be on that soon enough. Yeah, Krish, throw it out of the car right now. What? This thing's fucking expensive. Not the point. There are memories on this thing. They're on the cloud. Throw it away, Krish. He looked at me with fear. Christian thrown away, I would. Accepting defeat, they rolled out and tossed the phone out. They're happy. Well, that definitely wasn't the ideal way to dispose of the phone, but I guess it'll work well enough. Okay, could we quit focusing on it? You're using some sort of super hacker, and you found me through my phone. Got it. Super hacker is overselling it. Just a bit of light hacking. You haven't really answered my question, though. No? Thought it was pretty clear how I found you. Okay, that question, sure. My main point is you have a lot to explain. Yeah, you're right. I explain now. Or we can bring the car to a stop parking lot. Or we could just get here, and then things will make sense then. I knew where you were. We were by the entrance of the forest. Things are getting weirder and weirder. Who's up for a little walk? Better not be a long one. Relax, the place we're going is real close by. After my fight, I wasn't exactly in the mood for a walk, but we've come this far. So Christian and I, with no real context or say, followed Kara deeper in the forest, walking the beaten trail. Lucky for us, Kara wasn't lying. It wasn't long until we took to offshoot of the main path. Once we were better at that, we could see a large house in the clearing. What could bear the size of some of the buildings, it wasn't really that big considering, but there's nothing to slouch at. This is where we're heading? Behold, my friends, this is the estate of the late Veronica Collins. Since she's passed, my boss has been renting it. It's our base of operations. Your boss? Instead of responding, Kara kept walking towards the house. It was becoming clear this was something of a theme with her. Well, when we were this close, it's better to just walk a couple more feet and press the issue. If I was probably going to get up in arms about waiting for answers, it would probably have happened before now. Instead of approaching the front, we circled around the back where the garage was. Kara took out a small remote and pressed a button. Just like that, the garage door opened. Actually, what was a house like this doing with a garage? Was there a car parked in here? I doubted it. I knew there were in fact roads that cars could drive in the forest, but I didn't see any leading to this house. And as the garage opened, my suspicions were confirmed. No cars. Has this house been here so long, there used to be an opening for cars to drive out of, and the trees have grown over that area? Or is it just an oversight when building the house? Or is it an opening for a car planned? This was perhaps not the detail to get caught up in, considering Polly Dysma was the man standing inside the garage, but I had a tendency to get caught up in minor details. Anyways, Polly, that was the thing. My boss. Krish's demeanor notably changed. Oh, so you actually brought them here? It doubted me? No, of course not. I've been taught my lesson one too many times for that. I'm just surprised they came so willingly. Yeah, well, if I knew who I was visiting, I wouldn't come so willingly. Seems like you got something of a grudge against me. Krish, please remember, tenuous situation, tread carefully. Of course I fucking do. Oh, damn it. Why'd I be happy to visit fucking Dysma? Your company's been killing Panthea. Yeah, you know what, that's pretty valid. Huh? I mean, if I were you, I'd probably hate me too, but I'm not a bad guy, trust me. Hang with me for a bit and you can see I'm not like my family. Is that so? Well, I'd like to think that. This wasn't the time for this sort of chat. Well, I still want an explanation. Ooh, ditto, huh? An explanation. I like being in the loop a lot. Wait, you don't know what we're doing here? I mean, I got the general gist of it, sorta. Being real with you, I didn't realize it was a conversation I had to pay attention to until halfway through. Krish nodded sagely as if he understood this practice. I'm pretty sure even from the start, I was only getting the basic rundown. That's because I only had a basic rundown. Kara turned towards us. Care to tell the story about yourselves? Well, so we just spill everything like that? Krish. I gave him a determined look. This wasn't the place to fight. I got in the vibe we wanted to be winning points with Polly right now, so just gave him the rundown. Krish evaluated this. They clearly didn't like the idea, but also trusted my judgment more than they trusted their own at this point. Alright, I mean, it's not a very long story. There's this guy, Mr. Yi. I sort of, looked up to him, trusted him. He was a Duat member, but he told me he wanted out of the business. I gathered a bunch of people who were fed up with the Duats, and we met to talk about ways of resisting the gang. But the whole time, it was a trap. Mr. Yi brought his henchmen, they surrounded us and threatened us and beat me up. Then they punched him. Vel's here had to punch a bunch of his guys. The cops show up, and we scattered. Vel stuck around, overheard the Duats put out a hit on the two of us, so we had to flee. So now we're on the run because they're trying to kill us. And that's it. Wow, that's... Polly seemed at a loss for words. Wait, so a Duat member told you to gather a bunch of people, had expressly anti-Duat sentiments. That didn't seem, I know, a little dodgy to you? It did. I exchanged a car, sort of mutual understanding passed between us, like we got in the vibe we were actually in a weird way in pretty similar situations. Well, that really fucking sucks, guys. I don't know what to say. You're just trying to do the right thing as those bastards. God, I still don't understand why the Duats aren't just in jail. Like they're criminals, for God's sakes. Aren't jails for holding those? I don't get it. Yeah, you and the rest of us. Man, just hearing that got me fired up. Alright, it's decided. You two are being hunted by the Duats? Right. Okay, you can stay here. What? Are you serious? Why do you think I brought you all the way here? I don't know, because I thought we were getting killed or something. And you entered the car. You were intimidating. And Vales did it, so I thought there was a plan or something. Hold on a minute, I've got a number of questions. Please ask what you want. This is too good. First of all, is this actually safe? The Duats are really good at finding people. They'll be searching all over. The last thing I want is for us to feel safe staying in this random house in the middle of the forest just to kill in the middle of the night by a particular set of particularly intelligent Duat members. That wouldn't look good for any of us. Oh yeah, shit, that'd be bad, huh? But I mean, they need to know you're here, right? I don't think that should be possible. I mean, you guys were smart enough to ditch anything that could be tracked, right? It could mean like their games wanted to see. Like, it's not like there's any connection between me and the two of you. The only people who know about you two being here are the four of us currently in this room. You guys obviously aren't gonna tell. I'm not gonna tell. We can absolutely trust Kara to keep a secret. So yeah, this should be good. Oh, you're right. We don't have to leave Panthe after all. Of course, there needs to be some ground rules. Let's be clear, if the Duats find out that Polly's sheltering you two, that's gonna fuck us all. We cannot get cocky about this. That means until further notice you aren't allowed to leave the house without getting approval. We wouldn't want you to be spotted by an odd informant. Fine by me. I mean, not fine, but I can swing it. Also, this should go without saying, but no phones. You'll just have to use technology readily available in the house, which shouldn't be a problem since there's a frankly offensive amount of it here. Hey, what'd I say? This is why you get spares. When guests come over, suddenly you're the host of the most. That's Kara rubbed her temples. The universe literally put out a hit on 2 kids in a situation that crop up that vindicates your argument. The universe literally put out a hit on 2 kids just so a situation could crop up that vindicates your argument. You really are fucking main character of life or whatever. Oh, don't say that. I don't buy it. The statement came with a surprise with everybody else in the room. I thought it was pretty reasonable. Oh, what do you mean? I mean, just happened to give us refuge from a dangerous gang that would have killed us on a whim? I guess I don't buy it. I have the space, why not put it to a good cause? Get a little karma on the side. Okay, but Kara mentioned earlier that we were brought here for a specific reason. That would be to save you. Kara's a very generous person, I'll have you know. Fine, so you're saying you're just gonna let us stay here basically as refugees with no catch? Yes. Well, damn it. Look, I'm not asking you to do anything. Actually, I'm not joking about that. If everything goes fine, if everything goes the way I hope, then literally you have no obligations living here. But, I'd for my friend, you two are pretty good at fighting. There's a significant amount of fighting skill between the 2 of us, yes? Hell yeah. I suspected Krish hadn't noticed my choice of wording. And that's not a qualification. I'd feel more safe if a pair of capable hands were sleeping in the same house as Polly. Huh? I'm confused. Let me try and explain. So as you know, my father's Odin Daisma, my brother Art currently is the CEO of Olimpo. And I know he's really not that bad a guy. He needs to loosen up more, but he could stand to go out to a party now and then. He just needs to loosen up more, sure. Could really stand to go out to a party now and then, see the world. But he's really smart, always has been. He's a lot more thoughtful and caring than he lets on. Like he never admitted, but he actually looks out for you if you're close to him. We'll give him a lot of shit, but he never lets you get to him. But, buddy, the way he's running Olimpo can't be tolerated. It's unforgivable. My father's a complete immoral bastard. From birth, we were taught that we were only of value if we get results, and the only way to get results was to play dirty. Art always took Odin's lessons to heart. Maybe being the oldest sibling made him think he had something to prove. That's why he ended up inheriting the company. Well, given his general competence, maybe he would have anyways. Whether it's Odin influence or not, the point is he can't be allowed to continue running Olimpo like he's been, which is why Polly's going to be challenging for control of the company. I really don't want to lock horns with him like this, but it honestly has to be done. And you want us here to make sure nothing happens to Polly, right? Wait, hold on, am I getting this right? Are you saying that you think your own brother might try to do something to you? No, he wouldn't. He would. And I want you to make sure he doesn't succeed. If that's the case, why not straight up hire bodyguards? They do a job better than us, you clearly have resources for it. All traditional avenues of hiring bodyguards would probably be detected by Art. Bodyguards that are paid to protect can be paid to defect. But from what little I know, I doubt you two would turn. And if Art doesn't know about your presence, chances are anybody you'd send wouldn't either. You can't downplay the element of surprise. Understood. I think that all makes sense to me. At first I was kind of skeptical of the proposal, but the story they gave check out. All parties benefited. Honestly, for Krish, this was probably the best way out. It was a gift practically handed to them. But they didn't look particularly happy, though. In fact, they were bordering on pissed. So basically, you're using us pawns in your war with your brother over power, and that's pretty much it. Typical. Makes a lot more sense you're doing this out of some sense of altruism. Tell me this, why should we be backing you in this war in the first place? Maybe your brother's doing some messed up stuff, but what assurance do I have you won't be just as bad? At least Art's a good business owner, but all I've heard about you is you like to act like a drunk asshole. Oh hell, Krish. Time and place. Oi! How gives you the right to act like that? You were a dead meat, Paul. He hears out to me a chance to save yourself on a silver platter and you treat him like that. Why don't I just throw you out? Relax, Kara. Paul had a smile, but there's a bit of sadness to it. He's got every right to react like this. I go by they, them. Sorry, they've got every right. Oh, Polly's actually quite respectful about that. Look at it from their perspective. Why would they trust me? You heard him. I'm a drunken asshole. Look, you don't have to support me. Honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. At this point, you can stay here if you want regardless. Knowing what I know, I can't exactly kick you out and expect to sleep well tonight. I thought you ought to know the dangers the option would have. You don't have any obligation to actually try and protect me or something. I glanced over to Krish. Their expression was conflicted. They might need a bit of a push. If you don't mind, Polly, would you mind explaining why you think the company would be in better hands if you were in charge? Why I deserve it, huh? That's the wrong question. I just want it out of my brother's hands. They don't deserve anything at all. I've had a pretty easy life. I mean, my dad's an asshole, but whose isn't? Sure, I deal with some abuse on that front, but it was a small trade-off for living a lavish lifestyle. I was never good at school. Couldn't apply myself right. Never good enough for Odin. Never got stupid games. Pretty worthless kid. It was a bit of what I wanted to keep up with Art. But after the umpteenth lecture from Odin, I finally realized I wasn't on the same level as him. I couldn't keep up no matter how hard. If I try, I used my wealth to play around, skipped school, got in trouble, met girls, did what I want. Would have probably flunked were it not for my father's influence. Eventually, I became an adult, got a job at my father's company. Hated it. You know, I almost considered quitting it. I was given a super high-paying, low-effort job without any of the qualifications I needed for it. I almost quit out of spite. But I was given a bit too dependent on my lifestyle. I kept doing what I had always done. Having fun, shirking responsibility, it's really easy to fall into habits, especially habits developed over years. Having fun started taking a new definition. Getting drunk, getting in scandals, doing stuff like that. Yeah, that stuff isn't excusable. I mean, fuck, you've seen the headlines. DUIs, assault, sexual harassment. I still think that last one was actually bullshit, but I'm not gonna get into that. It was very, very bad. I was told I was a disgrace to my family, but that just encouraged me. Fuck my own family. Yeah. Odin always talked about being brutal, but he never had the balls to actually cut me off. If you met me from even a year ago, I'd honestly say stick with art. You'd be in better hands. And then, really as more of a joke than anything, I decided to start working with a bunch of lowest level employees. It was pretty eye-opening. I mean, I literally had never done a hard day's work in my life. I was pretty awful those entry-level jobs, but my coworkers didn't complain. When Odin heard what I was doing, he got upset, or he just thought I wouldn't stick with it more than a day or two. Both responses kept me motivated to go out longer. The more time I spent there, actually trying to do my best, the more perspective I started to get. Odin always talked about how different jobs were for different sorts of people, as if being an executive was more noble or some shit, but that's total horseshit. The more I worked there, the more unfair shit I noticed, shit that I was surprised people actually had to deal with on a day-to-day basis. The more I talked with those workers, the more I realized how absolutely entitled I'd lived my life. How I'd been throwing away opportunities by acting like an ass. How my whole way of thinking, I've been thinking for years, it was all bullshit. Since then, I've been trying to change how I live, to become a better person. Can't say I've gotten there yet, but at the very least, if I was in control of Olimpo, I'd listen to my employees, unlike art. I'd focus less on making our company bigger, and making it better. True, if it wasn't obvious before, or Olimpo may be growing on the outside, but it's rotting from within. Nah. Odin's philosophy seems to be causing it to collapse from within, and if that happens, the whole thing is gonna come crashing down. When I went with Kara, she convinced me the best way to use my privileged lot in life is to take power and do good with it, so that's what I'm doing. I want to quit the whole drunk entitled asshole thing as well. Is that so? Okay, the gala was a one-time thing, but I had a good reason. And the night at the casino, work in progress. Like I said, I'm work in progress. Let's try to get a finished state before you take over the company, okay? Kara sighed and turned back to the two of us. I don't blame you if you weren't terribly convinced by that story. Polly acted like an asshole for a lot longer in it than he didn't. Let me just say this, Polly Diesma is a good person. He has his struggles and his issues, lots and lots of issues, but fundamentally he's a nice person. I've worked with the company long enough to say this. Even back when he was more of an asshole, he was never malicious. I noticed him stand up for people when he saw shit going down. He was always quick to do favors for people, or give a compliment, or worry over somebody in the trouble. I saw scenes like this all the time, and I also saw him change. He's been taking genuine strides and trying to educate himself and do better. Might sound like a bare minimum, but I think someone who has absolutely no need to actually dedicating themselves to getting better at doing entry-level work is noble in every way. More than anything, he's aware of himself now, which is the biggest thing, but even if he's become more aware, he hasn't really changed. He's always been good at heart. Incredibly entitled, perhaps. Stupid, impulsive, incompetent, unaware of the actual consequences of his actions or his real place in life, but good. To be honest, even though she was clearly legitimately trusted like Polly, that wasn't really a ringing endorsement to me. I had no doubt Polly was nice. That doesn't really matter much. A lot of horrible people can be genuinely nice. However, it wasn't me that needed those words to reach, it was Krish. You know, whenever I heard your name, I just always thought you were some corporate asshole, but now that I've heard your story, I feel really dumb judging without ever meeting you. I mean, going from entitled prick to ally of the people, that's like super impressive. It reminds me of something Mr. Yi once told me. Something like for most people, once they're walking down a path, it takes incredible strength of will to change it. I think I butchered that quote, but my point is, I think the fact you're able to look at yourself and realize that you weren't happy with who you are is super inspiring. Alright, I'm on board. If you need a bodyguard, my friend, you have a bodyguard. Hell yeah! Polly let out a hand and Krish slapped it hard. They changed their tune fast. I can say I was overly surprised at the outcome. Here's to a beautiful new alliance, I guess. Well, good to hear that's sorted out. So you're two okay with backing Polly in the bid for Olimpo? I have no problem with it. To be honest, I don't care much about personal journeys or emotional growth. From what I've heard, most people in charge would be an improvement over the current management. And more to the point, Krish needs a place to stay. Having to hide out is the #1 priority. A very straightforward mindset. I'm a pretty straightforward person. I can respect that. Awesome, so I guess things are settled. You two are staying here from now on. Hell yeah. Guess we'll be roommates for a while, Vels. Hold on a minute. I let it get too far. There wasn't a better time to bring it up, though. This wasn't going to go over well, but yeah, there's no getting over it. I couldn't stay here. Fortunately, I can't stay here. What? I'm confused. Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful for the offer. Krish should absolutely take it, and like I said, I'm willing to back you and struggle with your brother for control of the company. If you need me to do something, just ask and I'll help. I'll try to spend a lot of time here as well, but I can't spend the night here. Seriously? I thought the point was you guys didn't have a place to go. Krish doesn't have a place to go. I do. How exactly does that work? Trust me, the Duats don't know the first place to look for me. I overheard them. I'm a non-entity in their eyes. They're completely unaware of my identity. And from what little they do know, it'll be hard to track me down. And if they see you walking around, they only know to recognize me because of my red hoodie and arm tattoos. If I put on a different coat, one with longer sleeves, I'm confident they won't even be able to realize it's me. Plus, I'm not really the target. I mean, they want to kill us both, but they just called me an issue. Krish is the target. It's safer for me. I guess I just don't get why you don't want to stay here. You have a problem with me? It's nothing like that. I just have things to attend to. Hey, fuck that. Krish been holding their tongue, hearing me out, but that only lasted so long. You have a place to stay and you didn't mention that before? It still wouldn't be safe for you. What the hell's up with that? Is this about you never wanting to show me where you live? What on earth are you hiding? And what is that you have to do out there? Because sure as hell ain't a part-time job or anything. Knowing someone as logical as you would risk your life over that. What is it you have to do? We're supposed to be friends. We're in a life and death situation together, and yet you're still not telling me shit. What on earth's that about? Because Car and Polly are talking here? Fine, let's see the garage a minute. There's no need for that. Are we even friends? I think so. Well, I'm starting to have questions. You keep way too many secrets. I don't know what the shit you have to hide, but you don't have to hide it from me. You shouldn't have to. Sorry, Krish, but it was probably for the best I kept this to myself. It's not that I didn't trust you. It's better for both of us if we leave things like this. Yeah, Krish, I'm sure your friend here has good reason for keeping things. Polly was uncomfortable with the atmosphere we created. Well, I know, why don't I show you around the place? You're gonna love it. This place is top tier. It's got a huge kitchen, it's got a game room, the beds are awesome. If anything's not to your liking, just ask me and my credit card's at your disposal. I mean, you're gonna be staying here, it's only fair, so come on. Let's give you a little tour around. Yeah, okay, it's probably for the best. Awesome. First thing first, the library. Wait, you have a library in the house? Well, library might not be the right word for it. It's not like there's a librarian or a library card or anything, but it's a room with a lot of books. Really, what types? See for yourself. I haven't really gotten around to organizing them yet, so whatever order they're in is how the previous owner left them. Two walked out of the garage, Polly eager to get the tour started. I felt bad that was how I was leaving the conversation with Krish. I'd probably have to deal with that before too long. Later, I have time later. I turned to Kara. I wasn't quite done with our chat. So you plan to have Polly as CEO of Olimpo? That's the plan, at any rate. That's because you think you'd be a better boss than Art? Yeah. Why else would I do it? Being the head of Olimpo is very powerful. Dating the head of Olimpo would also make you pretty powerful yourself. Hey, we're not dating, alright? Get that idea out of your head right now. Sorry, my bad. I guess I misread the room. If you're insinuating I'm doing it for personal gain, you couldn't be more wrong. Okay, no need to be so defensive. It'd be a reasonable motivation. Well, it's not mine. Fair enough. Anyway, how do you actually intend to dethrone Art? He doesn't seem like the type to be content with losing his position as CEO. Well, for starters, Polly already has 20% stake in the company. Another 25% is distributed among the employees and like. I've been trying to consolidate all the spare stock. That leaves 55% of the share firmly in the hands of Odin and Art. So as long as the two remain a united front, this whole stock route seems like a dead end. We don't necessarily need Odin to flip, just sit out. You know, in Panthea, if a shareholders meeting is held and people with stock in the company don't show up, their stock doesn't count. If Odin abstained from a shareholder meeting, then you just need 30% to control 30%, 8% of the stock to make a company-wide change. Okay, but assume there's regulations where a shareholders meeting has to be planned out in advance and signed off on. You can't just spring one and try and sneak through a proposal, right? In that case, you need to get Odin to abstain from attending, which is basically the same thing as siding with Polly. So basically, you two don't have a real plan? Hey, we're in the planning stages. It's a project. Instead of pushing that angle, there's something else I wanted to ask. You heard about us from a friend, you said? Right. A friend of yours that attends what friend of yours attends an anti-Duat meeting for that? As a matter of fact, I have a number of activist friends. I wouldn't have thought that was a surprise to you. Say, we're on the topic of questioning each other. I've got some questions for you, Vels. I find it odd you feel so confident the Duats don't know anything about you. I overheard them say as much. Okay, and what exactly do you have to do so bad? I don't think you need to know that. Don't I? No. Whatever. Just don't screw me. Wouldn't dream of it. And with that, Kara returned and entered the house. With that, I turned and left the house. As I left, I made sure to know the exact location of this place. Would be good to know. I'd make sure to get in contact with Krish before too long. They weren't happy with me, but they'd get over it. I didn't like fighting with them, but it was inevitable. Polly's proposal might have solved the problem, but it wasn't a real solution. The Duats were still out for blood. As long as the root of our issues weren't addressed, Krish would still be in danger, unable to leave hiding. As far as I could tell, Polly's war with Art wasn't going to fix that at all, which meant the task fell to me. I didn't have an idea of how to make things right. Guess I just have to poke around. Quite inscrutable, that Vels. Lays things close to the chest. I mean, we're seeing through Vel's eyes, and even we're somewhat in the dark. Wild. Didn't you create all this, though? Now, let's not play the blame game. Sure, I present things in a way, but even still, I'm not going to hide or change anything major. You want to get mad at someone, Vel's the one not giving anything away in actions or thoughts. Alright. Good, glad we got this settled. Look, Vel's is akin to a black box. I should clarify. A black box of information is just a term for something where you can observe the input and output, but none of the internal processing. I suppose philosophically, the question is, does it matter what's inside? It should, right? That's our gut instinct. If what's inside the black box doesn't matter, then functionally, there's no difference between chatting with a real human or advanced artificial intelligence, right? Although I suppose some people would argue with that. Turing test, electric sheep, and all that. I hate sci-fi. Yeah, ironic, I suppose. We're wildly off track now. I actually like sci-fi a bit more than you'd think, given I've mostly been covering fantastical RPGs and stuff, but if a good sci-fi one cropped up on my radar, I wouldn't mind adding it to the list, but, well, I just take things as they go. We're wildly off track now. My point is that it's our gut instinct to think what's behind the black box that matters. Then again, I guess even the fact I like the Zero Escape, because that has a lot of decent bit of sci-fi to it. I mean, most of them take place in either the recent or near future, after all. Mostly. There's a few, but the timeline of, well, the timeline of that series is really out of whack. I can't really go into it right now without completely changing going too far off the subject, and that's a bit out of scope for this particular game, so let's stick to it. There are many black boxes in the universe. Every other human mind is a black box. If you want to get creepy existential with it, everything outside your brain's a black box. You can hope what you see and what you hear matches reality, but there's an awful lot of stories where that's not the case. So if the contents of the black box matter, you'll have to accept you'll never know an awful lot of things that matter on a rather large deal. Things that don't matter, a rather large deal. That's an uncomfortable thought. Maybe better to content yourself with the idea that only what is experienced matters. A more comforting option. Gosh, this is an awful long-winded way to say Vels and pretty mysterious, isn't it? But it's an important topic, I think. Some may view being content to not open the black box as sloth, a lack of ambition. Information is power, after all, but I disagree. Ignorance, too, can be quite a power. If you know what's inside, you can disconcern yourself with the inputs and outputs. I will definitely, at the very least, I will agree there's a time and place for everything. And sometimes it's important. Well, I would say that to, knowledge is a good thing to have. There's also a time when you want to focus on just the results, the facts, and worry about the fine details later. You can use a black box guilt-free. There's power in that, though only if you care about remaining human. Alrighty, and ooh, yet another one that's not locked. And of course, we have no idea how long these go. The way these cards are placed mirrors this, so this would imply that there's 7 chapters to each story. It could vary a bit, however. I mean, there was a potential bet that Mercury might not survive. We've passed the next 2 chapters here, which is definitely a possibility. And like I said, I have no guarantees regarding whether or not my choices are actually impacting the story. I mean, our host Ez here does directly say that all this has already happened and she's just presenting it, but... And I am willing to believe that, but at the same time, I haven't lost a bet yet, which does raise an eyebrow, and even if I lose a bet, it could simply be that the game is programmed to have things always go against whatever I wager on. But for now, I think we can go ahead and call the stream. Until next time, thank you for watching, hope you had a good time, and I'll see you later.